Chapter 336. Come out, Lin Muyu called out softly, and the golden god-binding chains emerged from her body and circled around her arm. The indestructible chains quickly absorbed the ironback bear's beast spirit. Lin Muyu stood guard at the side and took out the treasure-refining cauldron to capture the essence of the ironback bear's beast spirit. Only by refining this spirit core could the god-binding chains obtain new abilities. In less than 10 minutes, the god-binding chains shone brightly and became much sturdier. Its entire body glowed with a dazzling golden light, and a mysterious power flowed from the beast spirit into the god-binding chains. Inihai Lulu flew out and said with a smile, "Congratulations, big brother. The god-binding chains obtained the ironback bear's ability, Strength Enhancement." Strength Enhancement? Lin Muyu frowned. What's the use? Well, Lulu blinked and said with a smile, it can increase the power of the martial soul by about 5%. Big brother, do you think it's useful? Then it's very useful. Lin Muyu was grinning from ear to ear. For a cultivator, this 5% increase in power was very precious. Moreover, Lin Muyu was once a heavenly king in the game, so she naturally understood the principle of no small stream, no river. Many times, absolute power was formed by the accumulation of 5%. She mounted the horse and the god-binding chains returned to her body. She had already gradually fallen asleep. It had absorbed too much power and needed to digest and absorb it. This process could be completed in about 1 to 2 hours, so there was no hurry. Just as she was about to leave, she suddenly remembered something. She immediately dismounted and used the dragon spirit sword to dig out the ironback bear's spirit stones. They were all good stuff. Things were different now. When Lin Muyu entered the dragon-seeking forest, she always thought about the ecological balance. Now was a critical period, and every spirit stone could bring wealth. This wealth could be converted into power, status, and military strength. Don't underestimate a mere 2,000 fire-type spirit stone. If it was made into a weapon, it could be sold for around 10,000 Jianghu coins. This amount of money could be used to create 10 top-notch heavy cavalry. Over the next few days, Lin Muyu continued to roam the dragon-seeking forest. The god-binding chain's martial soul was also rapidly growing, obtaining 5 abilities in a row. It had now become a 6-layered god-binding chains, level 1 ability. Strength Strengthening increases the martial soul's power by 5%, originating from the 2000 fiery ironback bear. Level 2 ability. Rapid Breakthrough increases the martial soul's attack speed, originating from the 2400 swift wolf. Level 3 ability. Strength Strengthening increases the martial soul's power by 10%, originating from the 3200 ironback bear. Level 4 ability. Penetration increases the martial soul's power by 10%, originating from the 4000 pangolin. Level 5 ability. Strength Strengthening increases the martial soul's power by 20%, originating from the 4800 bloodthirsty tiger. Level 6 ability. Strength Strengthening increases the martial soul's power by 25%, originating from the 5400 umbrella dragon. These data were all provided by Lulu, the female elf official. As for whether it was reliable or not, no one knew. All in all, the 6-layered god-binding chains had already increased the martial soul's power by a terrifying 60%. This also meant that as long as Lin Muyu summoned the god-binding chains, the strength of his battle chi would increase by 60%. This was probably why the god-binding chains was ranked as a first-tier martial soul. Although no one knew whether the 60% increase was true or not, Lin Muyu could indeed feel the rapid increase in her cultivation. She had even killed the 5400 umbrella dragon in just 3 strikes. On the 8th day after entering the dragon-seeking forest, Lin Muyu was still roaming around. She looked at the 24 spirit stones in her heaven-earth pouch with a joyful smile. Although she was killing, these spirit stones could be used to forge a large number of excellent weapons. They could be sold for a large sum of money and make the Purple Flower Chamber of Commerce more competitive. The endless follow-up effects would be unpredictable. Beside the warhorse, Acatosaurus twisted its huge body and slowly followed Lin Muyu. Acatosaurus's mission this time was to devour the bodies of spiritual beasts. It had a huge appetite and looked as if it wanted to eat everything in the world. However, after Lin Muyu stopped it, the little dragon finally stopped eating spirit stones. After all, there was a limit to its absorption capacity. Eating too many spirit stones would be a waste. I wonder how Xiaoyin is doing in Lanyan City. Does she miss me? Lin Muyu thought to herself. Roar. Beside her, Acatosaurus swayed its huge tail as if it was responding to its master's thoughts. All of a sudden, Lin Muyu raised her head. A powerful aura was approaching from 3 kilometers away. It seemed seemed familiar. When it was about 2 kilometers away from her, the aura suddenly disappeared as if it had entered stealth mode. Heaven Beast. Lin Muyu's heart skipped a beat. She knew a powerful enemy was here. The Heaven Beast could turn invisible and hide its aura. This was the scariest thing about it. She was alone now, so it would be slightly difficult to deal with it. She looked at the surrounding terrain. It was spring and there was a large grassland on her right. She immediately came up with a plan. The Heaven Beast could turn invisible, but it couldn't fly. The grassland here was so dense. As long as the Heaven Beast came, it wouldn't be able to hide. He immediately dismounted and led the warhorse into the grassland. He picked up some dry firewood and quickly piled it up. He raised his palm, and the true dragon essence fire flew out to ignite the firewood. Then he took out the pear blossom spear from his Chengkuan bag and stabbed a skinned rabbit into the bonfire to roast. He put the dragon spirit sword aside and calmly waited for the delicious meal. However, Acatosaurus's acting was a bit clumsy. It actually crawled on the ground and looked into the distance. The red crystal scales all over its body slowly stood up. It looked like an angry cat that would go berserk at any time. Not long after, the grassland in the distance rustled and fell down. The Heaven Beast was here. Lin Muyu wasn't in a hurry to attack. When she was less than 20 meters away from the Heaven Beast, the golden gourd suddenly emitted a radiance. Swish, 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 swish. Golden gourd vines broke out of the ground and wrapped around the area. Instantly, the Heaven Beast's blood-red body appeared. With a furious roar, it swung its sharp claws and tore the gourd vines apart. Today's Lin Muyu was no longer the Lin Muyu of the past. His speed was even faster than the Heaven Beast. He rushed out with his right hand dragging the long sword and slashed down heavily. Bang! The sword slashed on the Heaven Beast's protective aura, but a bright light quickly separated from the sword and slashed down. Light-splitting slash. Roar! The Heaven Beast was injured immediately and couldn't hide anymore. At this time, Lin Muyu also saw the scales on the Heaven Beast's head. There were a total of 11 golden lines and 4 yin lines. It was an 11,400-year-old Heaven Beast. After all, it was a fierce beast. The moment its head was cut open, it tilted its body and swept its sharp claws toward Lin Muyu's abdomen. It wanted to instantly cut open the intestines of this cunning opponent, Lin Muyu. Unfortunately, Lin Muyu was far more cunning than the Heaven Beast imagined. The walls of the gourd quickly condensed in front of her chest. With the power of the battle armor, it was very powerful. With a bang, the Heaven Beast's sharp claws tore open the outer layer, but it couldn't hurt Lin Muyu at all. Instead, Lin Muyu borrowed the force to turn around and jump up. When she was in mid-air, the starlight in her left hand suddenly appeared and hit the Heaven Beast's head from above. Bang! Blood splattered and the Heaven Beast wailed. It opened its mouth and attacked with a golden light. This was a pure energy attack. Lin Muyu hurriedly opened her hands and condensed the strongest walls of the gourd to defend. Boom! The powerful impact forced him to take several steps back. The blood in his body surged and he felt a sweetness in his throat. Blood was already flowing out of the corner of his mouth, but he didn't retreat anymore. He gently raised his left hand, and the power of the galaxy surged and condensed into a 7-colored ribbon. This was a move condensed by the power of the stars in the universe. The second form of the star technique, star chain. The Heaven Beast didn't know what was going on. It didn't know how strong the power of the stars was. With a roar, it rushed forward, but in the next moment, it was bound by the star chain. The bright stars exploded violently, shattering the Heaven Beast's scales one by one. No matter how it struggled, it couldn't break free from this seemingly insignificant star chain. Lin Muyu didn't say anything. She gently stabbed her long sword and pierced the Heaven Beast's heart with a poochie sound. Roar, roar! As it wailed, the vicious beast slowly knelt on the ground, ending its sad life. This Heaven Beast had occupied this place for at least several thousand years and could be called the king of a region. Unfortunately, on the day Lin Muyu arrived, its reign also came to an end. Lin Muyu dug out the Heaven Beast's precious spirit stone and threw it directly into her Chengkuan bag. Then, she immediately summoned the God-binding chains and began to refine the Heaven Beast's beast spirit. The moment the God-binding chains broke out of the Heaven Beast's body, Lin Muyu could clearly feel the martial soul's emotions. The God-binding chains were excited. That's right, it was cheering excitedly. The Heaven Beast belonged to the light attribute and so did the God-binding chains. This 1,400-year-old Heaven Beast's beast spirit was simply a delicious meal for the 6 layers of the God-binding chains. In the next moment, a majestic and endless power poured into the God-binding chains. The refining process lasted for nearly an hour. When the Heaven Beast's beast spirit was completely refined, its body was almost finished by Acatosaurus. Acatosaurus, this big eater, was too strong. It ate everything, even a fierce beast like the Heaven Beast. Roar! Acatosaurus lay contentedly next to Lin Muyu and began to doze. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu summoned the God-binding chains. The 7 layers of the God-binding chains transformed into 7 golden chains that lingered around Lin Muyu as if they had a mind of their own. Lin Muyu could feel the rapid increase in the God-binding chain's power. After absorbing the Heaven Beast's beast spirit, the God-binding chain's power had skyrocketed. Big brother. Lulu flew out again and said with a smile, "Congratulations, big brother." This time the God-binding chains absorbed another power enhancement. It increased your martial soul's attack power by about 40%. That's so strong, Lin Muyu was overjoyed. According to Lulu, the 7 layers of the God-binding chains could increase her battle chi strength by about 100%. No wonder she could kill the powerful Heaven Beast with minimal damage. She couldn't help but be overjoyed. After returning to Lanyan City, she was a completely different person. Of course, she couldn't touch the God-binding chains lightly. Thinking about it carefully, Qin Lei's God-binding chains were also 7 layers, but its power definitely couldn't be compared to Lin Muyu's God-binding chains. Lin Muyu's 7 layers of God-binding chains had 7 abilities, while Qin Lei's only had 4. Furthermore, it wasn't necessarily a power enhancement ability. This was the disparity. Perhaps, if Qin Lei's God-binding chains had 2 more abilities, he wouldn't have died in battle. Chapter 337. On the 9th day after entering the dragon-seeking forest, Lin Muyu was already on her way back. However, she still hadn't found a suitable spirit beast to help her evolve the God-binding chains to the 8th level. Spirit beasts below 8,000 years old were too weak to be worth it, and spirit beasts above 8,000 years old were not easy to come by. She could only search slowly. Flap, flap, flap. In the air, the sound of flapping wings could be heard. It was a messenger bird that landed lightly on Lin Muyu's shoulder. She took out the letter and saw that it was from Qin Yin of the Zetian Palace. "You, Marquis Min Yulin, will return to Lanyan City in 3 days. You should come back early too. Xiaoyin misses you." Lin Muyu looked at the meaningful handwriting and couldn't help but feel warmth in her heart. She smiled. Beside her, the Acatosaurus seemed to understand its master's thoughts. It used its head to nudge Lin Muyu's leg, then rolled on the ground happily as if saying, "I miss Her Highness too." Lin Muyu looked at it in annoyance and smiled. "You only know how to eat. Hurry up and find a suitable spirit beast, or we won't be able to catch up to Min Yulin's expedition." The little dragon immediately looked at its master and stuck out its tongue, looking like a husky. On the way back, Lin Muyu spread the Spirit Pulse Technique's spiritual sense throughout the forest. When it was close to dusk, they unknowingly came to a barren area. There was not even a blade of grass growing nearby, not even a low-rank spirit beast. It seemed like everything had been eaten. Further ahead was a bare mountain top with burn marks. Another spirit beast with a long lifespan, or it wouldn't have caused such great damage. After tying up the warhorse, Lin Muyu carried the dragon spirit sword and walked over with the Acatosaurus. Not long after, a huge cave appeared in front of them. There was a raging fire inside, and it was obvious that a spirit beast was living inside. Lin Muyu quickly increased the strength of her battle energy. The golden gourd shone brightly on the surface of her body, and the 7 god-binding chains circled around her. She looked like a god of war. But at this moment, Acatosaurus suddenly crawled in front of its owner, shouting and wagging its tail as if it was saying something to Lin Muyu. A few seconds later, Lin Muyu understood that Acatosaurus was asking for a fight. It wanted to fight the owner of the cave alone. "Can you do it?" Lin Muyu asked with a smile. The little dragon whimpered. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws, looking very fierce. "All right then, don't force yourself. If you can't beat them, come back." Lin Muyu sheathed her sword, crossed her arms and leaned against a rock to watch the show. Roar! The owner of the cave finally came out. It was a ferocious beast covered in flames, and its body was covered with thorns. It looked like a hedgehog on fire. "Fire thorn beast, 10,000 years old, just right," Lin Muyu said lightly. Acatosaurus roared angrily and pounced forward. A 5,000-year-old sacred dragon challenging a 10,000-year-old fire thorn beast was quite brave. The fire thorn beast's attack method was very strange. It lowered its head and rushed forward, directly using the horn on its forehead to attack. However, with a ping sound, the horn hit the red crystal scale and actually broke off. The red crystal dragon's dragon aura burst forth, and it immediately raised its claws and bit down on its opponent's head. Pooh! The one who cried out in pain was Acatosaurus. Its mouth was full of thorns from the fire thorn beast and blood flowed freely. Roar! The fire thorn beast bit down on Acatosaurus's hind leg, and shook its head vigorously to tear it apart. At the same time the fire burned brightly, engulfing both the fire thorn beast and Acatosaurus. Lin Muyu wasn't worried about Acatosaurus at all. A true dragon wouldn't be afraid of ordinary fire, and the fire thorn beast's flames couldn't hurt it. Sure enough, just as Lin Muyu expected, the fire thorn beast rushed out of the flames while howling pitifully. Behind it, Acatosaurus bit its own tail, and the scales on its back stood up like blades. The invincible wind and fire wheels chased after the fire thorn beast, and directly ran over its body. Immediately, the scales pierced through the fire thorn beast's body, leaving behind a shocking wound. Roar! The fire thorn beast was, after all, a 10,000-year-old spirit beast, and its dignity couldn't be trampled on. But when it raised its head, what welcomed it was Acatosaurus's second wind and fire wheels, and another bloody wound appeared. After 7 or 8 consecutive wind and fire wheels, the fire thorn beast had already turned into a pile of meat paste. Lin Muyu was dumbstruck. When Acatosaurus became fierce, it was practically invincible. Walking forward, she dug out the fire thorn beast's spirit stones and threw them into her cosmos sack. Acatosaurus crawled to the side, its mouth wide open, and looked at its master with pleading eyes as it wagged its tail lightly. I told you not to show off, but you just had to pretend. Lin Muyu sat down and helped the fire thorn beast pull out the thorns in its mouth one by one. The little dragon placed its head on its master's lap, its expression extremely gentle. A few minutes later all the thorns were pulled out. Lin Muyu also began to refine and absorb the fire thorn beast's beast spirit. A 10,000-year-old fire thorn beast was enough for the god-binding chains to advance to the 8th layer. Hua! When the god-binding chains emerged from its body, strands of azure astral energy could be seen in the golden light. Lin Muyu couldn't help but be surprised. Had the god-binding chains mutated? It actually fused a portion of the astral energy in its body. How strange. However, it didn't seem to affect the strength of the martial soul. It didn't matter, it could be considered a special feature. His god-binding chains were finally different from Qin Yin's god-binding chains. Not long after, the tempering was completed, and the fire thorn beast once again bestowed him with the ability to strengthen his strength. However, this time it was only strengthened by 30%. Of course, this was still the data provided by Lulu. Lulu could turn this world into data. Lin Muyu relied heavily on Lulu's data, but he didn't completely rely on it. He knew that this was a real world and data couldn't represent everything. Many times, a single thought could determine victory or defeat. Looking at the time, he decided to hurry through the night and return to Lanyan City as soon as possible. He had been in the dragon-seeking forest for far too long, and he didn't know the current situation of Lanyan City. 3 days later he arrived at Lanyan City. Lin Muyu still looked the same. His cultivation didn't seem to have improved at all, and he still looked as lazy as ever. Of course, this was under the premise that he hid his god-binding chain's martial soul. He went straight to Zetian Palace. It was noon, and in the main hall, Qin Yin, Feng Jixing, Tang Lan, Su Muyun, and other important officials were still in the middle of the ceremony. A sand table was placed in the center of the main hall, and on it was a pile of the Empire's territory. Head Deacon Lin Muyu has arrived, an attendant shouted. Qin Yin immediately turned around to welcome him and said with a smile, "Big brother Yu, you're finally back. How's your cultivation going?" "It's going very well." Lin Muyu nodded and smiled. "Come, let me introduce you." Qin Yin took his hand and walked into the crowd. She said to a person wearing a general's armor, "This is the Divine Might Marquis Mingyulan. Marquis, this is one of the 4 heroes of Lanyan City, Lin Muyu." Mingyulan was a man around 50 years old. His eyes were bright and he seemed to be in high spirits. From his eyes, one could see that he was a rare general, completely different from those pampered nobles. Lin Muyu cupped his hands and said, "Greetings, Marquis." Old K also cupped his hands and said with a smile, "Greetings, head deacon of the temple." "All right, you're too polite. Let's get down to business." Su Muyun walked forward and lightly patted Lin Muyu's shoulder. "You, Marquis Wei's troops have already arrived at Lanyan City. In 3 days he will send 100,000 troops out of the Winter Ridge province. We're afraid that Marquis Wei won't be able to handle it alone, so Duke Lan and I have decided to have you take 1,000 troops from the temple to bring up the rear." "Take people from the temple?" Lin Muyu was stunned. Su Muyun smiled and said, "That's right. Aren't there training going on in the barracks behind the temple? Since these people from the temple are willing to serve the empire, we will naturally give them a chance. But these people have never participated in a real battle before. They are all new recruits. Wouldn't they just be throwing their lives away?" Lin Muyu said. "So." Su Muyun smiled lightly, "So you will be responsible for escorting the rations and follow the army. Your first position will be the army's rations officer." On the side, Feng Jixing was stunned. "Duke Yun, we didn't discuss about letting you be the rations officer? Let's take it one step at a time." Su Muyun twirled his beard and smiled. "The rations are the foundation of the three armies. Once it is disturbed, it will affect the morale of the three armies. Therefore, the rations officer is very important. We need a commander who has both ability and integrity. Who else is more suitable than you?" Tang Lan said, "You, other than the 1,000 temple soldiers you will lead, there are also 2,000 people from the spiritual fire department who will follow the rations team. They will all be under your command. This time you are a general with 3,000 soldiers. Don't be unduly humble." Qin Yin pursed her red lips and looked at Lin Muyu with a watery gaze. There was some hope but also some helplessness. After a few seconds she said, "Grandfather Duke Lan, I suggest you send an experienced general to be Big Brother Yu's deputy. Otherwise, I'm worried that he won't be able to control 3,000 new recruits by himself." "That's fine. Who is willing to follow Lin Muyu?" Tang Lan asked. In the crowd, Qin Yen cupped his fists and said, "I am willing." "Little Prince Qin Yen?" Tang Lan was taken aback and said, "Little Prince Qin Yen is also of the Qin bloodline and is also Duke Yuning's only son. Why don't you stay in Lanyan City and at least leave a bloodline for Duke Yuning before going to war?" Qin Yen raised his eyebrows and said, "I, Qin Yen, have been cultivating since young for the sake of contributing to the country one day. My life is not for the sake of carrying on the family line. Your Highness, please allow me to follow Big Brother to go to war. I need an experience. Big Brother also needs someone to advance and retreat together with him." Qin Yin's gaze flickered as she nodded and said, "Qin Yen will be Lin Muyu's deputy. We will go to war together. It's decided." She said it resolutely. Tang Lan and Su Muyun had no way to refute. Feng Jixing was silent at the side, looking like he was deep in thought. Chapter 338. At night, in a private room of an ordinary restaurant within the imperial city, Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu sat facing each other. Qin Yen and Zhang Wei were also present, drinking gloomily. This was Lin Muyu's first expedition, yet he had become a logistics officer. This was truly distressing, but what could he do? Even if the whole world knew of his suffocation, he would still become the logistics officer as long as the two dukes took the lead. "Logistics Officer Lin Muyu, I'll drink first as a toast." Feng Jixing raised his wine cup and said in a bored manner. He then raised his head and drank the wine in his cup. Lin Muyu also drank the wine and said, "Brother Feng, please don't tease me." Zhang Wei laughed loudly and lightly slapped the table. "In my opinion, even if you become a logistics officer, Sire Lin Muyu will still be the strongest expert in this expeditionary army. What's there to fear? You'll see on the battlefield. After making great contributions, I'd like to see what reason the two dukes have to obstruct your meteoric rise." Feng Jixing muttered to himself for a moment and said, "I heard the composition of the expeditionary army is very responsible. 50,000 of them are Minulin's old subordinates, another 30,000 are from Muyu City, and the remaining 20,000 are from Seven Seas City. In addition to use 3,000 supply troops, they formed a new 100,000 strong Yangwei Corps. The name is quite impressive, but I don't know how strong they are." "Does Brother Feng know Minulin?" Lin Muyu asked. Feng Jixing shook his head. "I've been a commander of the Imperial Guard for less than 10 years. When I arrived at the Imperial City, he was already guarding the border at Fire Halberd City, so I've never met him. However, I've heard rumors in the army that this Minulin has a pretty good reputation. But you must be careful, you don't bump into him." "Why?" Lin Muyu was stunned. Even though Minulin is now the Divine Might Marquis, he was born a commoner. It's said that he was a basket weaver in his early years. What he hates the most are the descendants of landowning households, those who rely on their bloodline to rise through the ranks. You're the foster son of the former emperor and also Xiao Yin's foster brother, so it's inevitable that Minulin will hold a grudge against you." "Well?" Lin Muyu filled the cup with wine, drank it up and said, "I don't care so much. Anyway, I'm a grain transport officer. It's hard to say whether I can kill the people of Iha country in Lingdong province with my own hands. Besides, there are only tens of thousands of people of Iha country in Lingdong province. They may not be able to confront the Yangwei army head-on. Yes. Feng Jixing nodded and said, I think so too. The power of Iha country in Lingbei is declining day by day. Their biggest advantage is the natural stronghold of Qinling. Without Qinling, I'm afraid that the tens of thousands of iron hooves of the Qin Empire would have crushed every inch of Iha country's territory. Zhang Wei grinned and said, It seems that Lady Lin Muyu will definitely succeed this time. Not necessarily. Feng Jixing frowned and said, I always have a premonition that something is wrong. The Lingdong province is too quiet, so quiet that it's ridiculous. It's reasonable to say that the Iha nation should be able to detect it. Moreover, the Yangwei Legion has its own contradictions and it's not a real unit. Why do you say that? Lin Muyu asked cautiously. Feng Jixing dipped his hand in some wine, drew a circle on the table and said, This is the whole Yangwei army. Half of them are Min Yulin's men. These 50,000 people are divided into 10,000 Celestial Cavalry Army, 20,000 Iron Infantry Camp, 5,000 Holy Bow Camp and 15,000 Tomahawk Camp, all of which are commanded by Min Yulin's men. In addition, there are 30,000 soldiers of Twilight Rain City Army, commanded by Su Wenian. Another 20,000 soldiers of Qihai City Army, commanded by Wang Shi. Finally, there are 2,000 soldiers of Spiritual Fire Division and 1,000 soldiers of Holy Palace Army. Do you know how many contradictions there are here? Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, Duke Lan and Duke Yun don't get along well. I guess Su Wentian and Wang Shi don't get along well, right? That's right. Feng Jixing said lightly, the generals under Duke Lan and Duke Yun are all arrogant and unruly. They treat the capital as their own home and make a lot of trouble outside. A few days ago, Su Wentian's son fought with Wang Shi's son. These two families are like fire and water. I'm not afraid of anything else, but I'm afraid that you will be wronged in such a gap. Don't worry. Lin Muyu straightened her chest and smiled slightly. It's a piece of cake. They don't dare to touch me or I'll deal with them. Yes. Feng Jixing looked at him deeply and said, This trip won't be very smooth. You've suffered a lot. But you don't worry. As long as I, Feng Jixing, am in the capital, nothing will happen. Her Highness Yin's safety will not be a problem. Yes, I know. Then 3 days later we will see you off. Good. Lin Muyu looked at Feng Jixing's saber and said, The Windcutter saber is chipped. Big brother Feng, give it to me. I'll help you reforge it before I leave Lanyan City. Really? Feng Jixing was overjoyed. I thought you forgot. Haha, how could that be? I just didn't have a suitable spirit stone to refine my soul. Now that I have it, don't worry. Leave it to me. Tomorrow I'll send a brand new Windcutter saber to your residence. Don't send it to my residence. I'll go to the Holy Temple tomorrow morning to get it. Okay. That night, according to Lin Muyu's request, Jin Xiaoteng sent a pile of 10 millennia dark steel and various forging materials to her. No one knew when Lin Muyu would return from the Lingdong province, so she had to forge a batch of fine weapons to support the Purple Flower Chamber of Commerce first. Late at night, the Holy Temple's Grand Deacon's office was blazing with light. Streaks of astral flames were whistling and spiraling in the artifact refining cauldron. Feng Jixing's Windcutter saber was placed in the cauldron. The Windcutter saber itself was made of 10 millennia dark steel. Unfortunately, the blacksmith's skills were very ordinary, and he even failed to refine it. Thus, the Windcutter saber was only a sharp saber, but it couldn't be called a divine weapon. The astral flames quickly melted the saber, and Lin Muyu added a few more pieces of 10 millennia dark steel into the cauldron. Then she used the astral flames to refine the impurities in the dark steel. Streaks of gray starlight slowly rose up, and the 10 millennia dark steel was mixed into the molten iron. After nearly 2 hours of smelting, Lin Muyu had refined the 10 millennia dark steel to its most essential state. Only then did she place the Heaven Beast Spirit Stone into the cauldron. Refining the Spirit Stone took nearly another hour. Fortunately, Lin Muyu's current cultivation was very high. Otherwise, it would have taken at least 3 to 5 hours. Roar! The Heaven Beast's soul sprang out of the raging flames and tried to devour Lin Muyu. Unfortunately, Lin Muyu let out a soft roar, and the image of a star appeared on the surface of her body. She easily shattered and subdued the beast's soul. In the next moment, the golden beast soul turned into rays of light and fell into the molten iron of the Windcutter. Lin Muyu continued to temper the saber and let Lulu redraw the mold for the Windcutter. Then the mold cooled down. The entire process lasted for nearly 5 hours. Finally, a brand new wind cutter appeared in front of her. The blade was repeatedly tempered and 15 composite edges were forged by Lin Muyu. It could be said to be unprecedentedly exquisite. Puchi. The moment the saber fell into the water, the entire office was filled with steam. Lin Muyu reached into the water and took out the wind cutter saber. The blade was glowing and the soul of the sky beast could be faintly seen. It was the soul of a holy beast. Without a doubt, this saber could be ranked as a holy grade weapon. Congratulations, big brother. Lulu jumped out and said with a smile, this is a 5th rank sacred rank saber. It is the best weapon Big Brother has ever forged. And Big Brother Feng will definitely be very satisfied. Lin Muyu put the wind cutter to the side and then took out more 10,000-year dark steel and 1,000-year dark steel to forge more weapons. This time she brought back too many spirit stones and there was still a lot of work to be done. The next morning Lin Muyu did not get a wink of sleep. There were 11 new weapons in the office, and the most outstanding one was the wind cutter saber. Next was a 7th level Saint grade long saber, forged from a 10,000 years old fire thorn beast spirit stone. The rest were all mysterious and spirit grade weapons. Overall, this saber was enough to be the Purple Flower Chamber of Commerce's most treasured weapon. Dong dong dong, the sound of knocking and Feng Jixing's voice came from outside. Great Deacon Yu, Feng Jixing is here. Is my wind cutter done? Feng Jixing was too impatient. Come in. Lin Muyu smiled faintly. Feng Jixing pushed the door open and entered. His handsome face was full of joy, and there was even some dew on his eyebrows. He said with a smile, "You, where is Big Brother Feng's weapon?" "Here." Lin Muyu raised her hand, and with a swirl of battle energy she hooked the wind cutter and threw it out. Pah! Feng Jixing gripped the saber firmly, and he immediately felt a vigorous light attribute energy flowing into his arm. There was even the shadow of a saint beast soul on the blade. He couldn't help but stare at Lin Muyu in astonishment. Saint rank? Yes. Lin Muyu nodded. Heavens, it's really a saint rank? Feng Jixing couldn't contain his joy. Lin Muyu smiled happily. Do you think I'd lie to you? How is it? It's light, right? It's light, it's light. Feng Jixing almost rolled around in joy. He gripped the blade tightly and smiled. You've helped Big Brother Feng so much. It seems like I'll have to treat you to a month's worth of drinks. Ah. Lin Muyu said, we'll talk about this when I come back. I still have some work to do. The Big Brother Feng is free, please help me with something. What is it? Go to the Ministry of War and get me 1,000 sets of Royal Army armor. The Holy Palace Army doesn't have any suitable armor and can't make it in a short time. There should be enough in the armory. It's not good for me to ask for it. I don't have enough face. Just do me this favor. Okay, leave it to me. Feng Jixing turned around and left happily. Lin Muyu continued to forge weapons. There was only 1 day left before they set off. He didn't have much time left. However, when he thought about how he was about to leave the Winter Ridge province and fight with the Iha Kingdom's army again, he was actually looking forward to it. It was time to end the blood feud. Chapter 339. Dawn, north of Lanyan City at the Yangwei Army encampment, thousands of smoke curled up from the chimneys. The day of departure had finally arrived. The city gates slowly opened, and rows of temple guards wearing the armor of the Imperial Army slowly rode out. Although they were in charge of escorting the rations, the temple guards were all heavy cavalry. This was something that the other battalions could not compare with. Lin Muyu carried the glimmering pear blossom spear and urged her horse forward slowly. At the side, Qin Yan was dressed in a white robe. His gaze swept around the surroundings, unable to conceal his excitement. This was the first time Qin Yan was going out to battle in the true sense. Naturally, he was very excited. Big brother, will we win? Qin Yan asked. Of course, the Iha Kingdom is not as strong as we thought. Lin Muyu replied with a smile. Why didn't Big Brother let General Feng and His Highness send us off? Qin Yan asked blankly. It's the same whether we send them or not. Have the carriages arrived yet? If they have, we will depart immediately. You guys should be in front of the army. Lin Muyu frowned. There was a saying that before the army moved, the rations had to go first, but Minulin did not seem to understand this. He actually did not let the rations team depart first, and insisted on waiting for this day. In the distance, large carriages filled with rations were slowly being escorted by the people of the Spiritual Fire Department. A high-ranking officer wearing a gold star galloped over and cupped his fists. General Lin, the rations have been prepared. Should we depart immediately? And how many carriages are there? 150 carriages of all sizes, and there are 300 carriages of rations at the back. However, they are still being prepared and have not been loaded yet. The follow-up team will help us transport them. Then let's go. Lin Muyu glanced at the temple's Silver Star instructor, Shin Han. This Shin Han was a 40-year-old martial artist who was calm and capable. This was also the reason why Guiyang chose Shin Han to be the centurion of the temple camp. Shin Han saw through Lin Muyu's thoughts and cupped his fists. Great Deacon, I will lead 500 brothers of the temple camp to the rear of the carriages. I will leave the front to Great Deacon. Lin Muyu nodded happily. Thank you, Great Deacon Shin Han. You're welcome. Shin Han raised his spear and shouted, Brothers, follow me. Lin Muyu looked to the east in the direction of the demon-subduing pass. It seemed that Tang Xiaoxi would not be able to make it back in time. Well, she was not idle in the demon-subduing pass. On one hand she had to cultivate and on the other hand she had to deal with the relationship between the demon race and the human race. Perhaps she was the busiest person in the entire empire. On both sides the flag-bearers raised the war flags high. One of them was the empire's war flag with a dark blue background and golden-purple flowers. The other two had the word Min and the word Lin written on one side and Lin written on the other. It could be said that both sides had been taken care of. Lin Muyu, Qin Yan, and the others were the vanguard of the entire Yangwei Legion's 100,000 troops. They slowly entered the forest road, and the neighing of the war horses was endless. The carriages moved slowly so the temple camp could not move fast as well, and could only follow behind slowly. When the sun rose, the sound of horse hooves came from behind. It was the Heaven Cavalry under Min Yulin's command. A total of 10,000 Heaven Cavalry galloped past on the road beside the temple camp. The army was neat and orderly and could indeed be called a strong army. At the end of the Heaven Cavalry, a young general wearing the insignia of captaincy held the reins and galloped past. Behind him, his dark blue cloak fluttered in the wind. Suddenly he stopped his war horse and turned to look at Lin Muyu, Qin Yan and the others. The corners of his mouth rose, but he did not say a word. He turned his horse around and chased after the Heaven Cavalry. Who is this person? So arrogant? Lin Muyu furrowed her brows and said. This person's attitude made Lin Muyu a little unhappy. In any case she was wearing the deacon's gold leaf, and its grade was higher than his captaincy, but he was actually so arrogant. Qin Yan said, This person is Marquis Wei Minyulin's son Min Zhan, the commander of the 10,000 Heaven Cavalry. It is said that this kid is very fierce, and in the northern snow region he is like a wolf, causing the northern barbarian tribes to tremble in fear. But in my opinion this kid's strength is only SOSO, I will at most need 5 spears to strike him down. Lin Muyu could not help but laugh. Yan, you are thinking too simply. The battlefield is not as simple as the duels in the temple. When you are on the battlefield remember to listen to my orders. When I do not allow you to fight you must not be rash. Even if you are to fight you must travel with the troops. Don't fight alone, your life is very precious. And I understand big brother, Yan will listen to your orders. That's good. The march was very boring. The Yangwei Legion did not move fast and they walked about 70 miles a day. But Lanyan City was nearly 3,000 miles away from Lingdong Province, which meant that it would take at least a month to march there. On the way Lin Muyu was bored, so she had to run the Forging Dragon Bone Remnant Scroll again and again to cultivate the fighting energy in her body. At night, after cooking, she would absorb the power of the stars in the sky to cultivate the stellar tactics. But it was a pity that after breaking through to the second level of the stellar tactics, she could not enter the third level, as if the power of the stars that could be accumulated in her body had reached a limit. But Lin Muyu was patient, so she took it slowly. She cultivated the stellar tactics secretly for fear of being seen by others. After all, it was too shocking to see a person surrounded by countless stars. 8 days passed in the blink of an eye. The Yangwei Legion passed through Cangnan Province and they could even see Wugu City in the distance, but this city was no longer as prosperous as before. Tuck, tuck, tuck. The sound of horse hooves came and a messenger galloped over. He cupped his hands and said, General Lin, the provincial governor of Cangnan Province has sent a large number of provisions. Marquis asked you to check them. Lin Muyu said lightly, Qin Yan, Shin Han, bring a few people and follow me. Yes. Following the messenger, they passed through the edge of the army. On the side of the lush forest was a large open space. It was currently the beginning of summer, and a large number of Sky Cavalry soldiers had stopped to herd their horses. At the same time they took off their armor to cool down. It was indeed too tough to wear heavy armor on such a hot day. Behind the Sky Cavalry were rows and rows of carriages filled with rations. Each carriage was escorted by 10 soldiers from Cangnan province. These soldiers were naturally under Lin Muyu's command. After checking, there were a total of 1,000 carriages and they were all accepted. At this time, a senior officer rode over from a distance. He had a white beard and was an old general who was at least 60 years old. He held a saber in his hand and carried a longbow on his back. This old general seemed to know Lin Muyu. He stepped forward and cupped his hands and said with a smile, "Young general, greetings. We meet again." Lin Muyu looked at him in astonishment. After careful identification, she suddenly realized and said with a smile, "It's General Su Ying. Why are you also in the Yangwei Legion?" "I didn't know." Su Ying laughed and said, "It's a long story. Let's talk about it on the way." "Yes." The two of them walked side by side. Su Ying was followed by dozens of cavalry archers. He looked at Lin Muyu with a smile and said, 3 years ago, before the battle at Lanyan City, I was dispatched to Muyu City to serve. Later, General Min Yulin did not abandon me and appointed me as the commander of the Divine Bao Battalion that he led. Now, 3 years have passed in the blink of an eye, and I have also been the commander of the Divine Bao Battalion for 3 years. The battle at Lanyan City, sigh. Lin Muyu said, "It's all in the past. It's fine now." Su Ying nodded heavily and said, "Fortunately, young general is fine. It's like the heavens are blessing the empire. The late Emperor Qingjin is protecting you." "Yes." Lin Muyu smiled gently and lowered her eyes. She said, "General Su, it's great to see you this time. However, I'm no longer a young general. I don't even have the rank of a corporal. You see, I'm just a grand deacon of the temple." "The army that I lead is also the temple army," Su Ying laughed and said, "In the eyes of this old general, you will always be the young general. By the way, young general, this is your first time taking on the heavy responsibility of transporting rations. How do you feel?" Lin Muyu smiled confidently and said, "Don't worry. Each person's rations weigh about 2 caddies every day. The 100,000 people of the Yangwei army have to eat 200 carts of rations every day. However, we've gradually replenished it. Now there are more than 2,500 carts of rations following us. It's enough to last them for half a month." "Then I'm relieved." Su Ying narrowed his eyes and smiled meaningfully. "Young general, you are the adopted son of the emperor and the grand deacon of the temple. Your identity is special. The rations are also the most important thing for the army. Don't make any mistakes." "I know. Thank you for the reminder, old general." Lin Muyu cupped her fist gently. In fact, she knew in her heart that whether it was Min Yulin, Su Wentian, or Wang Shi, they were all waiting for her to make a mistake. Along the way, Lin Muyu went to Min Yulin's tent once every 3 days to submit orders. It was quite safe. Finally, after 33 days, they entered the territory of Lingdong province. However, what everyone didn't expect was that it actually snowed in Lingdong province. It rained in early summer. No wonder this province's grain production was less than 10% of Lanyan cities. That was why it was reduced to such a barren land. The official road had already become blurry and almost disappeared. In front of them was a field of wild grass. Lin Muyu and Qin Yan rode their horses to the top of the soil slope and looked into the distance. The interior of the Winter Ridge province was a stretch of barren land, like a huge basin. Furthermore, this basin was really big enough. Its territory was at least 2 to 3 times the size of the North Ridge province. Qin Yan looked at the weeds on the slope and frowned. "Big brother, there's no road here. How can the convoy pass through?" "If there's no road, then pave the road." Lin Muyu said, "Send people to cut down trees and pave the slope to make a road. Don't let the wheels sink into the mud. Otherwise it'll be really troublesome." As he spoke, he looked up at the sky. Snowflakes fell on his cheeks. The empire was about to reclaim Lingdong province, but the heavens didn't seem to be on their side. Qin Yan and Shen Han turned and left, ordering the soldiers of the temple camp to cut down the trees on both sides. Lin Muyu urged his horse to the center of the army and cupped his fists. Logistics officer Lin Muyu pays his respects to Marquis Wei. A guard said, "The Marquis is in the center of the formation. Come over, my lord." "Yes." Chapter 340. Under the banner, Min Yulin, clad in golden armor and wielding a saber, stared at the heavy snow. Not far away, Lin Muyu galloped over and cupped his fists. "Marquis Wei, there's no more road ahead. The supply carts will have to pave a new road before they can move forward, so the journey will definitely be affected. I'm afraid it will affect the battle plan, so I came to report." "I understand." Thank you for your hard work, General Lin. Min Yulin smiled. It's fine. Every soldier at the front has brought 3 days' worth of rations, and it's less than a day's journey from here to Winterfrost City in the Lingdong province. I plan to order the 3 armies to move quickly and surround Winterfrost City first. General Lin, your supply carts can move slowly. It's fine as long as they reach Winterfrost City in 3 days. Very well. This subordinate will take his leave. Very well. Late at night, all 3,000 supply carts finally crossed the obstacle and entered the plains. However, the snow had melted and left the ground covered in mud. Many of the carts had already sunk into the ground. Thud, 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 the galloping of the horses continued. Lin Muyu got off the horse beside one of the grain carts. With a glance, she noticed that the axles of the grain carts were all covered in mud. Even 10 soldiers could not move it at all. My lord, we. A 10-man squad leader looked at him in fear. Lin Muyu didn't say anything. He used the handle of the pear blossom spear to remove the mud around the wheels and then placed his hand on the undercarriage. All right, push with me. Yes, my lord. The snow continued to fall, but Lin Muyu's combat aura prevented the snowflakes from falling on his cloak. It was a spectacular sight. A Heavenly Realm expert's combat aura was naturally not something an ordinary person could compare to. The cart creaked out of the mud pit, and Lin Muyu quickly cut down the trees on the side to fill the pit. Beside him, the Silver Star instructor Shinhan's eyes were red. Chief Deacon, the Empire has really let you down. You shouldn't have done this here. Lin Muyu was slightly taken aback. He then patted his shoulder and smiled. What shouldn't I? Let's go. Make sure the carts move smoothly and catch up to the main force as soon as possible. Yes, my lord. The result surprised Lin Muyu. The Lingdong province was almost completely barren. There was not a single person within 100 miles. Not only did they have to pave roads along the way, they also had to pave bridges. In the end, it took a full 5 days for the rations to reach Winterfrost City. The heavy snow had stopped and the sky was clear. In the distance, a scout team of the Jianghu army galloped over. The leader said with a black face, General Lin, your grain team is late. If they don't come, we can only eat tree bark. I'm sorry, it's been a tough journey. Come with me, Marquis Wei wants to see you. Yes. Less than 10 miles ahead was the camp of the Jianghu Legion. Along the way he saw many wounded soldiers. It seemed that there had been a battle here. Looking from afar, the flag of the Iha nation was still fluttering in the sky above Winterfrost City. Inside the central tent, Min Yulin, Min Zhan, Su Wentian, and Wang Shi all wore cold expressions on their faces. Lin Muyu entered the tent, took out her waist token and said, 3,000 carriages of grain have arrived. Wang Shi's eyes turned cold. Grand Deacon, do you know that they have been late for 2 days? According to military law, they should be beheaded. Lin Muyu looked at him indifferently. She didn't speak, but her eyes revealed a sense of pride. At this time, Du Hai, the vanguard of the front army, cupped his fists and said, My lord, Lingdong province is different from other provinces. There are no roads at all. It's understandable that they missed the deadline. Please forgive Lady Lin Muyu. Yes, I know. It's fine. Min Yulin waved his hand and said, General Lin, please sit down. Yes. There were more than 20 generals in the central tent, but Lin Muyu's seat was arranged at the end. Min Yulin said, Although Winterfrost City is a small city, it's very sturdy. If the Iha rebels insist on defending the city, we will only suffer heavy losses if we force our way in. What do you all think we should do? Su Wentian cupped his fists and said, My lord, our scouts have confirmed that there are only 10,000 Iha soldiers in Winterfrost City. They are surrounded by us and are in a desperate situation. In my opinion, why don't we send envoys into the city to persuade them to surrender? The Iha captaincy in the city is Yuchi Lin, a former general of Heaven's Pivot Province. As long as he is willing to surrender, the Empire will take him back in and restore him to his position. What do you all think? Min Yulin's eyes were cold. The Empire doesn't need traitors. They should have known this would happen to them when they abandoned the Empire for the Iha nation. That's right. Su Wentian's eyes were full of smiles. This subordinate is only talking about luring them to surrender. As for how they will be dealt with after they surrender, that's up to you, my lord. The city is lacking in rations and they won't be able to hold out for long. Very well. Min Yulin nodded with a smile. We'll do as you say. Send someone to persuade them. Yes, my lord. Lin Muyu felt a chill in her heart. She knew that the lives of the 10,000 Iha nation soldiers would be lost. As expected, the gate of Winterfrost City was opened at night. Yuchi Lin led the guards out of the city in person, holding the seal of Winter Frost City in his hand. His face was pale. He used to be a general of the Empire, but after he surrendered to the Iha nation, he had now surrendered to the Empire again. Naturally, he was a villain in everyone's eyes. Marquis Wei Minyulin slowly dismounted and took the seal from Yuchi Lin's hands. He looked at him coldly and said, "General Yuchi, the Yuchi family has guarded Heaven's Pivot Province for several generations. Why did you submit to the rebels of the Iha nation?" Yuchi Lin couldn't speak, and his face alternated between green and white. Minyulin waved his sleeves and said, "Enter the city with the army and disarm all the Iha nation soldiers." "Yes, my lord." Everyone quickly spurred their horses into the city. As the accompanying general, Lin Muyu also followed them into Winterfrost City. Behind them, the rations team quickly entered the city. Although Winterfrost City was a small city, there were already many tents built around it. Although this city had been through the baptism of war, it seemed that the civilians in the city were already used to it. Every one of them had a blank look on their faces. On the plaza, torches were raised high as a group of Iha nation soldiers stacked their weapons together. They then stuffed their palms into their tattered armor to keep warm. Judging from their attire, many of them didn't even have a full set of military uniforms. Some of them were only wearing the Iha nation's armor, but the clothes underneath were actually dark blue imperial uniforms. They didn't even have time to change out of their clothes before they switched sides again. It was quite amusing to think about it. It seems that the Iha nation's army also has soldiers who are unloved by their fathers and mothers, Lin Muyu said indifferently. Old General Su Ying couldn't help but laugh. How many people can a commander-in-chief like Qin Yi care about? Although the Iha nation preaches all living things are equal and all people are benevolent, many of the Empire soldiers who surrender to the Iha nation are nothing more than stepmothers. Clearly the 10,000 men under Yuchi Lin are like this. As if hearing Su Ying's words, Yuchi Lin's face turned ashen. The old general is right. But Marquis, since we've already surrendered to the Empire, I must say that we shouldn't stay in Winterfrost City for long. Why? Minyulin asked indifferently. Yuchi Lin cupped his fists. The Manchus, ranked fourth among the 7 marshals of Iha nation, have gathered 70,000 soldiers in Tongtian province and are heading for Winterfrost City. These 70,000 are the elites of Iha nation, and Winterfrost City is just an isolated city with very little food. Even though we have the advantage in numbers, we may not be a match for the Manchus. Manchus? Minyulin's eyes were full of disdain. That's the son of Marquis Manning of the Setting Sun. How can a fat piece of trash like him lead an army? I'm not leaving. I'll wait for the Manchus in Winterfrost City. Marquis. Yuchi Lin wanted to say something but stopped. Minyulin looked expressionlessly at the 10,000 unarmed Iha nation captives on the square. Suddenly, a murderous glint flashed across his eyes. General Su, have the 5,000 men of the Divine Archer Battalion prepare their bows and arrows. Give them 50 arrows each. Su Ying nodded. Yes. Min Zhan was taken aback. Father, didn't we take the city already? What are we going to do? Minyulin didn't answer. General Feng Che of the Iron Infantry Battalion, listen up. Order the Iron Infantry Battalion to surround the captives and block them with shields. Yes, Marquis. Che Taifeng nodded. Minyulin turned around and left. Kill all the Iha nation captives in the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. Cut off their heads and hang them on the walls around Winterfrost City. This will chill the morale of the Manchurian army. Yuchi Lin trembled. He hurriedly knelt on the ground and shouted, Marquis, please don't. They're soldiers of the Empire and they're just following orders. They have parents, wives, and children. You can't slaughter them like this, you can't. As a soldier of the Empire, you should know what loyalty is. General Yuchi Lin, don't say anything else. Otherwise you'll join them. Minyulin didn't say anything else. Yuchi Lin knelt on the ground, trembling. His face was full of humiliation and indignation. Qin Yen clenched his fists. The flickering flames reflected in his eyes. He turned to Lin Muyu and asked, Big brother, are we just going to watch Minyulin kill 10,000 captives? Why don't you go persuade them? Once they're killed, will any Iha nation soldiers dare to surrender to the Empire in the future? Lin Muyu pressed her hand on the hilt of her sword. After a moment of silence, she said, Yin, have you ever thought about what it was like for these Iha nation soldiers who claimed to have parents, wives, and children to slaughter defenseless civilians in Lanyan City? Did they ever think about mercy at that time? Big brother, you. Qin Yin was dumbfounded. Lin Muyu patted his shoulder lightly. You should know how much food 10,000 people need to eat every day, right? Qin Yan was speechless. Not long after, screams rose and fell. 10,000 Iha nation soldiers were shot to death by arrows. They resisted hopelessly and charged at the Iron Infantry Battalion's shield formation, only to have their bodies pierced by spears. Fresh blood instantly filled the entire western square of Winter Frost City. Chapter 341. The next morning, when Lin Muyu walked out of the barracks, many soldiers in the square were carrying water to wash the blood-stained ground. Even more people were transporting the corpses out of the city to be buried. The heads of the Iha soldiers had been chopped off one by one and hung outside the city walls with ropes, swaying slowly in the cold wind. It was a particularly terrifying scene. Min Yulin brought Qin Yan and Shin Han to inspect the granary. 3,000 carriages of rations were all piled up. It seemed like he was really planning on waiting for the Iha army to arrive. The old general, Su Ying, held a bowl of soup in one hand and 5 pieces of flatbread in the other. He chewed on the flatbread as he walked over and smiled. "Young general, have you eaten breakfast?" "I have." "General, you have a good appetite." Lin Muyu smiled. Su Ying laughed. "It's all right. I don't have the strength to fight if I don't have an appetite. When I can't even draw my bow, the Marquis will probably not need me anymore." Lin Muyu said, "General, does the Marquis really plan on staying here indefinitely?" "It seems so." "Is no one going to persuade him?" "What's wrong?" Su Ying asked. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, "The supply wagons from Cangnan province and Dubhe province have to travel a long way. It's even more inconvenient to enter Lingdong province, and Winterfrost City is so barren. We won't be able to hold out for long. The longer the Marquis waits here, the closer we are to failure." "Su Ying said nervously, "General, you can't say that. It'll be troublesome if the Marquis's men hear it. Actually, there isn't much to be gained from this expedition. It's rare that the 70,000 Iha rebels are here. The Marquis naturally wants to take credit for it. Otherwise, the Marquis won't have much of a foothold in the court." Lin Muyu sighed. "Then there's no other way. I'll do my best to keep the rations flowing. Let's hold on for as long as we can." On the evening of the next day, a horse galloped into Winterfrost City and went straight to the camp of the Holy Temple camp. After entering the military tent, he said hurriedly, "Great Deacon, something terrible has happened." "What's wrong?" Lin Muyu put down the copper Jew in her hand, and the hot tea inside rippled. The messenger reported with a pale face, "A convoy from Cangnan province was intercepted about 20 kilometers away from Winterfrost City. All the provisions were burned. None of the entourage survived. They were all killed." "Ah." Lin Muyu was shocked. "Who did it?" "This subordinate does not know." Qin Yan said in a low voice, "Big brother, let's go take a look?" "Yes, we'll set off immediately with 100 people." "Yes." A group of people galloped out of the city and disappeared in the cold wind in the blink of an eye. In the middle of the night, everyone lit up torches to light up the nearby roads. 20 kilometers was not far. Lin Muyu spread out her spirit pulse technique, but all she sensed was dead silence. Before they arrived, she could already smell the thick smell of blood and burning. In the wilderness, hundreds of rations had all been burned, and the soldiers responsible for escorting them were all lying on the ground. Lin Muyu got off the horse and checked the wounds of the dead. Some had their throats slit, some had their arms bitten off, and some had half of their bodies eaten. The dark red blood seeped into the soil. "It looks like they were attacked by wild beasts," Qin Yan said. Lin Muyu shook her head. "No, if it was a wild beast it wouldn't burn the rations. This is man-made, and it's someone who looks like a wild beast." Shin Han said, "Great Deacon, could it be someone from Iha Nation?" "It shouldn't be. Although the people from Iha Nation are cruel, they only kill people, not eat them. Or could it be a wild beast tamed by the people from Iha Nation?" "It can't be either. Taming wild beasts is not as easy as you think, and—" Lin Muyu looked at the dark wilderness. Suddenly, his spiritual sense trembled and his heart skipped a beat. "Something is coming," he said. "What is it?" Qin Yan quickly raised his spear and stood in front of Lin Muyu. "No, it left again." In the spirit pulse technique, the energy fluctuation quickly left. He quickly pulled out the dragon spirit sword and said, "I'll chase after it. You guys stay here and don't leave." "Big brother, I'll go with you," Qin Yan said in a low voice. "No, don't be lured away. Don't leave until I return. Yan and Lord Shinhan, stay here and be on guard with everyone else." "Yes." The warhorse snorted in the dark night. Lin Muyu ran for nearly 3 miles in one breath, and was getting closer and closer to that extremely powerful aura. However, the surroundings were pitch black and he couldn't see anything clearly. He could only rely on the spirit pulse technique to act as his eyes. When he reached a patch of weeds, the reaction from the spirit pulse technique was extremely intense, and that aura became even more ruthless. Lin Muyu slowly pulled out the dragon spirit sword, and a thick flame appeared on the blade. The warhorse seemed to be startled and suddenly stood up and neighed loudly. Lin Muyu immediately flipped off the horse, and his battle boots stepped on the wet ground after the snow. Hiss hiss, a hair-raising sound came from beside his ears. Suddenly, a black figure pounced over from the bushes in the distance, accompanied by the sound of flapping wings. Lin Muyu hurriedly raised his head. Under the light of the dragon spirit sword, he saw an ugly human. His entire body was covered in hard armor, and his face didn't even look like a human's. He had a huge body and was at least 25 meters tall. Both of his arms were holding a heavy battle axe, and he swung the axe down from the sky. Buzz. The golden gourd suddenly appeared, and the wall of the gourd blocked the opponent's attack. Bang! Under the splashing of energy, the attacker was forced to retreat again and again. However, Lin Muyu also felt his blood boil. What a strong, strange strength. What exactly was this thing? The monster grabbed the battle axe with both hands and panted in a low voice. Under the light of the dragon spirit sword, Lin Muyu could clearly see that this monster actually had 4 legs, and 4 powerful giant legs were wrapped in hard armor. Moreover, the carapace on his back spread open, and there were actually a few wings just like a beetle. What the hell is this? Lin Muyu gritted his teeth, and his nose was filled with an unpleasant smell. This smell originated from the aura of this monster. Did this thing not like to bathe, or had it never bathed before? The monster also looked at Lin Muyu, and a pair of pitch-black eyes filled with ruthlessness. Suddenly he swung the battle axe again and swept it horizontally. This time Lin Muyu didn't use the wall of the gourd. Instead, he lowered his head and used his advantage in speed to dodge the attack of the battle axe. At the same time, his right hand flipped, and the golden god binding chains broke through the air, and lingered around the dragon spirit sword. Suddenly the sword swept across. Gotcha. Although the carapace on this monster's leg was hard, it was definitely not as sharp as the dragon spirit sword, which was supported by the god binding chains. In the blink of an eye, a hairy leg full of pincers was chopped off. Hiss hiss. The monster let out a miserable hiss and quickly chopped the battle axe off his head. Lin Muyu had experienced this kind of monstrous strength before, so naturally he wouldn't take this axe head-on. As he retreated, he saw this monster flapping his wings and flying away. Just as he was about to use falling star steps to pursue, his spiritual perception suddenly detected a few more equally ruthless auras in the distance. So there were more of these monsters. Lin Muyu hurriedly stopped. She couldn't continue chasing. She could deal with one, but she wouldn't be able to deal with more. Moreover, there were more and more of these auras in the spirit pulse art. There were at least 100 of them, and she couldn't fight them head-on. Turning around, she chopped off a vine and tied the monster's short leg. Holding the short leg, she mounted the horse and galloped straight in the direction of Qin Yan, Shen Han, and the others. When she saw the flickering torches in the distance, Lin Muyu also relaxed. These monsters didn't attack Qin Yan and the others. This could be considered a blessing, right? Big brother, did you find it? Qin Yan went up and asked. Lin Muyu lifted the monster's short leg and said, the one that attacked the caravan was a type of monster. I only had time to chop off one of its legs before it escaped. Monster? Qin Yan was stunned. Don't say any more. Return to Winterfrost City immediately and meet the Marquis with me. Yes. Winterfrost City, City Lord Hall. This short leg covered in carapace was placed on the table and surrounded by a group of generals. The corners of Wang Shi's mouth rose as he said with a smile, Madame Lin Muyu, are you trying to tell us that this is the monster that intercepted our men and burned our rations? Are you trying to tell the Marquis to retreat and hand over Winterfrost City to the Iha nation without accomplishing anything? That's not what I mean. Lin Muyu looked humbly at Minulin and said, Marquis, I fought with this monster before. Its strength is extremely great, far beyond what ordinary imperial soldiers can withstand. That's why nearly 2,000 people from the grain transport team were slaughtered without the slightest damage. Minulin said, Chief Attendant, how is the monster's strength compared to yours? I can kill it. Then that's it. Since Chief Attendant can kill it, why should you be afraid of it? There are many of them, Lin Muyu said indifferently. Perhaps tens of thousands, and they seem to have some premeditated plan. There's no need to say more. Min Yulin raised his hand and said, I will order the entire city to be under martial law. However, this is a battle between the Empire and the Iha nation. We will not stop until the Manchus arrive. Send a letter to Tsangnan province and Yunzhong province and continue to urge them for rations. Yes. Min Zhan nodded and said, Father, do we need to send more men to protect the rations? Send the Sky Cavalry to protect the rations. Min Yulin looked deeply at Lin Muyu and said, Chief Attendant, you should stay in the city. After all, if there really are tens of thousands of monsters outside, it won't be good for you to be scared out of your wits. Ha! Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh, her clear eyes unable to conceal the disappointment in them. She looked at Min Yulin and said, Since the Marquis insists on doing things his own way, I won't say anything else. I won't come to this central tent again. Take care of yourself, Marquis. Su Ying hurriedly said, Chief Attendant you, Min Yulin said indifferently, let him go. The Yangwei army needs no cowards. Lin Muyu turned around and walked out of the central tent with an indescribable grievance in his heart. He hoped that the Imperial army would be invincible and that they could seize the world for Qinyin, but it was too difficult. Chapter 342. 4 days passed in the blink of an eye. Finally, the sound of war drums could be heard from afar. The 70,000-strong army of Iha nation had arrived. The 70,000 soldiers of the Iha kingdom stirred up a cloud of dust as they lined up in the north of Winterfrost City in a neat formation. Banners filled the sky, tens of thousands of horses neighed in unison, and the blades of swords, spears, swords, and halberds shone with a terrifying luster under the sun. Dong dong dong. On the city wall, the drums of the Yangwei Legion thundered, and the 4 northern city gates opened at the same time. 10,000 celestial cavalrymen took the lead to go out of the city, followed by 20,000 soldiers of the Iron Infantry Battalion, 5,000 soldiers of the Divine Bow Battalion, and 15,000 soldiers of the Tomahawk Battalion. After a long time, a total of 50,000 elites of the Yangwei Legion quickly set up a confrontation with their opponents outside the city. The Divine Might Marquis Min Yulin stood majestically at the city gates, his hand gripping the hilt of his sword as he gazed at the Iha Kingdom army in the distance. Behind him, a group of commanders and above were already lined up. Su Wendian said respectfully, Marquis, are we really going to fight the traitors of Iha country outside the city? That's right. Min Yulin's deep eyes flickered with hatred as he said, not only did the Iha kingdom's traitors kill His Majesty, but they also caused the empire to fall apart. Today I will defeat them on the battlefield. I want to see just how capable the Manchus are. Su Wendian was stunned. He cupped his fists and laughed, the Marquis is wise. 7C City Commander Wang Shi's eyes also trembled, but he didn't say anything. Everyone had their own thoughts. Some hoped that Min Yulin's army would win, while others hoped that he would lose. About 100 meters away from Min Yulin's viewing platform, Lin Muyu, Qin Yan, and the rest of the temple camp were also watching the battle from the city walls. As the war drums beat faster and faster, the battle had finally begun. Amidst the flying dust, Che Taifeng waved his war flag, and 10,000 Iron Infantry camp soldiers raised their shields and spears and advanced step by step, protecting the Divine Bow camp soldiers behind them. At the same time, the Iha country sent out 20,000 iron cavalry to charge. The sound of horse hooves shook the earth. The two sides had already collided, and in an instant the sound of killing filled the air. Qin Yan narrowed his eyes as he looked down the city and asked, Big brother, who do you think will win? Lin Muyu's voice was very calm. Oh, so confident, big brother? Qin Yan smiled faintly. Lin Muyu moved her dry lips and gripped the hilt of her sword tightly. She said, the 50,000 main forces of the Yangwei Legion were brought back from Fire Halberd City by Marquis Wei. They have been through many battles. Although the 70,000 people on Man-Man's side are well equipped, most of them have never participated in a real battle. At most, they have participated in the massacre in Lanyan City. There is a great disparity in combat power. The Yangwei Legion will definitely win, and the defeat of the Iha country's army is only a matter of time. Qin Yan nodded and looked deeply into the distance. Qin Han cupped his fists and said, Great Deacon, the temple camp's 1,000 men are ready and can move out at any time. When do we leave the city? Without the Marquis's orders, we cannot act on our own. Lin Muyu shook her head and said, Let's wait a bit longer. I feel uneasy in my heart. I keep feeling that something bad is going to happen. Everyone should remain cautious. Yes. After fighting fiercely for nearly half a day, the 20,000 cavalrymen of the Iha country were cut up by the Iron Infantry camp and the Divine Bow camp. They had already lost their original momentum. One by one, the cavalrymen were pierced by spears from all directions. They screamed and died in the battle formation. When Man sent out 50,000 infantrymen, they were blocked by the Tomahawk Battalion of the Jianghu Legion. The Tomahawk Battalion were all strong soldiers with long axes in their hands. Some of the axes were sharp enough to split heavy shields. For a while the two sides were in a stalemate. In the afternoon, when the sun was setting, the heavenly cavalry took a detour to the west to launch an attack. When their bodies were bathed in the sun, the Iha country's army could not look directly at the blazing sun behind them. In an instant the formation had collapsed to the point that it could not be contained. Coupled with the attack of the Iron Infantry camp, the 70,000 soldiers of the Iha country were instantly defeated. We won. We won. Qin Yin said with some excitement. Yes, we won. Lin Muyu's face was indescribably calm, as if this victory had nothing to do with her. Shen Han said, Great Deacon, the Marquis has ordered us to kill them. Should we go out of the city to kill them? Lin Muyu thought for a moment and said, Go out of the city to help clean up the battlefield. Don't go after them. What? Shen Han was stunned and said, This is a great opportunity for us to make contributions. Great Deacon, haven't you read the reward and punishment decree of the Empire Army? Those who kill 1 will be promoted to sergeant, 2 will be promoted to sergeant, 10 will be promoted to centurion, and 100 will be promoted to chiliarch. Those who kill 1,000 will be promoted to captaincy. With the cultivation of the Great Deacon, it should not be a problem for you to kill 100 of them, right? Moreover, the Iha country has been defeated. Lingdong province and Tongtian province will soon become our territory. No one can stop the Jianghu Legion anymore. All right then. Lin Muyu nodded and said, Shen Han, you lead 500 people out of the city to kill the defeated Iha country army. The rest of you stay with me in Winterfrost City. Don't act on your own. Yes. When night fell, Shen Han came back with nearly 100 heads of the Iha country soldiers. Most of the heads were hung under the necks of the horses of the Holy Temple Battalion. Lin Muyu rode the horse slowly in the messy battlefield outside the city. Torches were lit up and a large number of soldiers of the Empire Army were cleaning up the battlefield. There were even people fighting for the heads of the Iha country soldiers. In the end, they would split the heads in half with an axe and each person would take half of the head back to claim the reward. Smelling the thick smell of blood, Lin Muyu held the reins and walked slowly. At the same time she opened the spiritual pulse technique. Those who entered the detection range of the spiritual pulse technique were all soldiers of the Empire Army. Their breaths were weak. The stronger ones were probably Du Hai, Che Taifeng and the others. As the vanguard of the Vanguard Army and a master of the Sanctuary, Du Hai must be the most powerful person in the Jianghu Legion. In the flickering light, Du Hai dragged a corpse behind him. He laughed at Lin Muyu and said, Great Deacon, you are finally willing to leave the city? Lin Muyu asked with a smile. Other people use their heads to claim the reward. Why is Lord Du Hai dragging a whole corpse? This is not an ordinary corpse. Du Hai could not hide the excitement on his face and said, Great Deacon, guess who I have hunted down? Oh. Du Hai threw the corpse in front of Lin Muyu and said with a smile, Take a look for yourself. This person's face was a little blurry, but the emblem on his collar was very shiny. The back of the emblem of the Iha country was decorated with 3 golden 6-pointed stars. He was a senior officer of the commander level. Could it be Man Fong? Lin Muyu asked. Du Hai nodded and smiled. Yes, it is Man Fong. Iha country has suffered a crushing defeat. We have killed more than 80% of their 70,000 strong army. This time, let's see if the dogs of Iha country still have the guts to cross the Qinling Mountains and provoke the Empire's army. Speaking of which, the Marquis has good command. He is far from what a brat like Man Fong can compare to. Lin Muyu nodded. Lord Du Hai, quickly go and claim the reward. Du Hai said, Wait, there are still my men behind. Send a batch of heads over immediately. Within a few minutes, a few carriages carrying provisions drove over. The carriages were filled with bloody human heads. Lin Muyu stretched her neck to take a look and could not help but feel her heart thumping wildly. She said, These were all killed by Lord Du Hai? Yes. A chiliarch smiled proudly and said, Lord Du Hai took the lead and led the army to kill close to 10,000 traitors of Iha country. It is enough for him to deserve the title of top 1,000 soldiers. Lin Muyu could not help but smile. she cupped her fists and said, "Then I will congratulate Lord Du Hai in advance. After returning to Lanyan City, Highness Yin will naturally promote you back to the position of commander." Du Hai beamed and said, "Many thanks for Head Deacon's auspicious words. Hee, when you are free, Head Deacon must put in a few good words for me in front of Highness Yin." "I'm all right. Since there is nothing else, I will bring my brothers to continue patrolling." "All right." Riding away, the patrolling waist token hanging on Lin Muyu's waist swayed slowly. It was laughable that the temple head deacon's role in this battle was actually as simple as patrolling the city after the battle. It seemed like Min Yulin had no intention of letting Lin Muyu lead the army to battle. He had completely used this head deacon with extraordinary cultivation as a grain transport officer. Qin Yan was somewhat indignant. The fire serpent spear in his hand was surrounded by flames, but there was nothing he could do. Shin Han, on the other hand, brought the heads to receive the rewards. The night wind was cold. Lin Muyu took a deep breath, but he could only inhale the smell of blood. He seemed to have gotten used to it. After patrolling around the city once, nothing unusual happened. Troops of the Yangwei Legion returned to Winter Frost City from afar with the heads, and their faces were full of joy. Until late at night, there was still no sign of the Iron Step camp returning. In the flickering flames, a group of cavalrymen of the Heaven Cavalry Army galloped over. Lin Muyu immediately went forward to greet them. The other party also recognized him. An officer with the rank of centurion said respectfully, "Head Deacon, what's the matter?" Lin Muyu asked, "Has the Iron Step camp led by General Feng of the Chariot and Iron Army returned?" "Not yet. They chased us from quite a distance and their speed of return is rather slow. Maybe they will return tomorrow morning." "Got it? You have worked hard." The other party cupped his fists and said with a smile, "Not at all. We will go back to the city to record the military merits." "All right." After watching this group of people leave, Qin Yan couldn't help but ask, "Big brother, are you worried about the Iron Step camp?" "Yes. But the Iron Step camp has a total of 20,000 people. Even if some of them were lost during the day, there are at least 15,000 of them. In addition, they have been in battle for a long time. Don't worry, no one can do anything to them." "Ayin, have you forgotten that our grain transport team was ambushed and annihilated? 2,000 people died silently. No matter how strong the Iron Step camp is, how strong can they be? Big brother, are you worried about those monsters?" "Yes." Lin Muyu nodded and looked at the sky. Dark clouds covered the sky and there was no light. She said, "I'm afraid it's going to rain soon. Let's go back to the city." "Yes." Chapter 343. The city was brightly lit, and laughter and curses could be heard everywhere. In the square, countless heads were piled up. Under the torches, the civilian staff in the army were recording the number of heads the soldiers had beheaded. These were all military achievements, which had to be redeemed after returning to Lanyan City. For example, Du Hai's military achievements were enough for him to be promoted to the rank of commander. "Young general." In the crowd, Su Ying saw Lin Muyu and walked over with a smile. "Young general, you didn't leave the city to pursue them?" "No." Lin Muyu shook her head. "General Su, the Iron Infantry camp hasn't returned yet. Maybe it's because he's been chasing her for a long time." Su Ying smiled. "Don't worry. The Iron Infantry camp has 20,000 elites and can be called the best infantry in the world. No one is a match for them in this desolate land." "Maybe. I want to see the marquee." "Yes, I'll go with you." "Okay." When Lin Muyu and Su Ying arrived at the Castellan Hall, Min Zhan, Wang Shi, Su Wenian, and the others were there as well. Everyone was drinking and celebrating. Even Min Yulin had drunk some wine and looked drunk. When he saw Lin Muyu, he smiled and said, "Young general, what else do you have to say? Although your battle with Long Qianlin in Lanyan City was indeed outstanding, what about today's victory in Winterfrost City? Young general, are you still worried about those monsters?" Lin Muyu frowned. "Marquis, you're drunk. I came down to tell you one thing. The Iron Infantry camp hasn't returned yet." "Oh." Min Yulin was startled and sobered up a little. "Why hasn't Che Taifeng returned yet?" Min Zhan cupped his fists. "Father, Che Taifeng led the Iron Infantry camp too deep into the city in order to kill more Iha rebels. The ground is slippery in the middle of the night. Perhaps the Iron Infantry camp is camped outside." "No." Min Yulin's face turned serious. "If they were camped outside, they would have reported to me. But they didn't, so there must be something wrong. Min Zhan, send the Sky Cavalry scouts out of the city to look for the Iron Infantry camp." Once they find them, report to me immediately. Understood? Minjan nodded. I'll do it right away. Great Deacon. Minulin's face was still glowing as he smiled. Let's sit down and have a drink. Although it's early summer, the Winter Ridge province is too cold. How about a drink to warm up your body? Lin Muyu did not decline. She sat down and drank a few cups of wine before she stood up. Marquis, I'm on duty today. I'll be patrolling the city with the Temple Battalion now. And once the Iron Step camp has any news, I will immediately send someone to inform you. Thank you, Marquis. After Lin Muyu left, Wang Shi's eyes turned cold and he said, Marquis, this Lin Muyu is only so arrogant because Her Highness trusts him. Today he didn't even dare to leave the city. What a disgrace. How could the former emperor have such a cowardly godson? Minulin waved his hand and said with a smile, that's not the case. General Wang, you can see that this person is very meticulous. In the Yangwei army, I'm afraid he is the only one who has been paying attention to the Iron Step camp. Alas, Che Taifeng is too greedy. I guess we won't see the Iron Step camp return until tomorrow morning. Wang Shi pondered and asked again, Marquis, what should we do with the heads of the Iha country's traitors? Hang them all on the city wall. Let the people of Winterfrost City see what happens when they submit to the Iha country. Yes. The night wind was cold. In the second half of the night, Lin Muyu fell asleep under the battlement of the city wall with the dragon spiritual sword in his arms. He did not know how long he had slept. Suddenly someone woke him up. Big brother, wake up. What's wrong? Lin Muyu opened her eyes and realized that a simple tent had been set up above her head. It was raining all around and the rainwater was splashing on the ground, washing away the traces of blood. Qin Yen said, it's daybreak but the Iron Step camp still hasn't returned. Still haven't returned? Lin Muyu frowned and asked, did any letters come back? No. That's strange. Logically, there should be one messenger bird for every 1,000 people. There are more than 10,000 people in the Iron Step camp. Could it be that not a single messenger bird came back? Maybe it's because of the rain, so the messenger bird's wings are wet and unable to fly. I see. At this moment, a rider suddenly came from afar. A messenger shouted, Marquis, someone is coming from afar. He says he has a gift for the Marquis. Minulin was wearing a pure black cloak. He stood on the city wall and asked coldly, how many people? What gift? Only one person. As for what the gift is, I don't know. Let him come over. Yes. In the drizzle, a man came on horseback. He was wearing a straw raincoat and holding a black box in his hand. He did not enter the city. He dismounted outside the city and respectfully placed the box on the ground. He then raised his head and smiled at Minulin. His face was very handsome, but his eyes were full of ridicule and contempt. He jumped on his horse and galloped away. What's in the box? Sky Cavalry, send 10 men to capture this man. Yes. A captain stepped forward. The moment he opened the box, his face turned ashen. He took several steps back and trembled as he looked up at the city wall. The Marquis is... What is it? Minulin's voice was full of majesty. The captain said with a trembling voice, it's Che Taifeng, General Feng. What? Minulin turned pale with fright. He jumped down from the city wall and landed on the ground surrounded by fighting energy. He looked into the box and saw Che Taifeng's head lying inside. It's over, it's over? Minulin took several steps back and murmured, the Iron Step camp is finished? Father! Minjan galloped over and asked, Father, are you all right? I'm fine. Minulin held up the box and said, I was too careless. Passed down the order to seal off all the cities in Winterfrost City. No one is allowed to enter or leave. I want to see who could destroy my Iron Step camp. Yes. The war drums thundered and the city gates closed. Minulin slowly walked up the city wall with the box. When he passed by Lin Muyu, he glanced at him but did not say anything. The 20,000 men of the Iron Step camp were his flesh and blood. Now that Che Taifeng was dead, the Iron Step camp would most likely be gone as well. Minulin's mind was in a mess. What kind of person could kill 20,000 warriors of the Iron Step camp in one night? Lin Muyu opened his spirit-pulse incantation and closed his eyes. Not long after, a strong aura appeared a few kilometers away. He shivered and said, They're here? What's here? Brother. Qin Yen asked. Lin Muyu said, Those monsters are here. Get ready to fight. Ayen, go to the city wall and bring up our boxes. Everyone in the temple camp will be equipped with white drill arrows. Yes. As she spoke, Lin Muyu sprinted in Minulin's direction. She caught up to him and said respectfully, "Marquis. What's the matter, Grand Deacon?" Min Yulin looked much older. "They're here," Lin Muyu said in a low voice. "I know, the real elites of the Iha nation are here," Min Yulin said through gritted teeth. "No, it's not the Iha nation. It's those monsters," Lin Muyu said in a low voice. "Monsters?" Wang Shi couldn't help but laugh. "Grand Deacon, do you still insist on your monster theory? Do you think those monsters are the ones who destroyed the Iron Step camp?" Lin Muyu nodded. "That's right." Wang Shi wanted to say something more, but Min Yulin raised his hand and said, "Pass down my order. The whole city is on guard and prepare for battle. No one is allowed to leave the city without my order." "Yes." The drizzle grew heavier, and in the distance, black shadows could be vaguely seen, but it was difficult to distinguish them. When the rain stopped and the clouds parted, everyone in the city was shocked by what they saw. In the distance there was a group of humans, or rather, they could not be considered humans. These people were ugly and their bodies were covered in hard armor. Their hands were in the shape of sharp claws, and there were shells and wings on their backs. They held weapons in their right hands, and in their left they held a human head. Almost every monster held a human head in their hand. "What are these things?" Min Zhan asked through gritted teeth. "Are these the things that destroyed the Iron Step camp?" Min Zhan walked up to Lin Muyu and said respectfully, "Grand Deacon, are these the monsters you mentioned?" "Yes, they're exactly the same as the ones I saw that night." Lin Muyu nodded. Wang Shi narrowed his eyes and said, "It looks like there are only 5,000 of them. We don't need to be afraid." Du Hai cupped his fists and said, "Marquis, give me 10,000 men. This general is willing to leave the city to fight these cockroach-like things." Min Yulin glanced at Du Hai and asked, "Great General wishes to fight these unknown monsters in the wilderness? If we wait for them to attack the city, I'm afraid we'll be forced into a passive position." "That's fine." Min Yulin sat on his chair and looked at the monster army in the distance. He said calmly, "General Wang Shi, General Su Wenin, each of you will send 10,000 men. General Du Hai will lead them out of the city to fight. In addition, Grand Deacon Lin Muyu will lead 1,000 men from the Temple Battalion out of the city to support the great general." Du Hai and Lin Muyu cupped their fists together. Yes. Military orders were like a mountain and could not be disobeyed. Even though Lin Muyu was unwilling to leave the city to fight the monsters that Du Hai called cockroaches, she still had to obey. The northern city gates opened and the imperial army once again left the city. Du Hai was dressed in golden armor and walked majestically at the front of the army. At the age of 44 he was in the prime of his life. Furthermore, after stepping into the Saint Realm, his strength had multiplied. He was at the peak of his life, yet he had to face this inexplicable battle. The trampling of the war horses and foot soldiers turned the ground into a pile of mud after the rain. Lin Muyu urged her horse forward slowly, bringing the Temple Battalion to cover the rear. Qin Yen and Shen Han followed closely behind, their faces filled with excitement. They did not have the spirit pulse technique and had never fought with these cockroaches before. Naturally, they would not understand Lin Muyu's worries. Chapter 344. The monsters all had blood-red eyes as they spread out in the wilderness. There was no formation or order to speak of. However, their bodies were huge and the weapons in their hands were also incomparably huge. It was a little scary. After seeing the human army leave the city, the monsters couldn't help but let out hissing sounds as if they were angry. They all raised their hands and threw the heads of the Iron Infantry camp soldiers out. It seemed like they didn't need to use the heads to claim military merits. "Raise your shields." With a loud shout from Du Hai, the soldiers in the front row all raised their shields high above their heads. Immediately the human heads hit the shields and bounced off. Although they did not cause any damage, the Imperial soldiers all looked at each other in dismay. These monsters could throw human heads hundreds of meters away in an instant. How much strength did they have? A bunch of mobs. Du Hai frowned and said, "Spear and shield formation. Archers get ready. Cavalry get ready to attack." After all, he was once the commander of the Tianchong army. Although the Tianchong army had been completely annihilated, Du Hai's commanding ability was still very good. As the spear and shield formation slowly approached, the 5,000 monsters seemed to feel the pressure. One by one they roared angrily, raised their weapons and rushed down the small hill, charging over like a black mass. "Archers release," Du Hai ordered loudly. The archers at the back of the shield formation all raised their hands and fired. A dense barrage of arrows soared into the sky and fell into the crowd of monsters. However, the heads, necks and chests of these monsters were all covered in hard armor. The arrows actually bounced off the monsters. Moreover, their running speed was frighteningly fast. They rushed to the front of the formation like a whirlwind and swung the heavy war hammers, iron awls, spears and other clumsy weapons in their hands. Ping ping ping. The shields and the bodies of the soldiers flew into the air. The monstrous strength of these monsters was far beyond what humans could contend against. A monster wielding an iron spear quickly pierced its spear into the chest of a shield-bearer. It then leaped up with the shield-bearer's corpse and bit another soldier. It opened its mouth and tore off a large piece of flesh from the other soldier's neck. The surrounding soldiers all used their spears and sharp swords to stab at the monster. Unfortunately, their weapons all bounced off the monster's hard armor, unable to cut through. Bastard. In a fit of rage, Du Hai spurred his horse and charged forward with his sword in hand. His long sword was filled with dou qi. With a sudden slash, the long sword cut into the back of a cockroach, but it was unable to cut through. The monster turned around in pain, howling as it swung its battle axe at Du Hai. In a fit of rage, Du Hai roared, "Chaos of the thousand armies." Fresh blood spurted out. This monster was directly split into two from the back by Du Hai. The two halves of its body spasmed on the ground. It was not completely dead yet. Du Hai raised his head to look, only to see his magnificent army being massacred by over 5,000 monsters. Not only were these cockroaches impervious to swords and spears, they also had astonishing strength. They used clumsy blunt weapons to kill people. It was extremely terrifying. At this moment, Du Hai was actually at a loss. How many monsters could he kill? Killing one just now had consumed nearly 10% of his dou qi. If he were to kill more, he would probably die from exhaustion. What should we do? He looked up and saw the soldiers of the temple camp charging towards him. Change to the white diamond arrows, aim and shoot. Lin Muyu ordered loudly. The soldiers of the temple camp were all staff members of the temple. They were adept with bows and horses and naturally were good archers. In an instant, countless white diamond arrows were shot out, and in the next moment, blood splattered everywhere. The 7 to 8 monsters at the front were pierced with arrows and died, but there were even more that continued to charge into the crowd with arrows. Unsheathe your weapons, kill. Shen Han pulled out his sword and shouted. Lin Muyu flew at the front of the crowd, and was the first to arrive in the midst of the chaos. Her pear blossom spear gleamed coldly, and with a poochie sound, it pierced through the heart of a monster from the back. Her dou qi exploded and directly shattered the heart. The pear blossom spear had been tempered with white diamond, and was extremely sharp. The golden gourd vines shot out and coiled around the legs of a few monsters. Qin Yin, Shen Han and the rest flew past, and the heads of the monsters flew up, but there were too many of them and not everyone had the cultivation of heaven realm like Lin Muyu, Qin Yin and Du Hai. When the 100 monsters charged into the temple camp, another massacre began. Lin Muyu watched as a temple staff member had his head bitten off by a monster, his brains splattering everywhere. He then saw a group of helpless temple camp soldiers being pierced by spears, and all he could do was to wave his pear blossom spear and kill the monsters one by one. The dou qi in his body was greatly depleted, and he had to use all his strength to pierce through the carapace of the monsters. If not, even the white diamond-tempered spear tip would be a stretch. The human soldiers around him screamed, and the rate of casualties was too fast. Lin Muyu pulled out the dragon spirit sword, and after slicing off the head of a cockroach, he was stained with the blood of the cockroach and quickly wiped it away and shouted, "Commander-in-Chief, let's retreat, if not we will all die outside the city." Du Hai had a look of helplessness. The Marquis has yet to strike the drums to retreat. What should we do? Lin Muyu hurriedly looked up at the city. There was a chaotic battle below, but there seemed to be no movement from the top of the city. In an instant Lin Muyu's heart turned cold. Could it be that Minulin was planning to let Du Hai and himself die outside the city? Just at this time, a strange woo-woo sound came from the hill in the distance, and in the next moment, another large group of monsters came out, and there were over 10,000 of them. Oh no. Lin Muyu's heart was in a mess. In less than 20 minutes of battle, the temple camp had lost at least half of their men, and if this carried on, the entire army would be wiped out. Right at this time, a monster came charging at them. This monster was a little strange. It was riding on a sturdy battle wolf, and the wolf was blind in one eye. This monster held a hammer in its hand, and its face was filled with murderous intent. With a raise of its hand, it smashed the head of a temple camp soldier into pieces, and with a roar, it charged at Lin Muyu, as though it could see that Lin Muyu was the one who had killed the most people in this group. With the wall of the gourd in front of him, the mystic tortoise shell and dragon scale wall were activated, and Lin Muyu had focused all of her strength on defense. Through the spirit pulse technique, she could sense that this monster was even stronger than a sage. The moment the hammer landed, the wall of the gourd shattered, and Lin Muyu was sent flying from the back of her horse. She felt the blood in her chest churning. She had already expended a lot of her battle chi, and now she was facing such a powerful monster. How could she win? Qin Yen shouted and charged forward with his spear, but he was also forced back in one strike. Lin Muyu turned around and stood up with her sword and shouted, "Ah Yen, don't fight it head-on, bring everyone and retreat back to the city, don't care about the marquee orders, we cannot all die here." Yes. Qin Yen and Shen Han immediately led the temple camp and charged back. Lin Muyu lowered her body and raised the intensity of her battle chi to its peak. She gritted her teeth, and her sword was filled with the glow of the golden gourd, and at the same time, the power of the god-binding chains was hidden within. She leaped up and slashed out. 5 elements 8 wastelands extermination. This monster leader could not speak and only roared, and the thorny war hammer flew towards the dragon spirit sword. Was it going to fight head-on? The air surged and golden light shot into the sky. The power of Lin Muyu's sword was not weak, but the opponent seemed to be stronger. After the dragon spirit sword cut into the hammer by nearly 20 centimeters, a tyrannical force rushed over, causing Lin Muyu's arms to go numb, and the sword flew out of her hands. This monster leader urged his battle wolf forward, his eyes filled with killing intent, and reached out to grab Lin Muyu's waist. He wanted to capture her alive. Of course, Lin Muyu wasn't going to allow herself to be captured without a fight. She sprang into the air and abruptly kicked her opponent's wrist, using the momentum to tumble to the ground. She then raised her hand, which was conjured up by flames, and stabbed her dragon spirit sword toward the monster leader's arm. A loud thump rang out as the dragon spirit sword pierced through the energy barrier of his black battle armor, but it was only able to cut into his flesh for 3 minutes before it was unable to penetrate any further, and it was sent flying by the recoil. Roar! The monster leader looked at the injury on his arm, and his eyes were bloodshot, and he became more and more violent. He seemed to know how to use the power of his battle chi, even though it was black and evil battle chi. He gripped the war hammer with both hands and glared at Lin Muyu with bloodshot eyes, as if he had already made up his mind to kill her. Lin Muyu gripped the dragon spirit sword, and her battle chi revolved around her body. She panted heavily as she looked at the imperial soldiers in the distance and yelled, "Du Hai, why are you still here? Are you planning to get all of us killed?" Du Hai rushed over with his saber in hand and yelled, "You go first, I'll cover you." Whoosh. The monster leader struck with a mighty blow, and heaven and earth seemed to have lost their color. The war hammer seemed to have torn apart the plane of space, and it actually carried traces of lightning. Lin Muyu secretly shouted that things were not going well. She held the sword in her right hand, and wisps of 7 luminaries Xian energy gathered on the blade. At the same time she opened her left hand and immediately condensed a 7-colored ribbon, which was the light of the second style of the astral arts, astral chain. In the next moment she waved her left hand, and the astral chain transformed into the power of thousands of astral domains, and pounced towards the opponent. At the same time she held the sword with both hands, and directly blasted out the power of the 6 luminaries' heavenly calamity. Boom! The power of both sides was too strong, and it actually formed the impact of a domain storm, causing the surrounding monsters and human soldiers to retreat. A mouthful of blood flowed out from the corner of Lin Muyu's mouth. He flew out like a kite with a broken string and fell into the mud in a sorry state. The originally pure white sacred temple armor had become a patch of mud in the blink of an eye. On the other hand, the monster leader wasn't any better. Together with the war wolf, he retreated dozens of meters, and the hand that was holding the war hammer was bleeding, splashing onto the ground with a pitter-patter. At this moment, Du Hai fiercely slashed the monster leader's neck from behind and shouted loudly, "Lin Muyu, why aren't you leaving yet? Scram, you're the foster son of the former emperor, your life is much more valuable than mine." Lin Muyu stood up in a sorry state, and found a war horse in the chaotic battlefield. He flipped over and rode the horse towards the direction of the city. Looking back, Du Hai and close to 10,000 human soldiers were howling miserably in the battle formation, dying one after another. Chapter 345. When Lin Muyu arrived at the city gate, Qin Yen and Shen Han came out to receive her. After she entered the city, the gate closed again. It seemed that Min Yulin had decided to give up on the imperial army outside the city. Moreover, the number of the monster army was increasing, and they had surrounded Du Hai and the others outside the city. It was unlikely that they would be able to return. The webbing between her thumb and forefinger was torn and bleeding, and she felt waves of pain. Blood splattered on the bricks of the city. With the help of Qin Yin, Lin Muyu walked to the top of the city gate step by step. Around her, the imperial generals were all pale. "Are you all right, Lady Lin Muyu?" Min Zhan, the commander of the Sky Cavalry, stepped forward and asked with concern. "I'm fine. Thank you for your concern, young general." Lin Muyu's expression was somewhat dejected. She walked to Min Yulin and said, "Marquis, we lost." Min Yulin's face was somewhat pale. He nodded slightly and said, "I know, this defeat is not your fault but mine. General Lin, you've worked hard." With that, Min Yulin frowned in pain. Were those monsters really that strong?" "Yes." After sitting down, Lin Muyu panted heavily. Those ordinary monsters were equivalent to the Earth realm. They had thick skin and flesh, and ordinary swords couldn't pierce through them. And then, the strength of the monster leader was even stronger. It was at least above the third level of the Saint realm. In the words of the cultivation world, it was close to the level of a god. Close to the level of a god. Min Yulin was dumbfounded. Where did these monsters come from? "I don't know either." Lin Muyu turned to look at the city gate. Her chest ached as if it had been pierced by thousands of arrows. General Du Hai is gone. The number one warrior of the empire is gone. Not necessarily. Min Zhan said, "General Du Hai was in the Saint realm. Maybe he could have fought his way out." "That won't happen." Lin Muyu stood up, pressed her bloody palm on the battlement and looked outside the city. The battle was coming to an end. The Monster Legion had wiped out 20,000 soldiers of the Yangwei Legion at a small cost, and the price they paid was no more than 2,000 people at most. Some of the monsters were devouring the corpses of the humans, while others were snatching the armor and weapons. One of the troops slowly approached the city, and the leader was the monster leader. He held a bloody head in his hand, and when he arrived at the city, he raised the head up high. It was Du Hai's head. Min Yulin couldn't help but close his eyes, his body trembling. "These bastards," Qin Yen gritted his teeth, "they actually really killed General Du Hai, these beasts." At that moment, a messenger rushed over and reported hurriedly, "Marquis, such monsters have appeared in the south, east and west of Winterfrost City. We've been surrounded." Min Yulin's body trembled slightly as he asked, "How many of them are there?" "A total of more than 50,000 people." "Got it. You can go now." "Yes." Min Yulin seemed to have aged many years and his eyes became cloudy. He looked at the crowd and asked, "Generals, tell me, what should we do at this moment?" Su Wenqian's face was ashen and he said, "We only have half of our troops left and I'm afraid we can't fight anymore. We can only ask for help and hope that Duke Lan and Duke Yun can send more troops. If there are 300,000 imperial troops, we can definitely wipe out this 50,000 monster army." Lin Muyu glanced at him and said, "The Empire doesn't have that many troops left, and even if there are, they are only new soldiers. If the new soldiers fight these monsters, it's the same as sending them to their deaths. What else can we do? Wait for death?" Su Wenqian said, gritting his teeth. Lin Muyu didn't want to argue with him. Wang Shi, Su Ying and the other generals were also at their wits' end. These monsters seemed to have descended from the sky, and their strength was frightening. This was truly terrifying. At this moment a captain said, "Marquis, they've come and they seem to be envoys." Min Yulin said, "Let them come." "Yes, Marquis." On the city wall, a dense number of arrows were aimed at the bottom of the city. At the bottom of the city wall was a human riding on a warhorse, with two monster guards following behind him. He wasn't afraid. He lifted his cloak and looked at the walls of Winterfrost City, then spurred his horse into the city. Under the escort of a group of human soldiers, he came to the top of the city wall with a disdainful smile. The group of imperial generals couldn't help but frown when they saw the monster up close. The monster's body exuded a foul stench, and it was indeed like a cockroach. "Looks like this is the commander of this human army." The newcomer's lips curled up as he spoke with a faint smile. Min Yulin nodded and said, "I am Marquis Min Yulin of the Qin Empire, and I am also the highest commander of the imperial army in Winterfrost City." "Who are you and who are you?" The newcomer smiled politely and cupped his fists. "I am Xin Xiang and I am here to speak to the Marquis on behalf of the divine race." "The divine race?" Min Yulin frowned and smiled. "Do these ugly things deserve to be called the divine race?" Xin Xiang looked at the two monsters behind him and smiled. To tell you the truth, Marquis, they are the lowest of the divine race. We call them armor demons. But they are also the bravest warriors of the divine race. I believe you have seen the armor demon general at the bottom of the city wall. His name is Lei Chong and he is the marshal of the Thunderchong Legion. As he spoke, Xin Xiang looked at Lin Muyu and cupped his fists respectfully. General Marshal Lei Chong praised you for your outstanding martial arts skills, but he also asked me to tell you that he will take your head sooner or later. Lin Muyu frowned. You don't deserve to be called the divine race. That's right. Xin Xiang laughed and said, when we were still ruling this continent, you humans called us the demon race. Demons? Min Yulin shuddered and murmured, haven't they been sealed and killed? Is that possible? Xin Xiang smiled and said, for tens of thousands of years, our demon race has been biding our time, waiting for this day. Now that this day has finally come, you humans should return this fertile land to us. What is your goal this time? Min Yulin asked coolly. Xin Xiang said, Marquis, please open the gates and surrender. The divine race will allow you to be slaves and spare your lives. And if I don't agree? Then wait to become a pile of dirt. Xin Xiang said with a smile. How dare you? Min Zhan shouted, capture them. Xin Xiang laughed out loud. Suddenly, streams of black dough chi gushed out from his body. He leaped down from the city wall and pulled out his sword to block the arrows on the city wall. After that, he floated down to the ground and left in a cloud of dust. On the wall, the two armor demons were cut into pieces by Lin Muyu, Qin Yan, and the others. Crimson blood splattered on the ground. What do we do now? Wang Shi was dejected, his eyes full of fear. Min Yulin looked at the crowd and asked, Generals, what do you think we should do? Su Ying cupped his hands and said, Marquis, according to my experience, this place is thousands of miles away from Lanyan City. The mountains and rivers are barren and the weather is unpredictable. I'm afraid the messenger birds we sent out will not make it to Lanyan City alive. It's almost impossible to wait for reinforcements. The only way out is to kill our way out. Infantry die, cavalry live. Infantry die, cavalry live. Min Yulin closed his eyes in pain. I didn't think that I, Min Yulin, would end up like this after all my achievements. Su Wendian said, we've already sent out at least 100 messenger birds. I'm sure South Ridge Province and Heaven's Pivot Province will receive them. Marquis, all we need to do now is wait. Min Yulin didn't speak. After a few seconds he sighed and said, bring 2 bowls and some stones. All officers above Chiliarch rank vote to decide whether to break out or wait for reinforcements. Not long after, the 2 bowls were filled with stones. However, it was clear that there were more people in favor of waiting for reinforcements. Everyone present had witnessed the demon race's combat prowess. Breaking out would only make them die a little faster. All of Winterfrost City fell into a deathly silence. Just a day ago, everyone had been celebrating their victory over Iha Nation. At night, the cold wind howled through the city. Torches flickered as Min Yulin entered the provisions camp, escorted by a group of guards. Qin Han, who was patrolling outside, immediately came up and said, Greetings, Marquis. Where's the chief attendant? He's recovering. Take me to him. Yes, Marquis. Before Min Yulin could enter the tent, Lin Muyu came out. Her arm was wrapped in white gauze and her face was pale. She said respectfully, I didn't know the Marquis was coming. Forgive me for not going out to meet you. There's no need to be so polite, chief attendant. Min Yulin said, I wonder how much longer the army's provisions will last. 8 days at most. That little? Yes, the subsequent provisions haven't been able to keep up. I've already sent people to exchange Jining coins for food, but the total population of Winterfrost City is less than 100,000. The land here is barren and winter has just passed, so the spring crops are not yet ripe. There are people starving to death every day, so there's not much food for us. Min Yulin nodded and said, pass down my order. From today onwards, everyone's rations will be halved. We must hold on for a little longer, or I'm afraid we won't be able to wait for reinforcements to return. Yes. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Although everyone was somewhat dissatisfied with the halving of rations, fortunately, nothing major happened. Late at night, Lin Muyu was cultivating with her eyes closed. She had only eaten a thin pancake for dinner, and her stomach was rumbling with hunger. Suddenly, Qin Yan opened the curtain and walked in with a hurried expression. Big brother, something bad has happened. The provisions camp is on fire. Fire? Lin Muyu trembled. Quick, go take a look. Order everyone to put out the fire immediately. Yes. When they arrived, the provisions camp was ablaze. Qin Han and the others carried buckets of water, but how could they extinguish this raging fire? Looking at the warehouses of rations turning to ashes, Lin Muyu felt a chill in her heart. She asked, why on earth did this fire happen? It's the fire arrows in the sky. In the sky. Lin Muyu looked up and saw the stars falling down from the sky. Indeed, it was a group of people in the sky. Many of the Empire soldiers on the ground were shooting arrows into the sky, but the arrows fell powerlessly after flying 100 meters high. They could not reach those mysterious shadows at all. Motherf *Ker, Lin Muyu flew forward and grabbed a javelin. Fighting aura swirled around her body, and she suddenly threw the javelin out. Whoosh! The javelin shot into the sky with a cold wind. In the next moment, a muffled grunt could be heard from afar. Immediately after, a black shadow landed on the main road of the underground city. Everyone walked over with torches in hand and surrounded it, only to discover that it was a human with wings. Perhaps it could not be considered a human because its face was extremely ugly, and it looked somewhat similar to an armor demon. It's the fiend race. Qin Yen gritted his teeth and said, among the troops of the fiend race there are troops that can fly. This group of bastards is clearly trying to starve us to death. Chapter 346. The gold-plated crane palace lantern flickered with a faint flame. Qin Yin was kneeling at the side of the Empress's long table, reading the dossiers and memorials handed to her by two maids. Further away, Feng Jixing, Su Yu and Xiang Yu were standing together with respectful expressions. Other than them, there was no one else in the review Zheng Hall. Is there still no news from the Yangwei army? Qin Yin didn't look up, and her brush continued to gently outline the strong handwriting on the memorial. No. Feng Jixing shook his head and said, since they sent the last letter in the eastern border of Cangnan province, there has been no news. Most likely because the climate and terrain in Lingdong province are very complicated, so the information is blocked. Even the messenger birds can't travel through the mountains and rivers to the imperial capital. But we can't be at our wits' end. Qin Yin frowned and said, Aunt Luo, immediately send a letter to the officials of Yunzhong province and ask them to send more people into Lingdong province to investigate the Yangwei army. We can't just sit and wait. Su Yu bowed and said, I know, Your Highness, please rest assured. Okay. Qin Yin put down the brush, looked at the contents of the memorial and nodded with satisfaction. She stood up and said, I haven't been sleeping well these days and my heart is restless. I always feel that something will happen. General Xiang Yu, how is the deployment of the army in Cangnan province? Xiang Yu cupped his fist and said, I have personally sent 100,000 troops to Wugu city, and they can receive the imperial army from Lingdong province at any time. Your Highness, please rest assured that nothing will happen. If it's convenient. Qin Yin looked at Xiang Yu and said, General Xiang, please go to Wugu city immediately and lead 100,000 troops to reinforce Lingdong province. Xiang Yu was stunned and said, Your Highness, Duke Lan and Duke Yun haven't learned about this yet. I'm afraid it's not appropriate for us to act rashly. Beside him, Feng Jixing said, Xiang Yu, you are the descendant of Xiang Wenian, the god of war and a general of the empire. If you don't listen to Her Highness's orders, whose orders do you want to listen to? Is Her Highness the Empress no longer in charge of the Qin Empire? Xiang Yu frowned and said, Your Highness, this subordinate has no intention of offending you, but please understand this subordinate's difficulties. The 100,000 troops deployed in Cangnan province are all from the Seven Seas province. All of the captaincy directly obey Duke Lan's orders. Without Duke Lan's handwritten orders, I'm afraid that even if this subordinate went to Five Valley City, I still wouldn't be able to mobilize the troops. I understand. Qin Yin picked up the imperial edict and said, I've written the edict. Take it to Duke Lan and tell him that this is my order. I hope Duke Lan will listen to it. Xiang Yu hurriedly stepped forward and respectfully received the imperial edict. He lowered his head and said, This subordinate will immediately go to the Duke's residence. Your Highness, please wait for a moment. All right, hurry up and come back soon. Yes. Xiang Yu turned and left, and Qin Yin watched him leave the Yuezhing Hall. At the same time, her beautiful eyes followed the night sky and looked toward the east. The stars were bright there, but she didn't know how the person she was thinking about was doing. Qin Yin wished she could grow a pair of wings and fly to Lingdong to see if Lin Muyu was doing well. However, the Empress's clothes were like a cage that firmly locked her here. Su Yu's eyes flickered. She saw Qin Yin's worry, so she smiled softly and said, Xiaoyin, don't worry. Nothing will happen to the 100,000 troops of the Yangwei Legion attacking Lingdong. The main force of the Iha nation's army is already in Lingdong, so you don't have to worry at all. Moreover, Min Yulin, the Marquis of Wuxia, has been on the battlefield for a long time and is good at leading troops. Yu is the great deacon of the Holy Temple and has extraordinary cultivation. It is even more impossible for anything to happen to him. Yes, I know. Thank you, Aunt Su. Qin Yin walked down the steps and came to Su Yu's side. She held Su Yu's hand and asked, How is grandfather's illness? It's just a cold. I have already asked the great deacon Chu Yao of the Panacea department to diagnose and prescribe. He should be fine after taking a few medicines. Don't worry about him. Yes. Qin Yin raised her head and glanced at Feng Jixing. Feng Jixing immediately bowed his head and cupped his fists in a respectful manner. General Feng, how about you propose to reorganize the Imperial Guards and the white-robed Imperial Guards at tomorrow's court meeting? Qin Yin said with a smile. Feng Jixing's face was full of calmness. Rest assured, Your Highness. This kind of thing can only be handled by me, Feng Jixing. Su Yu couldn't help but laugh and said, General Feng, rest assured. The matter of the Imperial Guards has been put on hold for too long. Father won't be in the palace tomorrow. Even if Duke Lan objects, this agenda should be passed. Feng Jixing nodded. Yes, let's hope so. Qin Yin blinked and said, Originally the Empire had 6 white-robed Imperial Guards. Now, only General Feng and General Du Hai are left. It's time to promote a new white-robed Imperial Guard. When Brother Yu returns victorious, I plan to promote him to white-robed Imperial Guard. What do you think? Feng Jixing laughed. Yu has an extraordinary cultivation base. With his ability and virtue, he deserves to be a white-robed Imperial Guard. Su Yu also smiled. Xiaoyin, since ancient times, the Emperor has decided on the candidates for the white-robed Imperial Guards and the Imperial Guards. You don't need to ask for anyone's permission. This is your right. Yes, thank you, Aunt Luan. The night breeze blew through Zetian Hall. The swaying pearl curtains slowly trembled and made a soft rustling sound. It was as if a young girl was expressing her unspeakable longing and expectation. Lingdong Province, Winterfrost City. What is this thing? In the main hall of the city, a group of people surrounded the corpse of a demon with bird wings. All of them were dumbfounded. This was the first time they had seen another branch of the demon race, the winged people. This was also the only branch of the demon race that could fly in the sky. They were also one of the few humanoids on the continent who could fly. Is this the thing that burned our rations? Min Yulin asked with a frown. Yes. Lin Muyu bowed and said, This subordinate was wrong to let these demons burn our rations. Please punish me, Marquis. Sigh. Min Yulin sighed and said, The demons are cunning. It's not your fault. General Lin Muyu, how much rations do we have left? How long can we last? All that's left is the Elixir Division's food that has been made into biscuits. It can only last for 2 days, Lin Muyu added, and that's only if the food is halved. Min Yulin gritted his teeth and said, Then let our brothers endure for another day. From now on, reduce the rations to 30% a day. This way we can last a few more days. If the Empire's reinforcements don't arrive soon, we can only kill the horses. Kill the horses? Min Zhan was the commander of the Sky Cavalry. He said with a pained expression, Father, without the war horses, we'll lose our advantage in speed and long-distance travel. I'm afraid none of us will be able to escape, Min Yulin said indifferently. Zhan, if we don't kill the horses, we'll all starve to death here, let alone escape. Yes, Father. Wang Shi, Su Wentian, Su Ying, and the other generals were also at their wits' end. It was at this time that a messenger came from afar and said with a panicked expression, Marquis, it's bad. The demons are attacking the city again. Again? Min Yulin raised his sword-like eyebrows and said, Generals, listen up. Defend Winterfrost City even if you die. Yes. Lin Muyu turned around and walked out of the mayor's residence with her hand on her sword. Outside, Qin Yin, Shin Han, and more than 200 soldiers of the Temple Battalion were waiting. After days of hard fighting, there were only so many people left. Big brother, the demons are attacking the city. I know. Follow me to the city wall. We must defend it. Yes. A group of people spurred on their horses and headed straight for the northern city wall of Winterfrost City. This was also the place that had been attacked the most. When Lin Muyu stepped on the city wall with the dragon spirit sword in her hand, she saw a dense demon army in the distance. All of them were armor demons. However, in the Yanghui Legion they were called cockroaches. They were very difficult to deal with. Their bodies were impenetrable and had terrifying attack power. The nearest armor demon carried a blunt long saber and hissed as it ran. Its scarlet eyes looked at the humans on the city wall excitedly. It roared and hit the base of the city wall. After taking a few steps back, it waved its long saber and slashed the bricks of the city wall. Suddenly, even Lin Muyu and the others felt the ground shaking. These armor demons were really a species that didn't care about their lives. "Bring me my bow," Lin Muyu ordered. A soldier of the Holy Temple camp handed her the carved bow. Lin Muyu raised her hand and pulled out an ordinary steel arrow. She put all her strength into her arms and pulled the hard bow into a full moon. Streaks of visible star power poured into the arrow. Because of the short distance, Lin Muyu's archery was much more accurate. With a swoosh sound, the arrow directly penetrated the head of the armor demon. Woo! The armor demon held its head and took a few steps back. It fell on the ground and twisted crazily. However, since its brain was damaged, it couldn't survive. It was only a matter of time before it died. "Great strength, great deacon." Shinhan couldn't help but praise. However, he didn't praise the accuracy of Lin Muyu's archery. Because Lin Muyu's accuracy was less than 30% from 100 m, but within 50 m her accuracy was almost 100%. Now that the armor demons were going to attack the city, Lin Muyu's strength and accuracy would naturally play a big role. Arrows fell from the top of the city like raindrops into the group of armor demons on the ground, causing endless clanking sounds. White diamond arrowheads were limited and could only be used by those who were good at archery. As for ordinary arrows, they could only be shot into the eyes and mouth of the armor demons, which was also the biggest weakness of the armor demons. However, the armor demons that were moving at a high speed could not be hit so easily. Instead, the Imperial Army's arrows were greatly consumed. The number of arrows in the city was decreasing day by day. Seeing the dense armor demons swarming towards the city, each of them charged forward without a care for their lives. Some of them even spread their wings and leaped nearly 20 m into the air, looking at the humans on the city with a ferocious expression. "These bastards!" Qin Yin shouted coldly and pulled back the arrow. An armor demon in the distance immediately fell to the ground. Shinhan said with a cold face, "They're hungry." "What did you say?" Lin Muyu asked. Shinhan said, "These armor demons eat human corpses. Almost all of our dead soldiers were eaten. The armor demons seem to have a huge appetite. At this moment they're hungry again." A burst of anger rose in her chest. Lin Muyu said fiercely, "Continue to defend, let them be hungry." Chapter 347. Including the Iron Infantry camp, there were over 50,000 corpses of human soldiers outside the city. They were all eaten by the armor demons, but they seemed to be in a state of hunger again, which made Lin Muyu's heart cold. This was enough to prove that the number of armor demons was at least 10 times that of the first day. Now there were at least 100,000 armor demons surrounding Winterfrost City. "Watch out!" Qin Yin shouted loudly, but it was too late. Puchi. A soldier of the temple camp was pierced through by a spear thrown by an armor demon. The force was too great and the spear pierced through his heart. When he fell he was already a corpse. This was the most powerful and only long-range attack of the armor demons. Although their accuracy was poor, once they hit the target, it was almost certain death. That was how the corpses of the Empire soldiers on the city wall were formed. Lin Muyu continued to shoot arrows down the city wall as if there was no one around her. She used the first move of star tactics, initial appearance of starlight, and infused her Xian energy into the arrows. She killed the armor demons one by one, which amazed Min Zhan, Wang Shi and the others. This was the cultivation of the people from the Holy Temple. As a result, a thick layer of armor demons' corpses piled up in front of Lin Muyu, which attracted more armor demons. They kept throwing iron spears and the 3-meter-long iron spears whooshed in the air. It was very frightening. Fortunately, Lin Muyu was not afraid of such attacks at all. Golden light appeared around her, and the wall of the calabash was enough to defend her. Moreover, she was wearing a thick layer of battle armor, which made it even more difficult for the armor demons to hurt her. The armor demons' siege lasted until late at night. Finally they retreated like the tide. A military advisor walked over and looked at the pile of corpses outside the city in astonishment. He cupped his fists and said respectfully, "Great Deacon, did you kill all these armor demons by yourself?" "No, I killed them with everyone else," said Lin Muyu. The military advisor was dumbfounded. Great Deacon, you may be braver than General Du Hai. Lin Muyu's expression darkened. Unfortunately, the great general still died in Lei Chang's hands. By the side, Qin Yan said with a smile, Lord Advisor, aren't you all in charge of collecting heads and so on to record battle merits? My big brother killed at least hundreds of armor demons by himself today. How should we calculate this achievement? The military advisor cupped his fists respectfully and said, Young Prince, based on the Great Deacon's contributions, he has killed 100 demons and can be promoted to captaincy. But the Great Deacon is the Great Deacon of the temple. He may be promoted to a commander. Qin Yan patted his shoulder and said, Then after we return to the imperial capital, you have to clear my big brother's name. Such a person with such outstanding contributions is actually being ostracized and unable to enter the empire's military system. There's simply no justice in this world. The advisor's body trembled and he smiled, These things? I am just a lowly official in the army, I don't know much. Just tell me the truth. Yes, as long as I return to Lanyan City alive, I will report the merits of this battle to the Grand Deacon. Good, it's a promise. After dismissing the military advisor, the Marquis of Divine Might Minulin walked up the city walls under the escort of a group of generals. Looking at the vast expanse outside the city and the corpses of the Empire soldiers on the walkway, he frowned and said, The demons' attacks are becoming fiercer and fiercer. It seems that they have also sensed that our rations are severely lacking. Lin Muyu said, Marquis, if they really want us to starve to death in the city, there's no need to forcefully attack the city like this. The dead armor demons will only be wasted for nothing. Young General thinks that there's a trap? Minulin asked in surprise. Yes, at least this is unusual, Lin Muyu said calmly. If that's the case. Minulin said, We have no other way but to take things one step at a time and do our best to delay the demon's attack. Hopefully the reinforcements will arrive one day earlier. Yes. The armor demons have already left. Open the city gates and draw the arrows. Otherwise the arrows in the city will be used up in 2 days. Yes. After Minulin left, Lin Muyu took Qin Yan, Qin Han, and the others out of the city to draw the arrows. After defending the city for so many days, drawing arrows seemed to be a daily routine. Apart from them, Min Zhan, Su Ying, Chai Hong, and the other commanders also led people out of the city to draw arrows. However, they didn't bring many people in case the demons came back and suffered too many losses. When Qin Yan pulled a white drill arrow out of the mouth of a demon, strands of green blood splattered out. He couldn't help but frown and say, What the hell? Why is this demon's blood green? On the other side, Qin Han also nodded and said, It's the same here. Today's armor demons actually have green blood. What's going on? Lin Muyu said, They're all monsters anyway. Who cares? Clean up the arrows and don't touch them with your hands to prevent infection. When you return to camp, remember to wash the arrowheads with boiling water. Otherwise they can't be used again. Understood? Yes. Although Qin Han accepted the order, he asked in astonishment, Great Deacon, why do we need to wash them with boiling water? This subordinate has never seen such a strange method in so many years. Could it be that this can make the arrows even sharper? No. Lin Muyu explained simply, I'm just worried that there's a virus on the armor demons' bodies. We can't handle this kind of virus, so we need to disinfect them. Anyway, it's always better to be more cautious. This method of burning them with boiling water is called disinfecting. But even if I said it, you guys probably wouldn't understand at all. Qin Yan and Qin Han both nodded and said, We really don't understand at all. I knew it. At night, after returning to camp, they were completely exhausted. All they could get for dinner was half a large army flatbread. Lin Muyu sat on the millstone beside the temple's camp, watching Qin Han and the others disinfect the arrowheads from afar. At the same time, she held a bowl of vegetable soup in her hands and chewed on the flatbread. At this time, Qin Yan walked over with 2 thick flatbread in his hands. He handed it to Lin Muyu and said with a smile, Big brother, eat more to have the strength to kill the enemy. Where did you get this from? Lin Muyu asked in surprise. Qin Yan smiled slightly, The people of the Spirit Fire Department are all our people. Isn't it an easy task to get 2 more flatbread? Lin Muyu pushed the flatbread away and returned it to Qin Yan saying, Yan, you eat it. I've had enough. Big brother, don't lie. You have a strong body. This half flatbread doesn't even have 1 tail. How can you be full? You are the commander of our temple camp. If you don't have the strength to kill the enemy, what will the soldiers do? Qin Yan's face was flushed red. He was still too young and immature. Although his cultivation was shocking, he was still like a child. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh, saying, "All right then, we'll split it in half." "Good, that's more like it." Qin Yan put the long spear to the side and picked up the vegetable soup to smell. He smiled, saying, "In the past I felt that eating meat soup was too greasy. But now eating this vegetable soup I actually feel that it's delicious." Interesting. Lin Muyu was a little sad, saying, "Yin, it's all my fault for bringing you guys into this dangerous place. You guys are still young and shouldn't have died here. But don't worry, I will do my best to bring you guys back to Lanyan City alive." Qin Yan was taken aback and his eyes were a little red as he said, "Big brother, what are you saying? Ever since my brother died in battle, Yin has long treated you as my only family. You, Lin Muyu, are my big brother and will always be. If we really die in battle here, Yin will definitely not regret it. It's just that, big brother, you're different. Her Highness the Empress and Princess, she both love you so much. The two of you should have lived happily together and not die a humiliating death in this damn place." Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. He reached out and patted his shoulder, saying, "Good brother, it definitely won't happen. We can walk out of Winter Mountain alive." The next morning, Lin Muyu slowly woke up. The 7 planets' profound energy and the power of the stars were slowly circulating in her body, and there was actually a feeling of mutual reflection. These two powers didn't clash with each other, which was a good thing. "Great Deacon, are you awake?" Qin Han's voice came from outside the tent. Lin Muyu got up and put on her armor, saying, "I'm awake, what's wrong?" "Something big happened." "Oh, what happened?" "This morning many of our brothers fell sick. They have headaches and fever and many of their eyes are bloody. I don't know what's going on. Great Deacon, quickly come and take a look." "En?" Lin Muyu hurriedly went out of the tent. Qin Yan, Qin Han, and the others were all waiting. Heading towards the wounded barracks, they could see 6 soldiers lying on the ground from afar. Almost all of their symptoms were the same. Their faces were red, their foreheads were burning, and their eyes were bloodshot. Their bodies were weak and their high fever didn't subside. "What's going on?" Lin Muyu asked. "They've been suffering from this strange illness since last night." A medical officer of the Spirit Medicine Department said respectfully, "My lord, we are unable to diagnose what their illness is. It's not heat poison, nor is it an ordinary high fever. Furthermore, after these 6 soldiers were sent here, they actually infected the original wounded soldiers here, causing them to also have high fever that won't subside." "Isolate all the people with high fever," Lin Muyu said indifferently. "Don't let them come into contact with anyone in case they get infected again." "Yes." Lin Muyu looked at Qin Yan and said, "Yin, investigate which army these 6 soldiers belong to, and what similar things they have done." Qin Yan nodded. "Yes." Not long after, Qin Yan returned and said, "Big brother, I found out. Almost all of these soldiers participated in the arrow extraction mission after yesterday's battle." As expected, those demons. Lin Muyu gritted her teeth and punched a stone pillar at the side, saying angrily, "We've been tricked. The armor demons that attacked the city yesterday were already infected. The demons are so vicious they want to send the plague into Winterfrost City." "Then, what about these sick brothers?" Qin Yan asked. "I don't know either. Let's wait for the Marquis to arrive first." Amen. Not long after, Mingyulin rode his horse to the casualty barracks. Lin Muyu immediately summarized the situation. Mingyulin's expression was very grave and he was silent. "Marquis, what should we do?" "There are more and more people infected," Su Wenian said urgently. "Even a few Kiliarchs under my command have been infected. The demon clan is trying to kill us all." Mingyulin closed his eyes in pain, his eyelids trembling continuously. He murmured, "Seal off the casualty barracks. No one is allowed to approach. Immediately bury all the infected people. No one is to disobey. Bury the Empire soldiers alive." Su Wenqian's face was full of shock. Chapter 348. On August 2nd, year 7734 of the Empire calendar, Winterfrost City ran out of food and had to kill horses for food. According to Minulin's order, they started with the war horses of the ordinary cavalrymen, followed by the sergeants, centurions and Kiliarchs. At the same time, the demons used arrows to send the plague into Winterfrost City. This plague killed nearly 20,000 Imperial soldiers and 50,000 civilians. It was summer, and the stench of corpses filled the air in Winterfrost City. Since then, no one dared to look down on the intelligence of the demons. Everyone believed that the high-level demons were not fools. At night, the stars were dim. Lin Muyu rode her horse slowly on the streets of Winterfrost City. She could only see corpses that had starved to death. Many houses were closed, but there was a disgusting stench coming from inside. Most likely, a family had starved to death. Originally, Lin Muyu thought that the Yangwei army would bring the empire back to Lingdong province, but she did not expect that it would only bring death. However, even if the Yangwei army did not come, this place would still be in a desperate situation because the demons would eventually come. "Great Deacon, there are corpses over there," Shinhan said. "Stuff their mouths and noses with cloth and bury them on the spot." Yes. This was Lin Muyu's job these days. She led the temple camp to bury the corpses everywhere. After the plague, the temple camp had shrunk from nearly 300 people to about 150. They could see people dying every day and everyone seemed to have gotten used to it. From the initial discomfort when they saw the corpses, they were now indifferent. This was the change after the baptism of war. At this moment, they were no longer the high and mighty cultivators in the temple camp, but just soldiers of the empire. "Still no news from the capital?" Lin Muyu asked. "No." Qin Yin shook his head, his face full of desolation as he said, "Big brother, you've also seen the winged people of the demon race. I'm guessing that the messenger bird we released was most likely intercepted and killed by these winged people in the air. Otherwise, the imperial capital would have sent 1 or 2 letters to Winterfrost City no matter what." Yes. Lin Muyu thought about it carefully. What Qin Yin said was right. No one knew when the devil race had formed an encirclement around Winterfrost City, and their winged people must have already sealed off the sky. Therefore, Winterfrost City could not send or receive a letter. This place was completely sealed off. Perhaps in the eyes of the devil race, this Yangwei army was like a rabbit in a cage, ready to be slaughtered and cooked at any time. Qin Yin continued saying, "Originally, there weren't many warhorses left in the army, not more than 3,000. Among them, close to half were infected with the plague and can't be eaten. Only 1,500 are left. It's simply not enough to eat 30,000 people. 20 people eating a horse, how many days can it last? I'm afraid I'll have to stop eating in 3 days at most." Lin Muyu kept quiet and after a while she asked, "Did the Marquis order the slaughter of our war horses?" "Yes, the order arrived this morning. The Marquis said that apart from me, you and Lord Shinhan's war horses, the rest of the war horses will be handed over to young General Minjian tomorrow morning, and he will slaughter and distribute them." Lin Muyu was stunned and reached out to caress the warhorse he was sitting on. This horse was chosen by Qin Yin from the stable in Zetian Palace Hall, but in a few days he might not even be able to keep this horse. Late at night, when he returned to the barracks, the people from the spiritual fire department sent meat soup. It was freshly cooked horse meat soup. Lin Muyu was given a big bowl and it could be considered as a full meal. At this time he didn't dare to wake Acatosaurus. This little guy had a huge appetite and could eat a horse in one meal. At this time he definitely couldn't afford to keep it, so he let it continue to sleep in the different space. After starving for so many days to suddenly eat meat, it was a strange feeling. Lin Muyu chewed on the horse meat in big mouthfuls, but he couldn't taste it, as if he was drinking poison to quench his thirst. After eating he sat in the barracks to cultivate the star arts, but he was still unable to break through to the 3rd stage of the star arts, and this made him extremely frustrated. In the middle of the night, there was suddenly a loud bang from the north. What happened? Lin Muyu hurriedly stepped out of the barracks and Qin Yin was already walking over with his spear. "I don't know, it seems like something happened at the north gate." "It can't be?" Lin Muyu's heart sank and said, "Follow me immediately." The two of them rode side by side and the rest of the soldiers could only walk, because the war horses had already been slaughtered for meat. The north wall was ablaze and when Lin Muyu rushed over, he saw a large hole in the wall. The city was in flames and a group of soldiers were surrounding a large fire pit, and there was a meteorite there. "A heavenly ominous star, there will be a great calamity," an old soldier said shakily. "Don't be an alarmist." Lin Muyu walked over and said with a frown, "It's just a meteorite, what dogsh asterisk t ominous star, if you continue to spread lies, I'll chop you up immediately." That old soldier hurriedly knelt down and said with a trembling body, "My lord, please spare me, this lowly one will not dare to do it again." Lin Muyu could not bear to see him like this, and went forward to help him up and explained, "There will always be some small celestial bodies flying in the universe and they are called meteorites. This is a kind of natural phenomenon and not some ominous star." How could the old soldier understand? He only nodded his head. My lord is wise. Lin Muyu looked at a blazing meteorite. It was about the size of a millstone, but its power was truly astonishing, creating a large hole with a radius of 5 meters on the city wall. From inside the city one could see outside the city. Quickly repair the city wall. It must be repaired before dawn tomorrow, or else the demons will get the news very soon. Lin Muyu ordered. On the side, a Chiliarch immediately said respectfully, Yes, young general. This person was from 7C City, and looked somewhat familiar. He had probably fought with her in the demon-subduing pass, but she had long forgotten who he was. After all, Lin Muyu was also a person with face blindness. After waiting for a while, when the temperature of the meteorite had dissipated, Lin Muyu took out the dragon spirit sword, and abruptly pierced through the meteorite and carried it back to the camp. This was his spoils of war for tonight. Moreover, the heavens seemed to know what he needed. The third layer of the stellar arts required him to directly communicate with the celestial bodies, and after refining the stardust, he would be able to comprehend the third layer of profound strength. Lin Muyu really needed power. He needed the power of the stellar arts to be able to bring everyone out of this ghost town. Thinking of the demon army marshal called Lei Chong, Lin Muyu couldn't help but tremble. Lei Chong's strength was too strong. Even if he and Du Hai teamed up, they would still be no match for him. Such a terrifying opponent would further motivate Lin Muyu to become even stronger. Returning to the camp, he took out the crafting cauldron and began to refine the stardust. The millstone-sized meteorite slowly turned in the crafting cauldron, and was constantly being refined by the star flame. This process was relatively long, and after burning for nearly 3 hours, the meteorite was already a fiery red. The stardust on the surface of the meteorite turned into rays of starlight that lingered in the crafting cauldron, and was completely vaporized. The star power hidden in the stardust also turned into rays of azure blue, fiery red, and dark green light that flew in the crafting cauldron, and finally seeped into Lin Muyu's body. However, the physique that possessed the stellar arts seemed to be very greedy, and was not satisfied with this small amount of star power. In the blink of an eye, 5 days had passed, and Lin Muyu had also refined the stardust for a full 5 days. When the meteorite had been refined from the size of a millstone to the size of a teacup, the star power in his Yi-Hai had finally reached a full level. Is it done? Lin Muyu put away the crafting cauldron, and her face was full of sweat. She slowly exerted force on her arm, and suddenly the stardust radiance spread around her arm, and slowly gathered in her palm, actually forming a mountain-like stardust energy. The power contained in it was far from comparable to the power of the rocks in the Broken Cauldron world. Lin Muyu gently pushed out her arm, and the starstone in her palm rapidly protruded, like a sharp knife piercing through the air. Unfortunately, there were no rocks in the barracks that could be used for experiments. However, Lin Muyu could still feel the tyrannical power of this move. In the martial arts of the stellar arts, this move was called 5 Mountains Descend from the Sky. It was a combination of rocks, earth, and fine iron, and it was an extremely powerful attack. With a light wave of her palm, she dispersed the power of the stellar arts, and the rock naturally turned into streaks of starlight that seeped into her body. At this time, Lin Muyu felt an extremely comfortable feeling. Her body was full of power, and she had reached an unprecedented level of power. Moreover, in the process of cultivating the stellar arts, Lin Muyu's own strength was also slowly increasing. Right now, she should have already reached the peak of the 3rd level of the heavenly realm, and breaking through to the sacred domain was only a matter of time. At this time, Qin Yan's voice came from outside. Big brother, the situation isn't too good. What's wrong? Lin Muyu asked. The people of 7C City are causing trouble in the northern plaza. Causing trouble? Lin Muyu frowned, and after putting on her armor, she grabbed the dragon spirit sword and said, Follow me to take a look. Yes. When they arrived at the northern plaza, they saw a large group of 7C City soldiers sitting powerlessly on the ground. In addition, there were a few captaincy standing on the wooden scaffolding used to mend the city walls. Their faces were flushed red as they said in an impassioned voice, Brothers, the soldiers of our 7C's province are also soldiers of the Empire. Why can't we eat? The Marquis is just too biased. The rations of the Sky Cavalry and Divine Bow Unit are 3 times ours. Why can they eat their fill while our 7C City soldiers go hungry? The group of soldiers responded one after another. At this time, Minjian led a group of Sky Cavalry over, his gaze cold as he said loudly, What are you shouting about? What are you talking about? How can our Sky Cavalry eat so much? Are you blind? The Sky Cavalry eats the same thing every day as you. We don't eat a single extra bite. Bullshit. A7C City Chiliarch stretched out a finger and said, "Look, your sky cavalry has so many warhorses, at least 30 of them. Why don't you kill them for us to eat?" Min Zhan's face was ashen as he shouted loudly, "Wang Shi, why don't you restrain your subordinates?" Wang Shi was the commander of the 7C City Army and naturally understood the pros and cons. He frowned and said, "Young general, we are only soldiers fighting. How can we fight if we don't eat our fill?" "You think we can eat our fill?" Min Zhan's face was full of anger. Chapter 349. The Marquis is here. The Marquis is here. In the distance, Min Yulin rode over. He wore a Marquis' cloak and looked at everyone with a pale face. "What happened?" Min Zhan said, "Father, the people of Qihai City are causing trouble. They say they don't have enough to eat." "Everyone doesn't have enough to eat." Min Yulin's eyes turned cold. "But so what? Even if they can't eat their fill, they have to hold on until the reinforcements arrive." Wang Shi cupped his fists. "Does the Marquis know when the reinforcements will arrive?" "I don't know," Min Yulin said lightly, "but I know Her Highness will not abandon us. I know Duke Lan and Duke Yun will not abandon the soldiers of the Empire. So we must continue to wait." Wang Shi was silent and did not say anything else. Lin Muyu brought Qin Yin and the rest up the city walls, looking at the demon army camp from afar. After so many days of observation, the demon army seemed to have started to become orderly. They were currently learning things such as military law and discipline from the human army. They were no longer like a swarm of bees when they first saw them. They could even see the fluttering flags in the demon camp from afar. They didn't know what they believed in, but there must be something they believed in. Perhaps it was the 9 great gods of ancient times. "How many days has it been since the demons attacked the city?" Lin Muyu asked. 4 days, Qin Yin answered. Qin Yin replied, "Ever since that plague we no longer dared to go out of the city to pull arrows. The remaining arrows have almost all been used up. The iron in the smithy in the city has all been melted to forge arrows, but it is far from enough. In a few more days, I'm afraid that we won't even have the strength to kill our way out." Yes. At night there was a sudden commotion in the city. When Lin Muyu walked out of her tent, one of Min Yulin's personal guards galloped over and shouted, "General, the Marquis wants you to go to the central camp for orders." "Yes, I know." Lin Muyu leapt onto her horse and followed behind. Qin Yin and Shin Han followed closely beside her. When they entered the city lord's great hall, they discovered that Min Zhan, Su Ying and the others were also there. The only one missing was 7C City Commander Wang Shi. "Marquis." Min Yulin nodded. "Young general, there's been a mutiny in the army." "Mutiny?" "Yes, Wang Shi is leading 5,000 soldiers of 7C City to the north gate. They are threatening to open the city gate. They are not willing to sit still and wait for death. Our Fire Halberd City has always been at odds with 7C City, so it is not appropriate for us to suppress them. I will give you 10,000 soldiers now. Immediately bring them to the north gate to suppress Wang Shi's mutiny." "Yes." Lin Muyu stepped forward to receive the token. Min Zhan and Su Ying followed behind her. This time Min Zhan and Su Ying had to listen to Lin Muyu's orders. At this critical moment, his identity as the Imperial Emperor's foster son seemed to be useful. Leading his 10,000 men straight to the north gate, he could see Wang Shi and the 7C City's men from afar, currently pulling on the iron chains of the city gate to open it. "Wang Shi," Qin Yin said loudly, "are you mad? The armored demon army is just a few hundred meters away. Do you want to let them into the city?" Wang Shi's face was full of anger as he said, "I don't care. I can't watch my brothers starve to death in Winterfrost City. They will die if they kill their way out, but they will die if they stay in the city. Do not open the gate." Min Zhan shouted angrily. "No one move." Wang Shi's eyes were fierce as he said, "Archers, get ready. If they dare take another step forward, immediately shoot them dead." "Don't move." Lin Muyu raised her hand and said, "It is not worth it to die in the hands of our own people. Let them out of the city. Qin Yin, Qin Han, take some men to the city walls. Once they leave the city, immediately seal the gate. Don't let the demons take advantage of the situation." "Yes." Min Zhan had a look of shock. "General, are we really letting them out of the city? Are they committing treason?" "It is not treason when people are about to die," Lin Muyu said indifferently. Finally, the city gate slowly rose with the sound of iron chains twisting. The 5,000 soldiers of 7C City quickly left the city. Wang Shi rode his horse at the front of the formation with his weapon in hand and shouted, "Men, raise the white flag." The white flag in the army swayed as Wang Shi raised his weapon high and shouted, "My lords of the divine race, we surrender. We are willing to be your slaves. We only ask for our lives." Lin Muyu climbed up the city wall and watched Wang Shi's men leave the city from afar. She felt very upset. The demonic army seemed to have noticed the situation in Winterfrost City and immediately surrounded them. An armored demon carrying a battle axe walked forward and sniffed Wang Shi's scent. Wang Shi was so scared that he trembled all over and said in a trembling voice, "Lord Pros, we surrender with sincerity." Brr. The armored demon roared at Wang Shi's face. Its aura was so strong that the muscles on Wang Shi's face were almost twisted. The next moment he swung the battle axe in his hand and Wang Shi's head immediately flew into the air. "Bastard!" A7C City Captaincy shouted with a livid face. "These demons have no humanity at all. Brothers, fight it out with them. Even if we die, we have to die happily." Yes. The two sides quickly collided and a few minutes later, it became a massacre. The people of 7C City were already so hungry that they had no strength. Moreover, fighting in the wild was what the demons were good at. "Should we leave the city to help them?" Qin Yan asked. Lin Muyu shook her head slowly. "Leaving the city at this time is suicide. Don't go. Quickly close the city gate." "Yes." A group of soldiers hurriedly pulled the noose to lower the gate. Right then, the armored demons who were close to the gate also noticed the situation. They spread their wings and flew over here while uttering shrill shrieks. They were about to rush into the gate. "Don't move, I'll go." Lin Muyu pulled out the dragon spirit sword and rushed down. With a slash, an armored demon's head and shoulders were cut into two with a kacha sound. She turned and leaped up to avoid the sweeping axe of another armored demon. She raised her battle boots and kicked its face. That ugly face instantly twisted and two sharp teeth flew into the air. Lin Muyu pulled out a little demon noise blade from her waist. At the same time the blade cut off the arm of another armor demon. The little demon noise blade swept through the air and cut the throat of the armor demon in front of her. However, more and more armor demons appeared in the distance. There were almost 100 of them rushing over. Courting death. Lin Muyu's face was full of anger. As she spun, streams of astral energy gathered in her palm. At the same time, her whole body felt like it was being torn apart. Her arm was almost broken by the vigorous astral energy. Starlight suddenly blossomed, turning into a horizontal shock wave that blasted out. In an instant, almost 100 meters below the city seemed to have turned into a bright galaxy. 7 glorious stars transformation. Boom. The astral energy rushed out like breaking dry weeds and smashed a large group of armor demons into a pile of minced meat. The power of the entire heaven and earth seemed to have completely erupted at this moment. Time froze. Everyone on the city wall was already dumbfounded. What kind of person could kill over 100 armor demons with one palm? Jie? Lin Muyu panted heavily. Her eyes were bloodshot as she looked at the pile of minced meat of armor demons in front of her. She leaped up and wrapped the gourd vines around the wall. After 2 leaps she landed on the city wall. "Great Deacon. This move of yours is so powerful," Min Zhan said with a face full of admiration. However, Lin Muyu's face was livid. She let out a cry and spat out a mouthful of blood. She fell on the cold bricks of the city wall. The muscles all over her body twitched. She was in so much pain that she clenched her teeth and curled up there. This was the price of using the 7 glorious stars transformation. Not only her soul, but even her body would also suffer from the crazy backlash of the 7 glorious stars transformation. "Big brother." Qin Yin rushed forward to help him up. His heart ached so much that his tears were about to fall. "Big brother, are you all right? Help me back to the camp." Lin Muyu's voice was like a mosquito's buzz. "Amen." Qin Yin and Shin Han hurriedly helped him up and hurried back to the camp. No one could save Lin Muyu. The only way to save him was to rely on his own body's recovery. Min Zhan and Su Ying looked at each other. They could see the reverence and heartache in each other's eyes. Lin Muyu's attack was truly soul-stirring. At the same time, it also made the soldiers on the city wall dumbfounded. No one knew that a human's strength could be strong to this extent. Raising his head, Min Zhan saw that Wang Shi's troops in the distance had all been slaughtered. The so-called fight with the devil race. Actually, the total number of armor demons killed would not exceed 10. The disparity in strength was too great. At this moment, Min Zhan's gaze had an additional hint of determination as he said, "Defend the city for me. The empire is not destroyed." This short sentence gave the soldiers on the city wall an additional trace of confidence. At this moment, thousands of miles away in the suppressing demon pass, the sky was filled with stars. The summer night breeze gently swept past, so cool that it was intoxicating. On top of the city wall, a beautiful girl wearing short boots was sitting on the battlement with her graceful figure. Behind her, a light muslin robe swayed gently in the wind. Her gaze was looking at the distant east. Suddenly, her heart ached slightly and she let out a whimper. "Princess, what's wrong?" Beside her, Tang Zhen, who was guarding with a group of guards, could not help but ask. "Nothing." Tang Xiaoxi shook her head in pain and said, "Tang Zhen, I suddenly feel uneasy for no reason. I always feel that something has happened." "I'm worried that Lin Muyu will," Tang Zhen smiled slightly. "Your Highness, rest assured. 2 days ago the imperial capital just received the news of the Yangwei army. They have successfully defeated the 70,000 Iha country troops led by Man Feng, the son of Marquis Xiang. Moreover, it was a complete victory. Master Lin Muyu will definitely be fine." That was only the letter from half a month ago. After that, there was no more. Tang Xiaoxi's eyes were like water as she said, "The letter from Lingdong province to Lanyan city is at most 5 days. Why is it like this? I don't understand." "Tang Zhen, from now on, you will guard the suppressing demon pass. You have to get along well with Ling Hu Yen and don't make trouble. I will go back to the imperial capital tomorrow. I can't stay here any longer. No, I have to go back to the imperial capital now. Prepare the horse immediately. Xiaoyin must also need me at this time." "Princess, do it immediately." "Yes." Chapter 350. On the 9th day of the 8th month, the weather was so hot that it seemed like it was going to roast everything on the earth. What was even worse was that Winterfrost City had been without any food supplies for almost 4 days. Lin Muyu's warhorse had also been slaughtered, and even Min Yulin's own mount had been used as food, but it was still to no avail. The remaining 20,000 soldiers had eaten almost everything in Winterfrost City. The barks of the trees in the city had all been stripped bare, and many soldiers had dug 3 feet into the ground in search of earthworms, rats, and other animals. The entire city was deathly silent. With her stomach rumbling, Lin Muyu held the hilt of the dragon spirit sword at her waist as she walked step by step on the city's main street. Wherever her gaze passed, she saw the imperial soldiers sitting powerlessly on the side of the road. None of them had the strength to stand up and walk, much less carry out their daily training. "Big brother." Qin Yin ran over excitedly, wiped his chapped lips and said, "Let's go back to camp quickly. I've made some delicious food. Perhaps it can fill your stomach a little." Lin Muyu followed him back to the camp and saw that Chen Han was boiling a large pot. A faint fragrance came from the pot and he couldn't help but ask in surprise, "What is this? Didn't we already eat everything 2 days ago?" "You'll know very soon." After a while, Qin Yin lifted the lid of the pot and saw pieces of black stuff rolling about in the boiling water. It was precisely these things that were emitting a faint fragrance. Lin Muyu couldn't help but frown and say, "What is this?" Cowhide taken out from the armor." Qin Yin said excitedly, "Although the cowhide is impervious to fire and water, it will actually loosen up like pigskin after boiling it for 2 hours. I believe that the taste must be pretty good. Big brother, you sit down. I'll scoop a bowl for you in a while. You just wait to enjoy a delicious meal." Lin Muyu laughed wryly, "I only need a little. Give some more to the brothers. They've been hungry for many days." "Okay, I got it." A few minutes later, a bowl of soup was served to Lin Muyu. A palm-sized piece of cowhide was floating on top of the soup. The skin had been boiled and emitted a faint fragrance. Lin Muyu picked it up with chopsticks and took a bite, but it was tasteless as if she was biting a piece of hard paper. Lin Muyu frowned. She didn't care so much and quickly chewed. She swallowed the piece of cowhide with a gulp. She didn't know what it tasted like at all, but at least there was something in her stomach. At this moment, a messenger shouted from outside the camp, "Great Deacon Lin Muyu of the temple camp, the Marquis has summoned all the generals for a meeting." "Got it. I'll go right away." "All right." Lin Muyu stood up and instructed Qin Yin and Chen Han to pack up the camp. She then went to the city lord's mansion. The generals in the city lord's mansion all had pale faces. Even Min Yulin's complexion was not very good. His face was frighteningly pale. Presumably he was not like this when he was in Lanyan City. "Generals." Min Yulin slowly stood up with the support of an iron spear. His marquee robe was wrinkled from sitting for too long. He looked at the crowd and said lightly, "We are ready to go home." A captaincy of Muyu City was stunned. "Marquis, we are surrounded by the demons. How can we go home?" Min Yulin smiled and said, 5 days ago General Chai Hong, the commander of the Tomahawk Battalion, led his men to dig a tunnel under the east wall of the city. The tunnel is 2 miles long, completely out of the demons' encirclement. We will retreat tonight. Every battalion, summon centurions and above to retreat together. Lin Muyu's heart sank. What about the ordinary soldiers? Min Yulin shook his head. If there are too many, the demons will definitely notice. Centurions and above are all elites of the empire. Where there is life there is hope. When we return to Lanyan City we can still recruit new soldiers. With some training they will become a strong army. It won't be too late to avenge the soldiers who died in Winterfrost City. Su Ying nodded. The Marquis's words are reasonable. Every battalion do as I say. Lin Muyu didn't say anything more. She cupped her fists and said, yes. Time passed. At night the stars dimmed. Lin Muyu led Qin Yan, Qin Han, and a few other centurions and above to the east side of the city. Along the way they only saw silent imperial soldiers sitting on both sides of the road. Some of them had been dead for a long time and had died of starvation. As for the tens of thousands of people in Winterfrost City, they had long since died of starvation. Many of them had their last rations stolen by the imperial army, so they naturally couldn't continue living. Qin Yan frowned and said, the rest can only stay here and wait for death? Qin Han sighed and didn't speak. Lin Muyu said lightly, keep our bodies that are still useful and then avenge them. I didn't think that the demons would descend from the sky before the Iha nation's blood debt was settled. Qin Yan said, compared to the Iha nation the demons are probably even more cruel. And they eat people. Lin Muyu was silent. The fire ahead flickered but no one spoke. Min Yulin stood at the edge of the cave in his marquee robes, watching the officers of the Tomahawk Battalion enter. There were 7,000 to 8,000 people in the Tomahawk Battalion, so there were 70 to 80 high-ranking officers added together. After entering the cave, old General Su Ying raised his hand and said, let's wait for Commander Chai Hong to understand the situation at the cave's exit first. Protect the marquee and retreat after it's safe. Everyone cupped their fists and said in a low voice, yes. However, Chai Hong and the others did not come out after entering the cave. After nearly 2 hours, Min Yulin frowned and said, what's going on? Why did it take so long? Min Zhan, go down and take a look. Yes, father. Min Zhan pulled out his sword and jumped into the cave. But in the next moment, he flipped out with a leg covered in muddy water and said, father, it's bad, it's all water. What? Min Yulin turned pale with fright. Seeing that the water at the entrance of the cave was about to be level with the ground, the people who had entered the cave must have all drowned. Su Ying's face was full of pain as he said, it's over? This group of bastard demons must have found the cave, so they dug up the water of the Dao River and poured it into the cave. Commander Chai Hong? Everyone was silent as the last bit of hope disappeared. Min Yulin closed his eyes, his body trembling under the starlight. His face was full of pain as he looked up at the sky and said, why me, Min Yulin? What? Father? Min Zhan looked up at Min Yulin and asked, what should we do now? We don't know what to do. Let's return to the city lord's mansion. Min Yulin said, we've run out of food. Our 25,000 people can't hold on any longer. Prepare to open the city gates tomorrow and fight to the death with the demons. Perhaps Wang Shi is right. Rather than waiting for death here, it's better to die in battle. Even killing one more armor demon is a sign of loyalty to the empire. Yes. Min Zhan, Su Ying and the hundreds of high-ranking generals left, leaving only Lin Muyu, Qin Yan and the others here. Big brother, aren't we leaving? Qin Yan asked in surprise. Lin Muyu looked at the Daojiang water in the cave, her eyes very clear. She suddenly laughed bitterly and said, Ah Yan, I've entered the homes of several fishermen before. There are many fishing nets in their homes. Take a few people to find them. Lord Qin Han, go to the temple camp and the spirit fire department and call over those who still have some strength. Have them excavate and widen this tunnel to bring in large amounts of Daojiang water. Qin Yan and Qin Han's eyes lit up at the same time. Qin Yan said with a smile, Big brother is so smart, to actually know how to beat them at their own game. It's just a stopgap measure, go do it quickly. Yes. Late at night, hundreds of people dug with all their might and quickly widened the tunnel into a pond with a radius of several hundred meters. The corpses of Chai Hong and the others gradually floated out and were buried on the spot under Lin Muyu's orders. Just as expected, the Daojiang water brought in many fish. Qin Yan's first net caught a fish that weighed at least 3 kilograms, winning the cheers of a group of soldiers. Qin Han and the others also followed suit, using nets to catch fish. Not long after, the temple camp had caught at least 100 kilograms of fish. They set up a large pot to the side, and it didn't matter even if the seasoning was used up. A pot of fragrant fish soup was quickly prepared, and everyone gathered around to share it. Actually, everyone only ate 30% full, but it was enough. At midnight, they caught another 100 kilograms of fish. Under Lin Muyu's orders, Qin Yan took these fish to Mingyulan. It was also on this night that pieces of food suddenly fell from the sky. There were wild boar legs, deer meat, and even dead wild rabbits and other prey. The soldiers in Winter Frost City cheered. "We can't eat this food." Lin Muyu looked at the sky and said with certainty, "Yin, pass down the order, no one is allowed to eat the food that fell from the sky." Qin Yan nodded, "Yes." Qin Han was confused. "Why, Grand Deacon? Why would there be prey falling from the sky out of nowhere? It must be the winged demons. They know we are starving, so they want to poison us. Don't eat it." "Yes." However, the soldiers in the city were all starving, so they didn't care if it was poisonous or not. Many of them swallowed it even though they knew it was poisonous, and they wanted to be hungry ghosts even if they died. The result did not disappoint them, and all those who ate the food died with blood flowing out of their orifices. Early in the morning, the office of the mayor's mansion was silent. "How many people were poisoned to death?" Mingyulan asked. 3,000. Zuing said. Mingyulan showed a pained expression. "The cunning demons too cunning? Men, go and cooperate with Madame Lin Muyu to widen the water source of the Rice River. Catch as many fish as possible, don't let people starve to death again." At this time, a 7C city officer wearing the insignia of captaincy cupped his fist and said, "Marquis, this subordinate has a solution." "General Shihua, please speak." Shihua's expression turned cold. "The soldiers who died not long ago, their corpses." "Shut up." Mingyulan slammed the table and stood up, angrily saying, "I, Mingyulan, would rather starve to death than eat people." Shihua was surprised and lowered his head. "Yes, Marquis is wise, just pretend this subordinate didn't say anything." Chapter 351. In the afternoon of the next day, the water source of the Rice River suddenly stopped. Finally, the demon race still discovered this secret. They had already blocked the other end of the tunnel. Everyone once again fell into a desperate situation. The loss of food caused everyone to fall into a state of near madness. At night, a cool breeze swept through the small town. Lin Muyu sat on the long stairs of the Spirit Fire Department, silently sitting there. Her stomach was empty. She did not know how long she could last. "Awu!" At this moment, the cry of the little dragon was suddenly heard. "Be good." Lin Muyu used her spirit sense to communicate with the little dragon. "Right now there is nothing for you to eat. Just stay in the different space obediently. If I die you will be free." Unexpectedly, the little dragon was still unwilling to give up. "Oh whoa." It seemed to want to say something to Lin Muyu. However, Acatosaurus was still too young. It did not know the dragon language at all. Naturally, it was even more unable to communicate with Lin Muyu. Looking around, the people of the Spirit Fire Department were all sleeping soundly from hunger. No one paid attention to this place. Lin Muyu stood up and went to the corner of the camp. With a sharp cry, her spirit sense went berserk. Poochie! A space crack was forcibly torn open in the air. Immediately, Acatosaurus's body at least 3 meters long drilled out of the space crack. It let out a cry and acted like a spoiled child. "What's wrong?" Lin Muyu asked with a smile. The little dragon slowly crawled to its master's side. Suddenly it opened its mouth. In the darkness, its mouth was actually holding a beast leg that weighed at least 100 pounds. This beast leg was wrapped in a thick layer of stone skin. However, from the wound, one could see that the inside was all red meat. After the little dragon put down the beast leg, it raised its head and let out a cry. It wagged its tail as if it was asking for credit. Lin Muyu was pleasantly surprised. She hugged Acatosaurus's head and gently stroked it. "Little guy, you have made a great contribution. What animal did this meat come from? It looks very powerful." Acatosaurus shook its head and wagged its tail to its master. In the end, Lin Muyu did not understand a single word. However, she could understand the meaning of the little dragon's confession. It roughly said that after experiencing 81 difficulties in the different space, it slaughtered gods and demons. It killed a giant beast that lived in the deep sea and left its leg for Lin Muyu to have a midnight snack. Gently patting the little dragon's head, Lin Muyu happily said, "All right, you can go hunt in the different space and then send the meat here. Can you eat less? I need this food. I need this food here. After returning to the imperial capital, I will compensate you double. I will open a chicken farm for you. How about it?" Acatosaurus actually nodded its head and agreed to this shameful deal. She quickly sent Acatosaurus back to the different space. However, Lin Muyu knew that the different space was an empty and barren domain. It would not be easy to find a living thing. Moreover, the scales on the little dragon's neck were damaged. It must have gone through a lot to kill that giant deep-sea beast. She did not know when the next time the little dragon would send food over would be, but it had to be sent. Lin Muyu did not want Qin Yen, Shen Han, and the others to starve to death in Winter Frost City. This kind of death was not suitable for them. "Ah Yen." Lin Muyu dragged the beast's leg into the camp and said, "Order Shen Han to start a fire and cook this meat for everyone." As she spoke, Lin Muyu pulled out the dragon spirit sword and cut the meat in half with a dang sound. She said, "Give half to the brothers of the temple battalion. The other half come with me to the marquee." Qin Yen was ecstatic. "Big brother, where did you get this meat? Do you remember that I tamed a dragon?" "Yes. It hunted this from another dimension. So that's how it is. That's great. Come with me to the city lord's manor to deliver the meat." "Okay." Shen Han excitedly started a fire to cook the meat. Lin Muyu dragged the beast's leg and walked shoulder to shoulder with Qin Yen to the city lord's manor. There were few lights along the way, but when they passed by Seven Seas City's camp, they saw that they were currently cooking with a fire. Steam rose from the iron pots and a faint fragrance permeated the air. Even though this fragrance smelled a little strange. "Why do they have meat?" Qin Yen said in astonishment. "I don't know." Lin Muyu strode forward and said, "Who's in charge here?" A captaincy stood up. It was Shihua. A hint of nervousness flashed across his face as he cupped his fists and said, "So it's young General Lin Muyu. It's so late, where is young General Lin going?" "What are you cooking?" Lin Muyu asked. Shihua hurriedly laughed. "Nothing much. My brothers dug up a few rats while digging, so we cooked them for a meal first." "Is that so? Let me see." Lin Muyu walked forward in a flash, raising her hand to lift the lid of the pot. Borrowing the light of the torch, she could only see a few human legs and arms currently cooking in the pot. A layer of dazzling oil floated on the surface of the water. Her entire body shuddered, and she hurriedly put down the lid. "Shihua, you eat humans?" Lin Muyu said in astonishment. "Yes, I eat humans." A hint of coldness flashed across Shihua's eyes, his palm also pressing on the hilt of his sword, saying, "I'm extremely hungry, I can eat anything. What's the point of eating humans? Lin Muyu, if you dare tell this matter to the Marquis, I won't let you off." Lin Muyu also smiled. "Ah Yen, let's go tell the Marquis." "You." Shihua suddenly rushed over, shouting in a low voice, "Then don't blame me for being impolite." Lin Muyu did not resist, directly turning around and shouting in a low voice. Do Qi revolved around her body, Xian energy condensed into a bright star in front of her, directly causing Shihua to fly backwards. The corner of his mouth curled up and he indifferently said, "You want to kill me to silence me? Why don't you know what you're worth? Are you worthy? Ah Yen, let's go." Shihua stood there in a daze. A group of 7 Seas City soldiers beside him who were dizzy from hunger all stood up one after another asking, "General, this brat is going to tell the Marquis what should we do?" "Let's eat first." Shihua's eyes were filled with coldness. "Pass down the order, let our brothers eat their fill, sharpen their swords. When the Marquis comes, it will be time for us to fight with our lives on the line. Also, let our brothers at the South City Gate prepare to receive us. Open the city gates at any time, and let the demon race enter the city. I want to see if the Marquis will deal with the demon race first or us first." "Yes, General." Inside the mayor's residence, Minulin abruptly slammed his palm on the table, causing cracks to appear on the sturdy surface, his face ashen. "Shihua, this bastard, is he really eating the corpses of the Empire soldiers?" "Absolutely, head deacon and I both saw it." Qin Yen nodded. "Bastard." Minulin's eyes turned cold. "Men, come with me, we're going to get that Shihua." The old General Su Ying cupped his hands, saying, "Marquis, absolutely not. Shihua is after all the captaincy of 7 Seas City, and Duke Lan is only lending us soldiers, but we cannot lightly touch the important generals of Seven Seas City. Wang Shi deserved his death, but if we touch Shihua now, I'm afraid we won't be able to explain it to the Empress and Duke Lan when we return to Lanyan City. Can we still return to Lanyan City? Min Yulin smiled. No need to say more, come with me to get Shihua. In any case, we won't be able to hold out for much longer. Yes. The moment they walked out of the mayor's residence, the sky flashed with lightning and thunder, and in the blink of an eye, heavy rain poured down. Before Min Yulin and the others reached the Seven Seas City camp, a soldier rushed over, rolling and crawling in the rain to Min Yulin, crying, "Marquis, something bad has happened. Shihua has rebelled, and he has led more than 5,000 men to the south of the city, saying that he wants to open the city gates and let the demons enter." It's over? Min Yulin closed his eyes in pain, letting the rain pour over him, saying, "Winterfrost City is finished, the Yanghui Legion is finished. Father, let's kill our way out of the city." Yes. Min Yulin looked at the crowd and said, "Generals, I will soon lead the Tomahawk Battalion and the Sky Cavalry to the south gate to resist the demon army. You should lead your troops and break out of the encirclement if you have the chance. It's good to leave a spark for the Yanghui Legion." Yes. Lin Muyu, Su Ying, Su Wentian, and the others received the order. Min Yulin moved with heavy steps to Lin Muyu, took out a piece of white cloth and held it in his hand, saying, "Young general, you are the foster son of the former emperor, the brother of the empress, and the grand deacon of the Holy Temple. Min Yulin knows that you will definitely return to the capital alive. When you see the empress, please give this to her and tell her, Min Yulin will repay the empire's kindness in my next life." Lin Muyu took the cloth and unfolded it. On it were 4 blood-red words, "I will not let you down." He trembled slightly and hurriedly stuffed the cloth into his Chinkuan bag. Min Yulin looked at the crowd, cupped his fists and said, "Everyone take care." The crowd bowed again, and after knowing that Min Yulin had turned around and left, they dispersed in the rain. Lin Muyu and Qin Yan went straight to the camp of the Holy Temple camp. "Big brother?" Qin Yan was a little vexed and said, "If we didn't want to expose Shihua for eating people, I'm afraid such an unforeseen event would not have happened. It's all my fault for being too rash." Lin Muyu shook his head. "Don't blame yourself. What kind of person is Shihua? He is eating the corpses of the soldiers now, and after he finishes eating the corpses, I'm afraid he will eat us. Sooner or later we will have to face each other. Now is just a little earlier, let's return to the camp first and prepare to break out after eating." Yes. After returning to the camp, Qin Han had already prepared 2 pieces of meat for Lin Muyu and Qin Yan. Each piece of meat weighed about 7 to 8 taels. Lin Muyu did not stand on ceremony, and started eating the meat in big bites. He knew that perhaps this piece of meat provided him with the energy to escape, and allowed him to live to see Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and Chu Yao again. After eating, the people of the Holy Temple camp all put on their straw rain capes, and rushed towards the south gate. In the middle of the night, the sounds of killing rang out from the south gate, and it was pitch black everywhere. The torches had already been extinguished by the rain, and in the dim light, only the sound of swords clashing could be heard. The south gate had already opened, and in the darkness Min Yulin's loud roar could be heard, "Charge out, all of you charge out, as many as you can escape counts." But suddenly in the darkness, a flame burst out. Dozens of soldiers of the empire were blasted into pieces, and in the light of the flame Lin Muyu, Qin Yan, and the rest saw a malevolent-looking demon. It was the marshal of the armor demon army, Lei Chong. Chapter 352. Roar. With a roar, Lei Chong smashed the head of a chili arch into pieces with his warhammer, causing his brains to splatter out. Lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating the surroundings. Outside the city, there were countless armor demons. Shield formation. In the crowd, Min Zhan rushed out with his sword, facing the sharp claws of the armor demons. The soldiers in the front fell down like wheat being cut, followed by a loud bang. The entire city wall finally collapsed under the rain. Immediately, the armor demons rushed into the city and attacked Min Yulin's flank. Clang. Lin Muyu drew out the Dragon Soul sword and yelled, "Break through!" Qin Yan, Qin Han, and the rest pulled out their weapons silently, following Lin Muyu as they charged over. Hum. An armor demon swung its battle axe at Lin Muyu with a ferocious look on its face. However, Lin Muyu's speed far exceeded its expectations. After dodging the armor demon's attack with the star steps, Lin Muyu's sword flashed, and the armor demon's head flew into the sky. Lin Muyu did not stop and continued to rush forward. The dragon spirit sword shone brightly, and in the blink of an eye, more than a dozen armor demons had been chopped into pieces. At this moment, Lin Muyu didn't want to challenge Lei Chong, nor did she want to attack the main force of the armor demons. Those armor demons seemed to have seen the general flag in the chaos and madly rushed towards Mingyulan. In the blink of an eye, the general flag fell down. In the crowd of armor demons, Mingyulan's saber light was still shining, but it wouldn't last long. Boom! The blunt weapon fell on the armor and a soldier of Templar camp had a big hole in his chest. He fell down without a sound. Lin Muyu gritted her teeth and rushed forward step by step in the rain, opening the way for Qin Yan, Shen Han and the others. There were more and more armor demons around, and the number of soldiers of Templar camp decreased sharply. In less than 10 minutes there were less than 10 people left. Even Shen Han was injured, one of his arms was chopped off. The sound of fighting behind them became softer and softer, as if it was covered by the heavy rain, but it seemed more like the battle was over. Indeed, the armor demons possessed boundless strength and were invulnerable to swords and spears. Their battle prowess was enough to allow them to fight 10 Imperial soldiers at once. At this time, there were at least 100,000 armor demons everywhere, while Mingyulan only had 10,000 men. How could he possibly hold them off? Her feet were covered in mud, and rays of golden gourd light lingered around Lin Muyu's body. She did not even bother to conceal the light of her god-binding chain's martial soul. Rays of golden god-binding chains lingered around the long sword, emitting a sword aura that was close to 2 meters long. It swept across time and time again, slicing the clumsy armor demon into 2 halves. Just like that, she brought Qin Yan, Shen Han, and the rest as she charged into the distance. Acatosaurus, open the way for me. With an angry roar, Acatosaurus's spiritual sense broke through the crack in space. It pounced out and bit the head of an armor demon. Then it bit its tail and the sharp red crystal scales on its back stood up. It rushed out like a thorny needle, and the armor demons in its way were quickly turned into piles of meat. The appearance of Acatosaurus shocked the demons. They had never seen such a monster before. However, it attracted the hatred of the devil race. Battle axes, spears and other weapons greeted the rolling little dragon. In less than 5 minutes, many holes had appeared on the little dragon's scales. It roared and screamed while attacking. Lin Muyu couldn't bear to see it, and immediately sent the little dragon back to the alternate space. At this moment she felt a burning pain on her left arm. She did not know when the wound had been torn open and blood was flowing out. However, she did not have the time to stop the bleeding. Furthermore, she was drifting in the heavy rain, and she did not have the time to do so. Lin Muyu could only charge forward without retreating. However, the number of people behind her was decreasing, and there were only 3 or 4 people following her. At this time, the sound of a rushing river came from ahead. It was the Inui River. The Inui River flowed outside Winterfrost City, and it was drawn on the map. Lin Muyu hurriedly said, "Go into the water, swim over." Qin Yan's eyes were still on Lin Muyu's god-binding chains, but he didn't have time to think too much. He jumped into the river and swam with Lin Muyu. Behind them, a group of armor demons stopped when they reached the water's edge. Their feet were in the shallow water and they could only roar at the river, but they didn't dare to step in again. Armor demons were afraid of water. "Shen Han, Shen Han!" Lin Muyu shouted in the darkness. Qin Yan said while paddling, "Big brother, Lord Shen Han died in battle just now." Lin Muyu was silent, paddling with all her might. At this time, a temple camp soldier appeared not far away. He also jumped into the water and shouted, "Great Deacon! I'm here." Lin Muyu activated her Do Chi, and the golden gourd shone brighter. That person hurriedly swam over, but a second later, there was a buzzing sound on the shore, and a black shadow flew over. The next moment, the temple camp soldier's head was smashed into pieces. It was the armor demon's throw. Lin Muyu's heart was cold. Qin Yan said hurriedly, "They are still waiting for us on the shore. Big brother, I will swim to the other side, or we will not be able to escape from the armor demons." "Yes." But at this time, there was the sound of an arrow leaving the bow. "Not good, it's the wing people." Lin Muyu hurriedly activated her Do Chi, and the golden gourd came out of her body, forming the walls of the gourd above her head. Ding ding dang dang sounds were heard, and the arrows kept bouncing off. The river was very wide, and the two of them swam for close to half an hour before reaching the other side. There seemed to be winged people chasing them in the air. "What do we do?" Qin Yan said loudly. Lin Muyu suddenly pressed down on his shoulder, and the two of them sprawled in the reeds by the river. Lin Muyu did not make a sound, and used the spirit pulse technique to sense the winged people's aura. After close to 10 minutes, these winged people finally flew away, and he heaved a sigh of relief. He felt as if all the do qi in his body had been sucked dry. This battle had used up at least 90% of his do qi. Don't gather any more do qi. He looked at Qin Yan and said calmly, otherwise, we will be discovered by their winged people very quickly. I think the winged people's night vision is also very limited, and it is raining heavily right now. Let's escape under the cover of the heavy rain. Ayan, can you still tell the direction? Qin Yan nodded and said, that is the west in the direction of Lanyan City. Let's go home. Yes, go home. When Qin Yan heard the word go home, he almost cried. The 19 days he was surrounded in Winter Frost City was like a nightmare that he did not want to recall. Taking advantage of the rainy night, the two of them sprinted west, and only took a short break when they were at least 50 miles away from Winter Frost City. The rain was still pouring down and Qin Yan cried, sitting in the mud and wailing loudly. Lin Muyu was silent. She tore a piece from her blood-stained battle robe and wrapped it around the wound on her arm. Qin Yan cried for a long time and finally said, Big brother, did the Marquis die in battle? Yes, he died. The Marquis was such a good person, why would he die? I don't know. Lin Muyu's mind was also in a mess. She patted Qin Yan's shoulder and said, Yan, let's go. There are demons everywhere here and they won't let this go. I don't know. I don't know what the situation in Sangnan province is like. The demons are so greedy, they won't be satisfied with just a small Winter Frost city. You mean, the demons will advance west? Qin Yan said in shock. Yes, they will attack Five Valleys City, then Lanyan City, and destroy the entire empire. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, we must make early preparations or else we will definitely suffer a crushing defeat. Alright, let's go. We don't have time to rest, we must find 2 horses as soon as possible. We will go to Five Valleys City first, then Lanyan City. Yes. The sky brightened and the rain stopped. The rising sun baptized everything on the earth with its golden splendor, as if washing away all the sins left behind from last night's battle. Lin Muyu and Qin Yan no longer looked like high-ranking military officers. Their armor was covered in mud and blood, and their battle robes were dyed red with blood. Even the rain could not wash away the red. At noon they found a village on the western border of Lingdong province. Fortunately, Lin Muyu's Cosmo sack was still there. They found some Jining coins and ate 2 large bowls of noodles in the village. Then they found the village chief and asked him to move the villagers to Sangnan province. However, the village chief refused them, thinking that these 2 were just street swindlers. In reality, this was indeed the case. 2 shabbily dressed people, who would believe that one was a great deacon of the temple and the other was a young prince. Lin Muyu did not waste her breath. There was no need to waste time on people that could not be saved. She bought 2 pretty good battle horses and galloped with Qin Yan to Sangnan province. The next day they arrived at the border of the province. There was a main road ahead, which was also the official road that connected Sangnan province to Lingdong province. The 2 of them galloped forward until noon. Some guards appeared on the road. They had set up a checkpoint here, but there were still at least 3 days of galloping horses before they reached Five Valley City. Dismount. A centurion walked forward and looked at Lin Muyu and Qin Yan with a strange expression. He asked, Who are you? Lin Muyu dismounted and pulled off the tattered cloak on her shoulder, revealing the golden leaf of the great deacon of the temple. She said, I am the great deacon of the temple, Lin Muyu. He is the son of Prince Yuning, Qin Yan. We are from Winter Frost City. The centurion rolled his eyes and suddenly laughed. He pointed at them and laughed, You 2 swindlers actually dare to deceive me. Isn't Winter Frost City at war with the Iha kingdom? If you are really from the Yanghui army, why are you here? Are you defeated soldiers? Where is the great deacon of the temple, Lin Muyu? Would the 4 heroes of Lanyan look as miserable as you? The soldiers on the side also laughed. Qin Yan frowned and said indifferently, The Yanghui army has been completely destroyed. What did you say? The centurion laughed even more wildly, Bullshit. Ming Yulin, the Marquis of Wei, has shaken the world and defeated the 70,000 main forces of the Iha kingdom. Now he is holding a celebration banquet in Winter Frost City. How dare you say that the Yanghui army has been completely destroyed? Chapter 353. Clang. The long sword was unsheathed, and the blade pressed against the neck of the centurion. Lin Muyu's gaze was calm as she said, I have no time to talk nonsense with you here. Which corps do you belong to and who is the highest commander here? The centurion was dumbstruck and said, we belong to the Tsangnan Province Governor's Office, a corps directly under the Seven Seas Province. The highest commander is the Vanguard Captaincy Zhang Meng. Take me to see him immediately. Yes. In the depths of the dense forest on the side of the official road was the barracks, garrisoned with 10,000 imperial troops. However, these troops did not seem to be able to stop the invasion of the demon race. Lin Muyu and Qin Yan urged their horses to slowly follow behind this centurion. Along the way many soldiers cast shocked gazes over. In the large tent of the vanguard, Captaincy Zhang Meng was in the middle of a discussion. A group of high-ranking officers with the rank of Chiliarch were divided into two sides. When Lin Muyu and Qin Yan walked in together, this Zhang Meng knew his stuff. His gaze glanced at the badge worn on Lin Muyu's chest, and he immediately cupped his fists and said, General Zhang Meng greets young general. Lin Muyu asked, you know me? Zhang Meng nodded. Yes, during the spring plowing festival. This general was fortunate enough to see the true appearance of young general. As he spoke, Zhang Meng looked at Lin Muyu with some astonishment, and then looked at Qin Yan saying, young general, how did you end up in such a sorry state? Weren't you celebrating in Winterfrost City? Celebrating? Lin Muyu said indifferently, the Yangwei Corps was defeated, completely annihilated. What? Completely annihilated? Zhang Meng was incredibly shocked and said, what happened? Have you heard of the demon race? No. His face was blank. In reality, before this, Lin Muyu and Qin Yan had never heard of any existence like the demon race in this world. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, a group of demons descended from the sky and surrounded Winterfrost City for 19 days. We used up all of our provisions and were completely annihilated in the end. Young Prince Qin Yan and I swam across the Rice River by a hair's breadth to survive. Zhang Meng's face was full of shock. Are those demons really that powerful? Yes. Lin Muyu nodded her head and said, the demon race can defeat a human army of 100,000 with only 10,000 armor demons, and they have more than 100,000 armor demons now, so we can't defend this place. Where's Marquis Min Yulin and General Du Hai? They've all died for the country. Zhang Meng's heart was in complete turmoil. He muttered, then what should we do? When will the demon race attack Tsangnan province? I don't know, but it should be soon. Lin Muyu walked to the commander's seat and sat down. She raised her head and said, Zhang Meng, bring me a pen and paper. Prepare a messenger bird to send to Lanyan City. I want to write a letter to Her Highness. Yes. The pen and paper were immediately prepared. Lin Muyu quickly described everything that happened in Winterfrost City in ugly handwriting. She told the capital to prepare in advance and then put the letter into the tube. With the sound of flapping wings, the news would reach Lanyan City as soon as possible, and the head of the empire would know about the demon race. It would take at least 2 days to fly to Lanyan City, but Tsangnan province couldn't wait like this. Zhang Meng. Yes, young general. What are your orders? Zhang Meng was very respectful. Although he was the captaincy of Qihai City, he had seen Lin Muyu when Qin Jin was still alive, so he naturally knew the status of this young Grand Deacon in the empire. Give me a map. The more detailed, the better. Yes. A map was laid out in front of them. Lin Muyu looked at it carefully and frowned. There are no rivers marked on this map? This? Zhang Meng nodded. Yes, but I can draw it for you. There is a tributary of the Daojiang River between Tsangnan Province and Lingdong Province. Although it isn't very wide, it is still nearly 300 meters wide. For the convenience of marching, a total of 7 bridges have been built on this tributary of the Daojiang River, allowing war horses to gallop through. Lin Muyu asked, where are we now? Here, east of the tributary of the Daojiang River. I see. Lin Muyu stood up and put away the map. Zhang Meng, are you willing to listen to my orders? Zhang Meng cupped his fist. Young General is the Empress's sworn brother and also the Grand Deacon of the Empire. This subordinate is naturally willing to listen to Young General's orders. Young General, please speak your mind. Yes. Lin Muyu softly said, now, immediately pass down the order for all of your men to break camp and head to the west of the tributary of the Daojiang River. Then send down the order for all of the imperial troops stationed at the bridges to dismantle all 7 bridges and requisition all of the fishing boats on both sides. Let the people move to the west side of the river. The east side of the river is no longer safe. Young General. Why is this tributary of the Daojiang River so important? Zhang Meng was confused. Lin Muyu lightly said, the main force of the demon race is the armor demon core. As far as I know, these armor demons are afraid of water and cannot swim at all. So this tributary of the Daojiang River may be able to stop their footsteps to the west. Do it immediately. If it is too late, perhaps the demon race will be able to swallow all of the Empire's territories. In addition, the armor demons eat humans. Do not have the intention to discuss conditions with the demon race. They do not treat us as equal creatures. Zhang Meng was frightened when he heard this. He nodded and said, yes, this general will do it now. In the afternoon, the army set off and headed directly to the west side. After crossing the iron chain bridge, they immediately cut the iron chain. Lin Muyu did not know how big Zhang Meng's military power was, but he could only do this much. On the surface of the tributary of the Daojiang River, fishing boats came and went and many commoners were also moving. Later on, Zhang Meng came back with a few pieces of used letter and said with a dignified expression, young general, 3 of the 7 bridges have been dismantled, but there are still 4 that do not dare to dismantle the bridges. At this time the relationship is very big and they must obtain the approval from the 5 Valleys governor's residence before they dare to dismantle the bridges. What should be done? Is that so? Lin Muyu clenched her teeth and said, what is the military position of the people who are guarding the bridges? Colonel rank Chili Arch. That's good. Zhang Meng, you personally bring people to dismantle the bridges. I will bear any responsibility. Prepare 2 fast horses for me. I will go to the 5 Valley city to get the approval. This matter must be done immediately, otherwise the consequences will be unimaginable. Yes, this subordinate understands. A little later they brought dry rations and left on 2 fast horses. Lin Muyu and Qin Yan were burning with anxiety. Perhaps other people did not know the pros and cons, but the 2 of them could not be more clear. As long as the demon army crossed the river, how would the Empire's flat land be able to resist Lei Chang's army of 100,000 armor demons? 2 days later, 5 Valleys City. The population of 5 Valleys City had already become very sparse. After Lin Muyu and Qin Yan entered the city, they felt the desolation of this place. It was no longer as prosperous as the 7 great cities. And at this time, the culprit behind the poisoning of nearly 2 million people in 5 Valleys City had 100,000 soldiers stationed in 5 Valleys City. When Lin Muyu arrived at the governor's residence, she saw Xiangyu. Take him down. This was the first sentence Xiangyu said when he saw Lin Muyu. All around, a group of 7C city soldiers opened their bows and pointed straight at Lin Muyu and Qin Yan. Xiangyu held the bloodthirsty spear with a face full of smiles. Xiangyu, what do you mean? What do I mean? Xiangyu raised his eyebrows and said, I heard that an army of the so-called devil race appeared in Winterfrost City and annihilated the entire Yangwei Legion. Let me ask you, are people who escaped under such circumstances not considered deserters? Impudent. The fire serpent spear in Qin Yan's hand was surrounded by flames, and it looked like he was about to attack. At this time, Xiangyu sneered, and an invisible aura pervaded the surroundings. Under the pressure of a divine domain expert, Qin Yan was actually unable to move, and the fire serpent spear in his hand couldn't move at all. Lin Muyu's gaze turned cold, and she silently circulated the 7 planets' profound energy. Suddenly, rays of starlight flickered on her body, and the prelude of the 7 planets' transformation forcefully crushed Xiangyu's domain pressure. You still dare to attack me? The long spear in Xiangyu's hand was vast and mighty with the power of primal chaos. He laughed loudly and said, I originally didn't want to kill you for Chu Huai's sake, but you forced me to make a move. After Xiangyu stepped into the divine domain, he became more and more arrogant. With a sweep of his long spear, he used the 7th form of the Primal Chaos 9 strikes, Primal Chaos Annihilation. The surrounding space seemed to solidify, and the power of Primal Chaos frantically devoured all power. Lin Muyu didn't give in either. Her right arm gently moved backward, and the power of the stellar arts in her body surged into her arm, quickly accumulating the 3rd form of the stellar arts. 5 mountains descend from the heavens. A mass of stardust energy transformed into the mountain constellation, and it blasted straight at Xiangyu's long spear. Bang! The 2 extremely powerful forces collided, and an astonishing shock wave immediately erupted. A group of archers were pushed back one after another. Xiangyu retreated several steps, and the palm holding the bloodthirsty spear was slightly numb. He felt that the power of Lin Muyu's attack was very strange. The 5 mountains descend from the heavens. Profound energy was like rock and metal, and it poured into his arms, making him unable to move as usual. Lin Muyu was also shaken back a few steps, and a burning pain came from her arm. The wound seemed to have been torn open. However, Lin Muyu's heart was more ecstatic. The third form of the stellar arts was enough to tie with Xiangyu. If she used the God-binding chain's martial soul, Xiangyu would most likely be defeated by this strike. This was enough to prove that her power was already above Xiangyu's. Even though he was a divine domain expert, he lost more than 1.5 stars in terms of heart techniques and moves. Do you want to escort me back to Lanyan City? Lin Muyu said indifferently, then call your personal guards to rush back to Lanyan City with me. However, the demonic army will enter Changnan province soon. If you, the frontline commander, can't defend it, then bring your head to see Xiaoyin. Xiangyu gritted his teeth. Originally he planned to put Lin Muyu in the prison carriage and send him back to Lanyan City, but now it seemed to be a little difficult, so he could only send people to escort him back. Thus, he raised his eyebrows and said, "My lord, 1,000 soldiers, escort Lin Muyu back to Lanyan City, and let Duke Lan deal with him." Yes. Escorted by 1,000 cavalrymen, this was a lineup that was flattering and flattering. Lin Muyu and Qin Yan smiled slightly, turned over and mounted their horses, and rushed in the direction of Lanyan City, eager to return. Chapter 354. 3 days later, Lanyan City was exceptionally quiet in the height of summer. The cool breeze swayed the willow trees outside the city, giving out rustling sounds. There was an endless stream of merchants and travelers outside the city. Lanyan City was different from the Five Valleys city. Even after the city was massacred, it was still very prosperous. In addition, a large number of people from Yunzhong province and Seven Seas province had migrated over, which made this imperial capital not lose its former prosperity. Lin Muyu and Qin Yan were already stopped when they entered the city wearing their armors. When the centurion on duty brought them to Zhang Wei was already stunned. "Darren, you are finally back." Zhang Wei jumped up and directly hugged Lin Muyu and laughed out loud. "Old Zhang had always been worried that you would be killed by the demon race." Lin Muyu hurriedly pushed him away and asked, "Lord Zhang Wei, have you received the letter that we sent back from Changnan province?" "And long received it. Let's go. We will go to Zetian Hall now. It is currently the afternoon meeting time." "Good." Even though the entourage that Xiangyu sent was filled with enmity, but as Zhang Wei was the deputy commander of the imperial army, they could not defy him and could only follow him up to the hall. Lin Muyu didn't even have time to change her blood-stained armor before she walked into the Zetian Palace Hall. There weren't many officials in the Zetian Palace Hall, but they were all important ministers who held great power. Su Muyun, Tang Lan, Xueling, Tang Lu, Tang Tian, Suyu and the others were all there. In addition, there was also the Minister of Revenue, and a large group of civil and military officials. Temple Great Deacon Lin Muyu requests an audience. The shouts of the officials were incessant. Little Prince Qin Yan requests an audience. Lord Zhang Wei requests an audience. On the emperor's throne, Qin Yin was wearing a long robe embroidered with golden purple flowers. She suddenly sat up and dark blue tassels hung down the side of her skirt. Her hand held onto the hilt of the purple sword as she looked into the distance. Suddenly she could not bear it and stepped down the king's steps. "Your Highness." Su Muyun coughed and said, "Please maintain your dignity." Qin Yin stopped in her tracks and stood a few meters away from Lin Muyu. Her starry eyes were filled with nostalgia as she looked at him. She moved her red lips and murmured, "Big brother, are you all right?" Lin Muyu took a step forward and knelt on one knee in front of Qin Yin. She said in a low voice, "Lin Muyu greets your Highness." "Xiaoyin, I'm fine. However, except for me and Ai Yan, the rest of the Yangwei Legion has been annihilated." "And get up." Lin Muyu stood up. After looking around, she discovered that the atmosphere wasn't quite right. Feng Jixing, Wei Chou, and the others were looking at her with anxiety in their eyes. As for Tang Lan, Su Muyun, Tang Lu, and the others, their eyes were filled with ridicule. "Mingyulan died in battle. Isn't that right, Grand Deacon?" Tang Lu suddenly asked with a smile. "Yes." The Marquis of Wei, Mingyulan, who commanded 50,000 elite soldiers, died in battle in Winterfrost City. Why was Grand Deacon able to return to Lanyan City unscathed? Could it be that it was really as Xiangyu's letter said? Grand Deacon fled at the last moment and abandoned the dignity of a soldier of the Empire, abandoning Mingyulan and the others? Tang Lu's eyes were filled with ruthlessness as he asked in a low voice, Lin Muyu, as the Grand Deacon of the Holy Temple, have you forgotten the dignity of a soldier of the Empire? I didn't flee at the last moment. Lin Muyu looked at him indifferently and said, Xiangyu is one of your people. There's no need to echo each other and pour dirty water on me. If I wanted to flee, I would have done so long ago. Why would I wait until Winterfrost City was breached? Is that so? A trace of pride flashed through Tang Lu's eyes as he said, I knew you would deny it. Fortunately, we still have a witness. Someone bring the witness to Zetian Palace Hall. Lin Muyu's gaze was grave and stern as he looked at Tang Lu calmly. He didn't know what the so-called witness was. Qin Yen, on the other hand, was incomparably furious as he gnashed his teeth. Qin Yin was somewhat displeased as she frowned slightly and said, Marquis of North Ridge, you clearly know that Lin Muyu is my sworn brother. Why do you have to make things difficult for him? Tang Lu cupped his fists and said respectfully, Your Highness, this general isn't trying to make things difficult for you. This is the truth. Your Highness, just watch. The truth will come to light very soon. The corner of Qin Yin's mouth rose as she said indifferently, Marquis of North Ridge, if you don't have sufficient evidence to say that Lin Muyu fled at the last moment, then don't blame me for stripping you of your noble title. Tang Lu was startled. Tang Lan, who was beside him, frowned and didn't say anything. As one of the two dukes of the empire, Tang Lan held half of the empire in his hands. It was unknown when he had started to hide behind the scenes, but all the decrees were completed by Tang Lu and Tang Tian. A few minutes later, under the protection of a group of Zetian Palace Hall's warriors, a general wearing broken armor walked into the main hall. When he arrived in front of Lin Muyu and Qin Yan, Lin Muyu almost crushed his steel teeth. Shihua. Lin Muyu? Shihua's face was full of anger as he said, You didn't expect that I would be able to fight my way out of the Winter Ridge province alive, right? You're a cowardly rat who doesn't dare to cross swords with the devil race. Do you still have the face to return to Lanyan City? As he spoke, Shihua suddenly turned around and cupped his fists toward Qin Yin, saying, Your Highness, on the 12th of August, Winterfrost City was breached by the devil race. 100,000 armored devils besieged the Yangwei Legion. The Marquis ordered us to fight to the death, but I didn't expect that Lin Muyu would lead his troops and retreat from Winterfrost City early on. He took the opportunity when we were fighting the devil race and escaped without a trace. There are even rumors that he colluded with the leader of the devil race. Your Highness, please investigate this. You're talking nonsense. Qin Yin's gaze was like a sharp sword. Big brother, you isn't that kind of person. Someone drag Shihua away and behead him. Tang Lu hurriedly said, Your Highness, General Shihua is reasonable and not talking nonsense. Shihua, why don't you take out your evidence? Shihua gnashed his teeth and looked at Lin Muyu. He took out a broken battle flag from his bosom, which had a faint Min character on it. He also untied the sword at his waist and wrapped it in the battle flag. He said, Your Highness, before Marquis Minulin died in battle, he entrusted me to pass this to Your Highness. In addition, the Marquis also asked me to pass on some words to Your Highness. Speak. Qin Yin said indifferently. Shihua said, The Marquis said that Lin Muyu recruited soldiers without authorization and was very autocratic in the army. She had long had the intention to be a disloyal subject. Moreover, the Yangwei army's rations had always been personally planned by Lin Muyu, but they were easily attacked by the armor demons of the demon race, causing their rations to be cut off. Someone must have snitched on her. On the 30th day of the 7th month, Lin Muyu brought people out of the city to pull out the poisoned arrows from the demon race and brought the plague into Winterfrost City, killing tens of thousands of the Empire's troops. On the 9th day of the 8th month, the tunnel that Commander Chai Hong was digging was also discovered by the demon race. The only people who knew about it were the few commanders and Lin Muyu. Someone must have snitched on her. The few commanders have already died in battle, and only Lin Muyu is still alive. Everything has proven that Lin Muyu colluded with the enemy and long ago colluded with the leader of the demon race. Your Highness, you can't tolerate him just because he's your sworn brother. Otherwise, Qin Yin was exasperated. He pointed at Shihua and shouted, You're slandering me. You beast. Slandering me. Qin Yin's gaze fell on Lin Muyu and she said softly, Big brother, you tell me that what he said is false. Lin Muyu's heart was filled with a myriad of emotions. It was full of bitterness, but she couldn't say it. She cupped her fists and said, Your Highness, part of what he said is true, but there's also a part that he didn't say. And big brother, you speak. Lin Muyu turned to look at Shihua and said, The day before Winterfrost City was breached, Sherhua and his subordinates dug up the corpses of the Empire soldiers who died in battle and cooked them. When the Marquis was about to condemn them, Sherhua betrayed the Empire. He led the 5,000 troops of Seven Seas City and opened the south gate of Winterfrost City with the intention of leaving. This directly led to the fall of Winterfrost City. Sherhua's body trembled and he pointed at her. You're slandering me? Lin Muyu's eyes turned cold and she shouted in a low voice, Sherhua. Winterfrost City was surrounded on all sides. You know the battle strength of tens of thousands of armored demons, and so do I. I only managed to escape with Yen by a hair's breadth. With your ability, how could you have escaped? Moreover, you have the Marquis' sword and war flag. There's only one explanation. You surrendered to the demons and agreed to be a slave. That's why they let you go back to Lanyan City and used you as a spy to breach Lanyan City. Isn't that right? Sherhua's face turned red and he said angrily, Don't you try to mislead people and frame me. Behind Sherhua, Tang Lu's face was also livid. He said, Lin Muyu, the truth is right in front of us. There's no room for you to quibble. You did run away at the last moment. Don't you admit it? Sherhua is a brave general of our Seven Seas City, and he has always been at the forefront of the army. He won't lie. I can guarantee it with my life. Then your life is too worthless, Yi Zichen said coldly. Lin Muyu sneered as she looked at Tang Lu. Suddenly she pulled out the dragon spirit sword from her waist. With a poochie sound, the sword's blade pierced through Sherhua's back, piercing his heart. Oh my god. Everyone was shocked. No one expected that Lin Muyu would suddenly kill Sherhua. Lin Muyu? Tang Lu looked at the fallen Sherhua and his face turned pale. You're crazy. You're a lunatic. You actually dare to kill someone in Zetian Palace Hall. Do you still have Her Highness in your eyes? You, big brother Yu? Qin Yin also looked at him in confusion. Clang. The dragon spirit sword suddenly pierced into the jade bricks in front of the palace hall. Lin Muyu raised her head and looked at Qin Yin, who was on the king's step, and murmured, Yin, the invasion of the devil race is imminent. Once they cross the Dao River, they will be able to sweep across the Qin Empire and destroy it. This empire will soon cease to exist. I don't want to waste a single second arguing with these sycophants. If Sherhua was really that brave, he wouldn't have been killed by me. Time will prove everything. I will accept any punishment, but we must quickly send reinforcements to Five Valleys City and Divine Shadow City, and set up defenses along the tributary of the Dao River. Otherwise, once the devil race crosses the river, it will be too late to say anything. Feng Jixing murmured, You are the devil race really that powerful? Yes. Lin Muyu lightly nodded and said, Big brother Feng, once we face the devil race we must be careful. They have at least 100,000 armor demons. The battle strength of an armor demon is equivalent to 20 elite soldiers of the Empire. What? Feng Jixing turned pale with fright. Chapter 355. Men. Tang Lan's gaze was cold as he said indifferently, Lin Muyu assaulted and killed an important official in front of the palace. He deserves the death penalty. Remove his chief deacon badge and throw him into the death cell. He will be executed tomorrow at noon. Qin Yin hurriedly said, Duke Lan, I am the emperor. I have to make the decision on this matter. Tang Lan cupped his fists and said, Your Highness, no matter how close Lin Muyu is to you and no matter what kind of person Lin Muyu is, he publicly killed someone in Zetian Palace. This is enough to prove his disloyalty. I hope Your Highness can handle this matter impartially. Don't let the officials here be bitterly disappointed. Although the empire belongs to the Qin family, it was exchanged with your lives. In an instant, Tang Lu, Tang Tian, and the other important officials all knelt down. Your Highness, please execute Lin Muyu. You guys. Qin Yin bit her red lips and looked helplessly at Su Muyun. However, Su Muyun only nodded and stood in place without saying a word. At this moment, Feng Jixing and Wei Chou knelt down together. Feng Jixing said, Your Highness, although Lin Muyu killed Sherhua, in my opinion, Sherhua is indeed a very evil person. He dared to open the gate of Winterfrost City without permission and defected to the enemy. It is not wrong for you to kill him. Please, Your Highness, pardon Yu's crime. Qin Yin knelt down and said, Cousin, big brother made great contributions in the Battle of Winterfrost City. He killed hundreds of armor demons alone. No one can compare to this kind of contribution. We can't kill a meritorious official. Oh right? The Marquis gave big brother a token before the final battle and asked him to bring it to Your Highness. Qin was delighted. Big brother Yu, what is it? Lin Muyu took out Minulin's cloth from her Chengkuan bag and handed it to Qin. Qin unfolded it and saw the words, "I will not let you down," written in blood. Tears welled up in Qin Yin's eyes as she said, "Marquis Wei, dying in Winterfrost City is such a pity." Tang Lan knelt on the ground and cupped his fists. "Your Highness, please punish Lin Muyu." Lin Muyu also knelt on one knee and said in a low voice, "I beseech Xiao Yin to immediately send reinforcements to the Daojiang branch to resist the demon army." Suddenly someone in the crowd burst into laughter. His laughter was incomparably arrogant. Everyone looked over and saw that it was a man wearing a general's robe with 3 golden hexagrams on his shoulders. He had the rank of general and his eyes were extremely cold. "Marquis of the Tranquil Sea, Yao Yuan, what are you laughing at?" Su Muyun asked calmly. Yao Yuan was still laughing heartily, and tears were about to fall from his eyes. "Duke Yun, oh Duke Yun, don't you see?" In the main hall, one of them requested to be killed, while the other requested Your Highness to send reinforcements to the border. Isn't it obvious who is a sycophant and who is a loyal subject? Yao Yuan. Tang Lan looked back with a cold gaze. "Are you saying I'm a sycophant? I wouldn't dare." Yao Yuan cupped his fists and said with a smile, "Duke Lan has saved the nation, so how could this general dare to call you a sycophant? However, does Lin Muyu have a reason to defect to the enemy? I really can't think of one." Tang Lan snorted coldly and didn't say anything else. Qin said gently, "Duke Lan, you see, there is no absolute evidence to prove that Brother Yu colluded with the enemy. Moreover, Shihua has already been killed, and Brother Yu is Imperial Father's adopted son. Is his life not worth a captaincy? Your Highness's words are not reasonable." Tang Lan said, "Not to mention the fact that Shihua is a captaincy, even if he is just an ordinary soldier, no one can easily take his life as long as he has shed blood and sweat for the empire. Although Lin Muyu is the former emperor's adopted son, he is still only an adopted son. He is not a member of the Qin family." "What did you say?" Qin Yin said angrily, "Big brother has risked his life for the empire and is also the former emperor's adopted son. What right do you have to say that he is not a member of the Qin family?" Tang Lan looked on coldly and didn't say anything. Behind her, Tang Lu laughed coldly and said, "So what if he is an adopted son? Lin Muyu has no blood connection with His Majesty, nor does he have any blood connection with Her Highness the Empress. What right do you have to say that he is a member of the Qin family? Since he is not a member of the Qin family, there is no reason to pardon any of his crimes." Qin bit her red lips. You are disobeying my edict like this. Does this count as rebellion? As long as I still stand on this throne, I am the ruler of Great Qin. Tang Lan, you are one of the 2 dukes. Why do you keep bumping into the emperor without knowing it?" Tang Lan was startled. He had never thought that Qin would speak like this. He hurriedly knelt down and all the officials in the hall knelt down as well. At this time Lin Muyu looked coldly at Tang Lan, Tang Lu and the others saying, "What are you trying to do? Do you just want to kill me? Or after I prove my bloodline will you stop bothering me? Do you know that the citizens of the empire in Lingdong province are being slaughtered by the demon race? What are you trying to do?" Anger rose continuously from the bottom of his heart. The battle chi around him revolved rapidly, forcing the people around him to retreat. A golden light broke out from the ground. It wasn't a golden gourd, but a resplendent golden god-binding chain. It floated in the air and a second god-binding chain appeared around Lin Muyu. Soon, 8 shimmering golden god-binding chains surrounded Lin Muyu, full of dignity. Battle chi surged out in all directions, making it almost impossible to open one's eyes. God-binding chain. Tang Lan's heart instantly went cold. Feng Jixing's eyes also widened. God-binding chain? How can you have God-binding chain? Su Muyun's brows furrowed. God-binding chain? That is the exclusive martial spirit of the Qin bloodline. Lin Muyu looked at everyone with a burning gaze. After a low shout, the God-binding chain martial spirit completely dissipated into his body. He said indifferently, "Do you see? Do I count as a member of the Qin clan?" He raised his hand and pulled out the dragon spirit sword. His eyes were filled with disappointment as he looked at everyone and said, "If you want to kill me, if you want to seize power, go ahead. But don't bully me too much. Otherwise don't blame me for doing something crazy. Tang Lan, Su Muyun, don't think that I don't dare to kill you. Let me tell you, don't force me anymore. Otherwise, even if you have thousands of soldiers protecting you, I will still chop off your heads as a sacrifice to those who died in vain." As he spoke, he walked out of the Zetian palace. Outside, the sky had turned dark. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. A storm was about to descend. Tang Lan and Su Muyun stood there dumbstruck. No one would have thought that Lin Muyu would say so many treasonous words. Large raindrops fell on his body like pearls. Lin Muyu walked quickly on the main road of the Zetian palace. He felt as if his heart was being torn apart by thousands of swords. He didn't understand what was wrong with the people of the world. What were they pursuing? In front of him, a short tree was swaying crazily in the wind and rain under the walls of the Zetian palace. It seemed as if it would be uprooted at any time. Lin Muyu slowly sat down under the wall and let the rain fall on his body. He hugged his legs as he sat there. Suddenly he started sobbing. He didn't know how much time had passed. The sound of the rain didn't stop, but it didn't fall on his body. "Big brother you." Qin held up the small green umbrella to shield him from the wind and rain. She slowly lowered her body and stretched out her arms to hug him. Lin Muyu raised his head as if he was startled. "Xiaoyin, it's okay, it's okay." Qin hugged him tightly. Tears flowed from her eyes as she said, "It's all my fault. It's all my fault that I'm so useless. It's all my fault that Xiaoyin can't control government affairs. It's all my fault that you've tasted all the injustice." Xiaoyin, it's okay." Lin Muyu knelt down and held Qin in his arms. He took the umbrella from her hands and saw that Qin elegant dark blue dress was dragged in the mud. The rain was too heavy. Even with an umbrella she was drenched. In the distance, palace maids and guards were standing guard. Qin probably didn't allow them to get close. They couldn't see what was happening in the rain. Qin nestled in his arms and spoke intermittently. "After you went to Lingdong, I missed you every day. I was worried that you would be in danger. I was worried that you wouldn't be able to eat well and wear warm clothes. Grandfather and Duke Lan pressured me step by step. They took away all government and military power, making me a puppet. I missed you. Ever since you left, I've been flustered. You know that Xiaoyin loves you so much." Qin Yin's soft arms wrapped around Lin Muyu's neck. Her beautiful face moved closer to him, and her red lips gently pressed against Lin Muyu's. This kiss was like a dream, at least for Lin Muyu. When Qin Yin's lips left his, a sense of loss filled his heart. Qin Yin looked at his expression and suddenly smiled. She moved closer again and kissed his lips for the second time. This time even Qin Yin blushed and felt her body heat up. It was as if she wanted to melt into Lin Muyu's body. Hearing her rapid breathing, Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. When did Xiaoyin become so proactive? Qin Yin's face turned even redder. She lightly punched his chest and said, "It's all to comfort you." Sitting in the rain with Qin Yin in his arms, Lin Muyu felt that this rain was far more wonderful than the one in Winterfrost City. There was only happiness and nostalgia in this rain, while there was only death and fear in that rain. Perhaps this was a kind of praise for his escape. Xiaoyin. The demons are really strong. Their 100,000 soldiers are enough to defeat all the armies of the empire. We must be prepared in advance. Otherwise, the other 6 provinces in North Ridge will be wiped out in a moment. I know. Qin Yin was still hugging him and smiled sweetly at him. General Feng told me to build 7 forts on the west bank of the Daojiang River, one every 50 kilometers. We'll amass a large number of soldiers to defend against the demons' invasion while also protecting each other. This way, it won't be so easy for the demons to encroach on the Empire's territory. Yes. Big Brother you understands the demons better than any of us, so I've decided to go against the majority's opinion and make Big Brother you a high-ranking general in the Empire's military system. What does Big Brother you think? Lin Muyu's gaze was firm. I won't retreat when Xiaoyin needs me. How about this? You only need to give me a military rank. As for the troops, I'll build them myself. I believe that Duke Lan and Duke Yun won't be willing to let me command their troops. Qin Yin was overjoyed. Big Brother you is the best. Right at this moment, a man slowly walked over with an umbrella in his hand. His battle robe fluttered along with the strong wind. The corner of his mouth curled up as he said with a smile, I say, the two of you, everyone is watching. Your Highness, bring Ayu back to the side hall of Zhe Heavenly Palace. Duke Yun has agreed to dispatch troops from Yunzhong province to resist the devil race. Yes, that's great. Chapter 356. Zetian Hall, Side Hall. A hand-drawn map was spread out on the table and there were a few people standing around the table. Qin Yin, Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, Su Muyun, Tang Lan and Tang Xiaoxi. Tang Xiaoxi had just rushed over from the Duke's mansion and after knowing what happened, she felt extremely distressed. Feng Jixing placed his hand on the map and said, "From the northern border of Yunzhong province to the Qinling Mountains, there is a total of 1400 li 700 li of which are insurmountable cliffs and the other 700 li are the tributaries of the Daojiang River. This river runs through the central part of the empire and is enough to stop the demon race's advance. Fortunately, you ordered the destruction of all the bridges, otherwise, the consequences would be hard to imagine." Qin Yin said, "General Feng, please continue." Feng Jixing nodded and continued, "Even though according to you the demon race is not good at swimming, but it is hard to be sure that they will not use the fishing boats on the east bank to cross the Daojiang River. So I suggest building a city on the west bank of the Daojiang River and building 7 forts. 1 fort for every 100 li and a camp for every 10 li. There must be cavalry patrolling every li to monitor the demon race's every move." Su Muyun frowned. "Are there any letters from Lingdong province and Tongtian province?" "No." Feng Jixing shook his head. "The 2 eastern provinces have completely fallen into the hands of the demon race. The imperial army there should have been completely annihilated, so there is no need to hope for any news from there." Su Muyun took a deep breath and said, "Ayu has been recruiting soldiers in Muyu City for the past 6 months. We can mobilize about 150,000 soldiers to guard the forts. Are we still lacking?" Feng Jixing replied, "Yes, each fortress has at least 30,000 to 50,000 soldiers. That's close to 300,000 soldiers. The main force of the Imperial Guards has to stay in the Imperial capital. So, Duke Lan, how many soldiers can you send?" Tang Lan was startled and said, "Xiangyu has 100,000 soldiers in Sangnan province. They can go and guard the Daojiang River." "That's good. We're still missing one. Yu's temple camp and Longdan army camp can be filled." At the side, Qin Yin said, "Grandfather Duke Lan, I plan to use Big Brother Yu again. I hope that you won't object. I believe that all of you have seen Big Brother Yu's ability to lead troops. I will promote Big Brother Yu to rank 3 Country Protector General and appoint him as the commander of the Longdan army camp. Wei Chou and Qin Yin will be the deputy commanders. Furthermore, in order to resist the invasion of the demon race, the Longdan army camp can expand its army without an upper limit." Su Muyun took a deep look at Qin Yin and said, "If Xiao Yin feels that she has the ability to mobilize the Longdan army camp, then expand the army. Grandfather will not oppose it anymore." Tang Lan bowed her head and said, "Your Highness, no army in the empire can expand without an upper limit. Otherwise the world will be in chaos. I suggest that the Longdan army camp and the temple camp should have a maximum of 50,000 soldiers." "All right, we will listen to Duke Lan's suggestion." Qin Yin nodded her head, turned around and said, "Come, announce that Lin Muyu will be promoted to Country Protector General and reappointed as the commander of the Longdan army camp. Longdan army camp will be included in the 3rd Army of the Empire and will be allowed to expand by 50,000 soldiers. In addition, summon the Navy commander, Bailey Tsang." "Yes." A few minutes later, a general walked into the side hall. He was about 40 years old and had a weather-beaten face. He cupped his fists respectfully and said, "The Navy commander, Bailey Tsang, pays his respects to the Empress." Qin Yin nodded and said, "Okay, listen to the orders from the side." "Yes." Tang Lan raised his head and glanced at Su Muyun, then at Qin Yin and Lin Muyu. "Your Highness, the demon race is invading on a large scale. Who does Your Highness intend to give the important task of defending against the demon race to?" Qin Yin smiled and said, "Who is Duke Lan going to appoint? Xiangyu is skilled in both the pen and the sword. He is loyal and decisive. I suggest Xiangyu to be the commander of the Daojiang River coast." "Xiangyu?" The corner of Qin Yin's mouth curled up as she said, "Great General Xiangyu is certainly brave, but the opponent this time is the demon race, not the Yihe kingdom. Although Xiangyu is fierce, he lacks flexibility. In my opinion, Commander Feng Jixing should take on the heavy responsibility of defending against the demon race." Tang Lan said, "Feng Jixing is still young and I'm afraid he can't be the commander of the 3 armies. I hope Your Highness can be prudent." Qin Yin pursed her red lips and said, "Then don't make him a commander. I will only appoint Feng Jixing as the highest commander of the Daojiang River coast. What does Duke Lan think?" "I will solemnly obey Your Highness' order." Tang Lan's demeanor was very respectful, but it was this respectful sentence that dissolved the next step in Qin Yin's plan, to be made a commander. There was only one marshal in the empire. Once Feng Jixing was conferred the title of marshal by the empress, he would have a supreme position in the empire. As long as he wanted to, the military power of the empire would slowly shift from the hands of Tang Lan and Su Muyun. However, Qin Yin was not disappointed. At the very least, she had managed to obtain the position of commander-in-chief of the frontline army. Feng Jiren was a cautious and resourceful person. He would definitely be more appropriate than Xiang Yu when facing the devil race. That's good. Qin Yin's pair of bright eyes looked at everyone and said, "This time, no one is to be negligent in resisting the demons. Those who disobey will be executed. Feng Jixing will be the frontline commander and will command the entire army. General Bailey Tsong, you are the commander of the navy. This time you must listen to General Feng's orders." Yes. Bailey Tsong cupped his fists and said, "The navy's 150 warships and 30,000 soldiers will listen to General Feng's orders." Good. Qin Yin nodded and said, "Appoint a commander for each of the 7 strongholds of the Daojiang River tributary. Immediately draft a list and pass it to me. Among them, Lin Muyu will lead the Longdan army camp to guard one of the strongholds. Is there any problem?" Tang Lan and Su Muyun cupped their fists together and said, "Yes." Lin Muyu also nodded respectfully and said, "Yes." Then make the preparations. Immediately transport the craftsmen and materials to Tsangnan province. 3 days later the army will set out. Whether we can defeat the demons on the Daojiang River depends on everyone. Yes, Your Highness, please rest assured. As for Feng Jixing, Qin Yin, and the others who asked about the god-binding shackles, Lin Muyu could only vaguely answer. He said that the god-binding shackles had inadvertently comprehended the god-binding shackles. Perhaps it was an accident of fate. As for the bloodline, he did not know. Not long after, the Minister of War handed the seal of the Protector of the State back to Lin Muyu. At the same time, he also put on the commander's insignia. The 3 golden stars were particularly dazzling. Qin Yin asked Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi to have dinner together in the evening. The imperial family's meals were simple, so they only had a pot of stewed meat and a few side dishes for dinner. Tang Xiaoxi looked at Lin Muyu with watery eyes and said, "Mu went to Lingdong for 2 months. This time, I don't know how long it will take to go to Tsangnan province to guard the border." Lin Muyu smiled faintly and said, "Xiaoxi, don't worry. Perhaps it will be very soon." Qin Yin's beautiful eyes were full of nostalgia as she looked at Lin Muyu. She asked softly, Do you think we will win?" "Yes." Lin Muyu said with a resolute gaze, "Although the demon race is very strong, as long as we avoid fighting on the plains and fight them in water or city defense, which the demon race is not good at, we can win." "Why is brother you so sure?" Qin Yin asked again. Lin Muyu smiled, "Because the demon race's weapons are very clumsy. Some are even bronze weapons. Compared to the Empire's blacksmithing skills, they are like 3-year-old children. This means that although the demon race is strong, they do not have advanced craftsmanship, nor do they have skilled craftsmen. From this, we can infer that the demon race does not know how to build ships or siege weapons. This is our greatest advantage, but..." He revealed a worried expression. "But what?" Qin Yin looked at him with a gloomy expression. Lin Muyu's heart sank as she said, "But not all of the demon race are as stupid as the armor demons. They're also smart ones. Otherwise, Winter Frost City would not have been broken through so easily. What I'm most worried about is that the demon race will come all the way from Winter Ridge Province and Sky-Reaching Province. They may enslave human craftsmen to build things for them. Therefore, it's better to set up the defense on the tributary of Rice River as soon as possible. We don't have much time and our advantage is not permanent." "So that's it?" Qin Yin pursed her red lips and suddenly smiled. She picked up a piece of meat for Lin Muyu and said, "Brother, you eat more." "Yes." At this time, Tang Xiaoxi looked at Lin Muyu with a gloomy expression. "Mu, I heard that after Winter Frost City ran out of food for more than 10 days, you have eaten all the edible things in the city?" "Yes." Lin Muyu nodded. "Tree bark, grass roots, rats, snakes? I've tasted almost all of these wild things in Winter Frost City." "Woo woo." The 2 beauties frowned at the same time. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. She thought that they should stay away from the war, but the most ruthless thing about war was that it didn't discriminate. When the war came, no one could avoid it. After dinner, Tang Xiaoxi promised to transfer 20,000 soldiers from the demon-suppressing pass to Lin Muyu. She also gave the Longdan army camp 5,000 high-quality warhorses. In this way, the Holy Temple camp would have 15,000 soldiers. With the addition of the 1,000 from the Longdan army camp and the people Tang Xiaoxi gave, they would have 36,000 soldiers. Guarding a fortress should not be a problem. When night fell, Tang Xiaoxi came to the holy temple with a white warhorse. "Princess, she is here." Guiyang greeted with a smile. "Needless to say, you must be here to see the Grand Deacon, right?" "Yes, Brother Guiyang, where is Mu?" "In the inner hall, I'll bring you there." "All right." Under the flickering candlelight, Lin Muyu was discussing with Wei Chou, Qin Yan, and the others about the details of the deployment. When she raised her head, she saw Tang Xiaoxi coming in with a warhorse. She couldn't help but smile. "Xiaoxi, why are you here so late at night? Are you here to have supper with me?" "Girls shouldn't eat too much supper, it will make them fat." Tang Xiaoxi pouted and smiled. "But I'm here to give you a precious horse. Look, what do you think of this horse?" Lin Muyu looked over. This horse seemed to be in the form of a small horse. It was slightly immature, but it was very strong. Its entire body was covered with pure white fur, but there was a circle of black fur above its 4 hooves. It looked very beautiful. "This horse is called Treading Snow." Tang Xiaoxi smiled and said, "Guess who is her father?" "It can't be Brother Feng, right?" Lin Muyu said with a smile. Tang Xiaoxi also sniggered. "General Feng can't give birth to such a good breed. Her father is Jedi, the fast horse that died in battle. Actually, before Jedi died in battle, my Shueli was already pregnant and gave birth to this Treading Snow. Its name was named by Xiaoyin, so this Treading Snow is equivalent to a gift from me and Xiaoyin to you. Do you like it?" "I like it." Lin Muyu stretched out her hand and caressed the warhorse's head. Suddenly there was a connection. Everything in the world was so magical, but this Treading Snow seemed to be able to sense that Lin Muyu was once her father's master and immediately became happy. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.